Hello, good evening, and welcome to the 2025 Riley's Red Zone NFL Draft Extravaganza. For longtime viewers of the channel, I know we've got a couple that might be tuning in. It's been since 2022 that Riley's Red Zone has done a live stream of the NFL Draft. But here we are, 2025, and I'm not by myself. We have my co-host Cody, as well as we're going to have a lot of other guests during the program. We've got guests in person you're going to see in the background. We got cornhole back there they might set up. We've got big boards in the house. We've got analysis of graphics. We're also going to have some guests on Zoom as well later based on some specific teams. It's going to be a great time here in the house, and so we are going to have a fun evening breaking down the NFL draft. We're about at the 8 o'clock hour, but as usual, the draft does not start directly at 8. The Titans will be on the clock, but that will give us some time here to break down what's going to happen tonight. There are no trades yet so far on this thing, and Cody and I put together some mock drafts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shocking draft. It's the first time ever we've had no trades before the night of. Everyone's saying it's going to be a crazy night full of madness. Who knows? It may just be chalk, and it may be exactly what everyone's predicted. But it seems like it's trending in the direction that there's going to be some chaos tonight.
No doubt about it. I think it will be interesting. As I said, we're going to have guests in the house this evening. That will be fun. But let's Cody, let's break down our mock drafts and what we got so far. So we're going to take a live step over to the big board. What do you have happening early on, Cody?
Yeah. So early on to me isn't where we're super interesting. I think early on is kind of obvious, right? I think that early on is exactly what you're expecting, right? You're going to get Cam Ward at 1, Travis Hunter 2, Abdul Carter 3. I think Will Campbell's maybe the most obvious here. I mean, Cam Ward, of course, is surefire number 1. But New England, they needed an offensive lineman, and Will Campbell seems like the guy that they're going to go. I think that there's also been some discussion of them potentially going with Membu. I have him all the way down at 25. I just don't know that he fits anywhere else as far as position needs goes. He's a beast. He's an animal. But you also have Kelvin Banks. What do you think about this offensive tackle situation?
I think it's an interesting one because if you're looking for a pure tackle, I think Banks could be off the board. But with the Jets, I really like Membu there because they need a right tackle. Membu's going to play that right side of the line, but Banks is there. I think what's also intriguing, you talk about Campbell, I think he is the guy for the Patriots. But does he eventually slide into guard? Can he be a tackle in the NFL? That's going to be the big question long term, but that's certainly an interesting start to your draft there.
Yeah, I think another split we've kind of seen in a lot of the mock drafts is the tight ends. Tyler Warren, where does he go? And does potentially Colson Loveland hop him? I think we've seen a lot of the experts saying that there's a potential for that. But Warren's just so much of a utility, and he does so much outside of just playing a pure tight end. Like, you think of Travis Kelce, he's kind of that guy that's going to make a catch, be the solid type of guy. Tyler Warren isn't really that. He's going to be a playmaker at the tight end position.
You're going to design your offense around Tyler Warren, as in the real NFL draft. We got somebody on a bicycle going around. This is going to be ridiculous. Roger Goodell's on a bicycle, everybody. Holy cow. That is crazy to not expect. He did say they were, quote, cooking something up. This is absolute madness.
People to be on bikes.
Yeah, what? But the thing with this tight end room is you're looking at Indianapolis at 14, right? They're the team that badly just needs a tight end, period. But if you're Chicago, if you're even the Jets, and you just need an offensive weapon, even though you maybe don't need a tight end badly, they might take Warren because he's such a force. So that's going to be something to watch.
And they say you win football in the trenches. I think that's what this draft in particular shows. Yeah. Shout out to our guy Pierce McKnight helping us behind the camera.
Yeah, we're going to get his opinion on the Panthers, especially tonight. He's our resident expert Panthers guy for this as well.
They drafted 8, and I have them going Jalen Walker at number 8. I think they would be happy if they were able to get Jalen Walker at number 8.
Yeah, I've seen that mocked a lot. He is, as they call, a hybrid linebacker edge guy. They just need some dudes back there. And, we'll see where they go with that direction. But as we get into these teams, I think, to me, another position that's going to be of watch note is the edge rushers. Because you've got Michael Williams from Georgia. You look at Shamar Stewart, a lot of physical traits there from Texas A&M. You've got Pierce Jr. all the way up at 17 for Cincinnati. The question with him is character concerns, but pure player, he's a top 17 guy for sure.
Yeah, I would go as far to say he might even be a top 10 guy in this draft as far as pure talent goes. Mm-hmm. But there's off-the-field concerns that The question is, where does he fall because of that?
Right. I've got him sliding all the way to 32 with Philadelphia, which is a common draft because here's the thing. With Philadelphia, they're going to take the best available last pick, and they do it year after year. They just get the steal, whether it was Cooper DeJean last year, prior to that, they just keep getting lucky with that. But yeah, that edge position is going to be something to watch.
Yeah, and I think it's something Nick Saban touched on in the pre-show that we watched, Riley, was that where do you go as far as talent versus character? So you look at Pierce Jr., maybe not the best character guy, but he's got a whole heck of a lot of talent, and it's been a little bit since the off-the-field issues occurred. So how high do you go up with Pierce Jr.? I think is going to be a big question of the night. And another guy that we're going to have to keep our eye on is
I was going to go
Sanders.
there with that. You've got him at 21 to the Steelers. We've been talking about it. When did this all of a sudden slide just occur in the media? We don't really know. It went from he's going to New York, he's going up there before the Jets figured out the quarterback situation. Like, they're going top 10. The question with Shedeur is it's sounding, according to some reports, which how true are they? We don't know. New Orleans is looking at 9. They'd have the option if they want him, but if they pass on him there, you're exactly right. Where does he go? Pittsburgh's a very likely option, but what I have happening is maybe not going to happen either. I've got him slipping by there, and the Browns jumping back into the first round to go get him. But here's the thing. If you're a team and he gets past 21, do you even trade up into the first round, or could he just fall to the second round by that point?
I think the only reason you trade up into the first round is if you really like him. You wait, though, until after Pittsburgh drafts, because you know they're almost for sure going to take him at 33 if he's still available, I would think, right? Because Cleveland's in need of a quarterback. Their quarterback situation's terrible. But I think that Cleveland will take him at 33 if Shedeur is available. The only question is if anyone's trying to trade up. And that, I think, is the only reason Cleveland potentially trades up, is if they're in fear that someone else is going to try to jump them.
And briefly, let's keep it at that quarterback spot. Neither of us, when we put this together last night, have Jackson Dart going in the first round. But today, the steam is going up as much as teams trading up in the top 20 to go get Jackson Dart as the second quarterback off the board in front of Sanders.
And we talked about it. We both only have 2 quarterbacks on our draft board, but we kind of agree that it's probably only going to be 1 or 3 quarterbacks taken tonight. That's our general consensus. I know this doesn't reflect it, but I just have a hard time seeing. I think either they're super conservative and we only see Cam Ward at 1, or teams kind of go quarterback crazy tonight.
Yeah, well, with that, that's a little bit of a breakdown. The Titans are officially on the clock, so let's rotate back to our usual spot that we're going to go to and flip to our webcam throughout the night. Appreciate, once again, our guy, Pierce, running it. We're going to get his thoughts throughout the evening, but
Pierce, you want to join us for a quick second for some pregame thoughts here? Come in the middle.
We got you. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of guests on throughout the night, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, what are you looking forward to with this draft in 2025?
Well, honestly, I want to see where Dart goes. I mean, you got all right. Well, I think I've seen I'm not the betting expert. Robbie's gonna come later. He's gonna be that guy.
He's our guy on that department.
But the odds right now is -200 for Jackson Dart to be the second QB to get off the board. I didn't know about the James Pierce Jr. guy and how his character was bad, because before the college football season, we were ranked. Well, the Panthers were ranked like 3rd to get the pick, and he was gonna be up there. So for y'all to have him dropping out of the top 15, top 20. That's fascinating. I mean, that's a guy that has the skills for it. The characters must be a big thing.
He was projected to be like the #1 pick going into this prior college season when people scouted it. So he's a huge talent.
I mean, and at the very least, you expect him to have Abdul Carter level talent on the field. But I mean, he had, if I'm not mistaken, 7 sacks this year, 10 sacks the prior season. I mean, he's a great talent and has shown at the college level, but I think there's a big chance he drops. And what do you think about your Carolina Panthers at 8?
Honestly, I like what y'all got. I mean, the edge would be a lot better than a defensive tackle. We already signed Derek Brown for an extension coming out of Auburn. I don't want 2 defensive tackles and no edge rushers when we lost a lot of linebackers to begin with too. So why are we worrying about a defensive tackle in a lot of the mock drafts I recently have seen? So you might see Crash Out Pierce at the 8th pick. We'll see it for sure. But going back on the Pierce Jr., maybe we have to look into colleges and the character they're building
Yeah,
there, because you got Tennessee, where you see Nico leave, and then now you got here in James Pierce Jr. That's two guys.
Yeah.
That's really bad character. That's really questionable. Do you go with Tennessee? You think of Tennessee. They're a cocky people. They're very full of themselves. So is that really how their football team translates too?
Yeah.
Is that what we gotta look out for potential teams drafting Tennessee players?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I mean, you see Nico Iamaleava. It seemed like there was a lot of issues when he was transferring out of there. He certainly didn't leave in the most gracious of manners. Yeah. So I think it is interesting to ask that question. Is there an issue over at Tennessee? But a year in, year out, they're always a top 15 team, and they're very well in that middle of the pack, upper echelon in the SEC, but they're not in that Georgia, Alabama range yet.
Yeah, that's what Tennessee is. Let's go pro Tennessee. The Titans are on the clock. They've already nearly gone through half their time, even though they've had 4 months to know what they're doing. We know what we expect here, in that we think it's going to be Cam Ward from Miami, quarterback. But this Titans team, they keep Callahan as the coach after his struggle season, but can he develop on the offensive side? And when we look at what they did this offseason, they bring in 2 big linemen up front with Moore Jr. and Zeitler. Just last night, they signed Tyler Lockett. I like that addition because they needed receivers badly. They lose Harold Landry. He debatably lost a step, but that's a big piece on the edge. And otherwise, not really much gone. And, if you went 3-14, you kind of want to reset. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, the Tennessee Titans haven't been relevant since Derrick Henry's on the team, and they
Fair
decided to ship him off. So, I mean, the fan I know of the Tennessee Titans is Taylor Lewan. He's only loyal because he got drafted by him, and they brought him back after he was out of the league for a few years. So Tennessee's got to get this pick right. They're already making phone calls. They already have known their guy for a long time. But we got to look at 2 and 3 soon. That's going to be a big thing. But we know Cam Ward is going at number 1. But to have
they're
Tyler
showing
Lockett,
highlights really quick, at 5 minutes left on the clock. They're showing Cam Ward highlights.
I should show Virginia Tech highlights of us getting stomped. So, but yeah, Cam Ward's going to be the guy. I think Tyler Lockett is such a good piece. Because if you look at, the Panthers, Bryce Young, I mean, having Adam Thielen, he would be probably cut from the Panthers if it wasn't for Adam Thielen. Because, one of those secure possession catch type of guys, that really helps a QB, develop, and that makes him confident because he's got a guy that's willing to put his body on the line to catch the football, and that's exactly what Tyler Lockett does. He's not too flashy. He doesn't care about the chains and the drip like all these other guys. He wants to catch the football, and he's going to get his yards, and he's going to win football games because you throw it to him down the stretch, and he's going to be open, and he's going to get 2 feet down in bounds, and he'll stop the clock by sliding out of bounds.
Yeah. I actually think that's a perfect transition to touch just real briefly before Cam Ward is likely selected. Well, here it is. Their pick is in.
But the graphics, once again, are all Cam Ward. They're showing him in the war room right now. Or in the green room, I bet. The war room is where the teams go to battle to get these picks right. But we all assume it is. So my question really quick here is can Tennessee be competitive year 1 with Cam Ward?
Absolutely not.
I lean that direction.
They need so many more pieces.
They do.
My question is, what are we going to do if Cam Ward doesn't get picked at 1?
That would be
Could you
a
imagine?
Shador Sanders, number 1 here.
But yeah, what do y'all think about year 1?
Personally, I think that the Titans, they have a lot to fix, particularly defensively. I think they've fixed a lot on the offensive side, as you see in the key additions right there. But I think particularly the biggest piece is the offensive line. That's something they really needed to shore up before going and taking a rookie quarterback. That was big. But I think they might just struggle too much defensively. I think that'll be the problem.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit for them, and the surrounding core is just not there yet for Tennessee. They need more, and they're going to have an opportunity in this draft to really flip things. I think it was a fine decision to stick with Callahan, despite the slow start and what has been his tenure there. But I think that they're going to need a little bit of time before they really fix it for sure.
Yeah, and I know everyone in Tennessee is hyped up for this pick. Cam Ward's an interesting one because it's weird to see how quickly and just in the offseason, wasn't like any particular game or in-season thing separated him from Shador Sanders. It was, I guess, a character thing, whatever it may be in the offseason that they loved.
We got the pick here. Let's see what they go with. The selection. It is Cameron Ward, and so as we take a look who's just picked, we got Cam Ward from Miami ready to go, and we all expected it pretty much for the most part here.
Yeah, I mean, it was the obvious pick. What are your thoughts?
For sure. I mean, we talked on character. Do we think that character is a little too confident in himself? Like, to come in as a rookie, you got to be extra confident, but when does it become too far? You look at Shador, he might be a little too confident in himself, and it might lead to him posting on social media, which he very much is involved in. Will that lower the morale of the team? Cam Ward, he's in a little bit of a mix. He's very confident in himself, but I don't know if he's able to take it to social media. Yeah. You also need a ambitious person, which I think he very much is.
Okay, we got a trade alert at number 2.
Oh,
the Browns
goodness.
have just traded to Jacksonville to get up to the second pick. We knew there were rumors of this today. Holy cow, we got to change who's on the clock,
Folks,
everybody.
I just want to tell you now, I'm indeed a Cleveland Browns
Oh,
fan,
my
sadly.
goodness.
This
changes
it's a
the
brutal
whole-
place to be. But
Wow.
So where did they go down to?
5.
What's
they
the
go to
official?
5.
So they went
yeah.
to 5.
So we got to change this graphic
Oh
up.
my goodness.
What did
So
they
then-
get? Do we know yet?
I don't know. Do you have it, Ken?
Yeah, I have
Okay,
it.
we got
All
Pierce,
right.
Pierce on the scene.
The Browns are trading the number 2 overall pick and a 4th round pick, which is 104, and a 6th round pick, which is 200, to the Jaguars. The Jaguars received the 5th overall. It's trading the 5th overall pick, a 2nd round pick, which is 36, and a 4th round pick, which is 126. I think there's one more. I do not have it up at the moment,
Okay.
but a lot of picks. 3 for each at least.
Wow.
So I like the strategy of banking picks for the Browns. I think it's something they should have probably done early. I personally was in the camp of trading Myles Garrett in the offseason because this year isn't going to be a winning. They aren't going to. I don't think the Browns this year are quite ready to do enough, particularly at the quarterback position. But it is what it is. I like going and getting extra picks. And now Jacksonville's on the clock. I would guess they're still going to go with Hunter at 2.
Yeah.
Next year's, or the 2026 pick, the 1st round pick of the Jaguars will be going to Cleveland.
For 2026.
2026. So the Browns received the 5th overall pick, a 2nd round pick,
Yeah.
a 4th round pick,
Oh.
and then next year's 1st round pick.
And
to
we
the
didn't
Browns.
give up anything extra than what you read earlier.
Y'all gave up the 2nd overall pick, a 4th round pick, and a 6th round pick, all from this season.
Oh, I'll
An
take
extra
that trade all day.
Wait, Alexa, we got.
That's
they
kind of
got
a
an
fleecing.
They got an extra 1st to move up. They
And
traded
a second. We
Dude,
trade a
this-
first, 4th,
I'm
and
just saying,
6th.
in his first, this is the Jaguars GM first draft. It's looking like draft day that we just watched last night.
The Jaguars
Gladstone
GM
doesn't know what to do. But I get moving up for Hunter. He's a special player. But what's got me
I'm
there...
going to go record this pick over
Yeah,
here.
what he's gonna go put it up on the board, which you can briefly see in the back there for us. But what is this? This is a plot twist and a half. We knew the draft. There was nothing leading up. We're already getting excitement here. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we assume this is Travis Hunter. Now, I actually think with this roster, they're gonna probably have him go 2 ways with that, and he obviously wants to. But wow, an extra 1st to move up that 3 spots.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Hunter's gonna be great in this system. I mean, the Jackson State wide receiver goes to Jacksonville now, and if I'm not mistaken, Christian Kirk is gone and no longer on the Jaguars squad, which means there's not really a wide receiver. I don't think Ingram is on the team either. So
Yeah,
they're
he's
missing
gone.
a lot of pieces.
They're gone. Yeah, let's talk about that offseason. They lost a lot up front. They lost both Mitch Morse to retirement as well as Brandon Scherf is just out there as a free agent. I cannot believe this extra 1st round pick from the Browns. This is an incredible move. And what I think is a sneaky flexibility for the Browns here, now they have number 33 and number 36. They could move up if they wanted to again later in this 1st round.
And what's crazy as well as that, if you look, just take that 1st round pick out to anyway. I mean, the Browns got a 2nd and a 4th, and then the Jaguars got a 4th and a 6th. So even then they won the Browns
pick battle
today
Oh my goodness.
or this weekend.
Right, you could have told me without that 1st round pick and thought that was the trade. Logically, personally, I think you could have done that. But all of a sudden, they add in another 1st round pick. This is From a boring on shock page, this has now turned into an absolute extravaganza.
I mean, immediately it's wild. I think what's very interesting is who do the Browns end up taking now? Do they stay
That's
at
the
5?
real question.
I have no clue who the Browns really need.
We got our guest Sam and
Shout out,
Foreman
Sam.
in the back. The least subtle entrance of all time. We're gonna have guests throughout the evening.
I think what's most interesting is who do the Browns take at 5? Because you were thinking that they were just going to take the best available in Travis Hunter. I wonder who they go at 5 because I would think they would maybe go an offensive lineman. They struggled there last season, but they're going to be after New England now, who will have the 4 pick and will likely go with Will Campbell. So I think it's intriguing to see where the Browns are at 4. Jaguars will likely take Travis Hunter here. Their pick is in. They're celebrating.
Yeah, which of note, my buddy Nick, who is watching the stream at the moment, or has been tonight, commented Travis Hunter at 2. He does have let's just say he's pretty confident that he's wagered a little bit that he can indeed see Travis Hunter at 2. He needs that to happen.
Are we going to get his appearance later today?
He's expected to later today join on Zoom, so hopefully we get that. This is electric of what's going on right here. We think it's going to be Travis Hunter. The pick is in. I think, like you said, Cody, what do the Browns do is the real question. Honestly, do they trade back again at that point?
I mean, Pierce, you got to think that this makes so much sense for Jacksonville, right? Because they needed a cornerback and they needed a receiver, and they kind of double up here.
For sure. I mean, I wasn't sure where exactly Jacksonville was going to go with this pick, but I think the Browns want it overall. Whoever they get, I mean, they get 2 players in 1, technically, but the Browns, they got an entire second round. They're picking, I think, 2 of the first 5 picks in the second round, plus the 5th overall pick today. So is it, now do they have more draft capital to maybe pick someone else at 5 and then trade back in for Shador early in or late in the first round, trade those second round picks? Yeah. They have more draft capital now, but like you said, you like having draft picks as a Browns fan. You want to draft as much as you can instead of making crazy trades like y'all did for Deshaun Watson.
Especially after being dry for the last 2 years, right? I mean, you have no first rounders the last 2 seasons for the Browns, and finally it seems like they're trying to go in the right direction. It just seems like a no-brainer to me to get an extra first-rounder and then improve on your other picks as well.
I want to hear that draft call. Because if I were Andrew Berry and Gladstone just goes up and says, we're going to give you the 2026 first, you are saying, done deal, hanging up the phone. Because that is insane. We're about to see it as Eric Armstead is about to make the selection. I think we got an idea of who it should be here, but wow, we knew all day. There's been some rumors that the Jaguars wanted Travis Hunter, but here they might actually make it happen, which is ridiculous. I mean, they were going to be the tricky pick at 5 to me of who were they going to go with. Now that goes to Cleveland, and Cleveland could trade back again if they really wanted, I think, almost at this point. So, wow, this is a long lead.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about Jacksonville, Riley, is at 5, they were almost for sure in a position to take Mason Graham. That seemed like the no-brainer there, and maybe potentially a different D tackle. But it's interesting that they trade up and go get their guy.
And we're about to find out officially who this guy is for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The selection is Travis Hunter. He's taken as the 2-way guy from Colorado. A no-brainer, as we said, at this point in the draft. He's a unicorn that we've never seen before in the league with a 2-way potential. He is getting down with it in the room with a pink suit, by the way. You got to shout out his style, I guess. Yeah.
Gotta love it. I mean, this is great for him. I don't know if exactly Jacksonville was the spot he would like to go. Him being such a big in social media, I mean, I don't know if you want to go to the coach that is known for Duval. Like, I don't know if that's exactly what you want to do. I know the Browns have a curse on them, if you will, but like I might as well rather the Browns over the Jaguars, in my opinion.
So, quick shout out, he just slapped the Jaguars thing. My biggest thing with this trade too, Are the Jaguars going to be competitive this year? I know I said that with the Titans, but you're talking about if you're Cleveland, this could be another top 10 pick next year.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. You got a new head coach coming in. Yes, Travis Hunter's a dog, but you got to turn a lot around there in Jacksonville to be a super competitive team. And he's got the swagger, he's got the confidence, but one man can only do so much on the team.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I don't see them going very far. I mean, if you remember when their new head coach did finally be appointed the head coach, he wasn't able to bring anybody over from the Buccaneers. They kind of locked it down where he couldn't bring nobody. I think he was the second to last coach to be hired, head coach to be hired, besides the Saints, who were one. I just don't know how many coaching pieces they have enough for Travis Hunter. Like, he might be the smartest mind on the coaching staff and the field. Like, it might be a sad situation for Jacksonville. And now you might be in a former, like, Panthers and Browns. We know this well. Like, you trade away the top picks and then draft or trade up into the draft, and it's gonna curse you.
Yeah. I mean, for Cleveland, most recently, of course, the Deshaun Watson trade, it wasn't going up in the draft, but it was trading for a quarterback who they thought was going to be the guy, and clearly hasn't been the guy. So you put a lot on yourselves when you try to go get the star, and you want to get your guy, but you want to make it make sense, right, Pierce?
For sure. And then, like, as a Panthers fan, we drafted up. I got you. We drafted up for Bryce Young. Drafted up for Bryce Young, and he didn't become, like, our guy until, like, the last 6 games of the season. So it took a lot for him to develop. And I don't think Travis Hunter could be as impactful. Like, if you look at the Panthers' history, Christian McCaffrey came in and made an impact immediately. Being a wide receiver and a cornerback, you have to be thrown the ball to, which they do have a. Was he a Heisman Trophy winner? Trevor Lawrence? I can't remember. He was in the contention for it.
He's number 1 pick, though. That's where we're getting to, is you're putting a lot. This is Trevor Lawrence make or break, because he kind of struggled a little bit last year. He's underperformed as a number 1 overall pick so far a little bit.
And this will be his best target he's had in his entire career.
Without
and
a
so
doubt.
really it's up to this. Like, if he doesn't make anything happen with Travis Hunter, he will probably be gone.
I mean, here's the thing. This is a team. They have dudes. That's, like, offensively, they've got guys. You mentioned they're a little weak now at wide receiver and tight end. But, I mean, you got a star backfield with Lawrence and Etienne. But you got to make it work. And I think that they're going to struggle on the defensive end. And I don't think that taking Hunter here helps them as much, because they really need some help on the D-line.
Well, let's go to the Giants. Their pick is already in. Wow, this goes faster with 3 people compared to previous with 1 person trying to yap for 10 minutes. I will say that from prior experience. But the pick's already in for the Giants. The Giants are just kind of a wild card. They need a quarterback bad, but are they going to take it at 3? Probably not. They could trade up again later. I think if you're the Giants here, you take the best available, which it feels like there's a tier gap in this class after Hunter and then Carter from Penn State. But if we look at what they did in this offseason, they bolstered their secondary, bringing in Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland to really secure that side. But then Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston double dipping, if you will, at quarterback, 2 veteran options, and that might be their room going into the year. Like, how would you feel about that right now if your room was Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston?
It's a motivational group for sure.
Those pregame
The
pep
morale
talks,
is going to be high until the game starts, and then one bad forced fumble sack, and then it's about over for the Giants. They got to go defense here. I mean, they already have a stud of a defensive player on their, I believe it's D at the edge, that can also play linebacker. I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but they got to go defense again here. I don't see them going quarterback. I do see like a Jackson Dart later, and maybe in the second round if he falls that far. If they have the opportunity, they go for it. But I don't see any other option besides maybe they shotgun and get an offensive lineman. But they got to go Carter here from Penn State.
And, well, they got your guy, former Panther Brian Burns, but then Kayvon Thibodeau has kind of been a little lackluster at times. He's had a lot of potential. This is a potential kind of maybe get your 3 rotation going, as well as just kind of maybe give a confidence boost or maybe just a motivation to him. And it is Abdul Carter, as I will get the graphic up here, as he was just picked. That's what we expected. They get a big boost in the edge room.
So far the picks have been obvious, but I think the big shocker is that Jacksonville trade to go up and get Travis Hunter. But this was the guy here at 3, right? Was Abdul Carter. He was an absolute beast all season. He had a great year with Penn State, unanimous All-American this past season. You knew that he was going to be the guy coming into tonight at number 3. The order so far is kind of obvious. It's what we predicted. It's that trade that kind of throws a wrench in everything. And I expect that Will Campbell will, in fact, be taken at 4 unless New England trades out, which could be a potential because if they go down to 7 and there's some value that they think that they can get in a trade like that, they could realistically go down to 7 because Will Campbell will probably still be there. I would anticipate for that.
I like that idea, and you like that idea too for picks wise. I mean, if you think about the Giants, they were talking about trade talks. There was heavy trade talks. There wasn't any trades until today, but they were a team that was looking for dealing this pick. Now, was that maybe for potentially Travis Hunter was still on the clock? Right. Was that what they were shipping for? Yeah. Like that way they didn't have to make the decision. Like if this Carter went to the Browns to pair him up with Myles Garrett, is that when they shipped the pick? That would be a good question to ask, and maybe we'll find out after tonight exactly what they were trying to trade and what were the conditions that they were looking for this pick.
Yeah, this pick right here feels like the last potential chalk that everyone's expected. As we're projecting Will Campbell, but as we break down the Patriots going in with the Abdul Carter pick just going in for the Giants, they add Milton Williams on the defensive side from the Eagles. One of the biggest free agent signings. He actually, if I remember correct, almost signed with another team and then decided to flip to New England. And then they bring in Stephon Diggs, maybe past his prime, but definitely a good boost for Drake May. They also have Carlton Davis they send in from Detroit. They, as we noticed, didn't lose much for these not high up in the draft teams.
Yeah, I think it's something that interesting also to touch on is the money with these D linemen now, Riley, right? Mm-hmm. I think that Cleveland was sort of the first in a way. I mean, a number of other teams signed big deals, but like Myles Garrett getting that massive deal with the Browns, I think is only going to propel the value of edge rushers even more.
Well, and to me, it flipped a few years ago. Actually, Pierce has got some interesting news.
So we do have an update on what the Jaguars expect to do with Travis Hunter. He's expected to play both sides. They will be on board with giving him heavy doses of the wide receiver position while still playing him at his natural position on defense. Then, in the Twitter thread, they asked for Jaguars fans to grade the pick. They all love the pick, but the trade itself was questionable. So that's the downside of what the Jaguars fans are thinking of trading up for Travis Hunter at 2.
Yeah, I mean, based on that tweet though, it sounds like they're gonna mainly have him at wide receiver, which is interesting because I think it makes sense for the position they're in, but also you would expect that. I mean, in the NFL, I would say at this point that cornerback is a more valued position generally, in my opinion. I mean, in terms of money, maybe not, but you think about, it feels like there's so many more replaceable guys at wide receiver, if you will, but cornerback, it's hard to get a real dog, and I'm a little surprised that they would lean towards making him mainly a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch. You'd pair him up with Brian Thomas Jr. as a really solid option offensively. When we talk about the Patriots here, they need line. Ashton Jeanty could be a really shock pick here with Vrabel back in New England. That is big for their culture. After they tried a year, Gerard Mayo, they cut him loose after just one season. They get the culture shift back in. It feels like kind of a go back to the old way type of Patriots, if that sounds right.
Yeah, and they're not doing it with like Patricia or their old offensive coordinator. Like they got it from a player, so he knows that dog mentality. It's not like, oh, let's implement this in another organization. Yep. We're doing it in the Patriots way at the Patriots, and that's probably going to benefit them quite well because Vrabel, he has some head coaching experience, couldn't get the pieces at Tennessee, did make a good run, went into the playoffs, I believe made it to the AFC Championship, so he's got the tools to be able to get there. He just needs a GM and some experience at the GM spot to get the potential players. And I think that being at the Patriots is a lot better market team than Tennessee. So I do expect a good next few years for the Patriots once they start to come back into it. And one thing to note, they know they have their guy at quarterback. They're going Drake May because they already got Milton out of the city. They traded him. He was potentially being a little bit of a competitor for the starting role.
Yes.
So they shipped him away. They got their guy, and there's no way we're going QB here to the Patriots. And that's one fact we do know with this pick.
How do you feel about that Melton trade? Or getting rid of Melton? I mean, it's interesting to see, but it makes sense if they're really betting on Drake May.
It's a little early, I expect. I feel like you leave it one more year and see exactly what goes because, I mean, the Panthers, our Temper is the owner, and he's crazy. He probably would have traded Bryce Young after the first game he's played if he could have, but he decided to wait it through, and now he's thinking, that's our guy. So, to be patient, I mean, it's good for the Patriots to know who their guy is, but they could have been a little bit patient to have a good backup QB who showed some talent in the later games for the Patriots.
I also think they maybe could have got better value if they timed it a little bit more appropriately. I actually really like that swing for Dallas. They tried the same with Trey Lance a number of years ago. Maybe it didn't work out, but he didn't really get a shot. They stick with Cooper Rush for a while there. I think I like that for Dallas to just get a high upside. You're exactly right where Milton played well in that game that he did have at the end of the season, really boosted his stock. And when you look at it, they only improved like one round on how much they received in return. And honestly, I don't love you removing competition. I know that you need to put faith in your guy, but that should, iron sharpens iron is the mentality to me that should be used there. And so you obviously, as you said, quarterback not getting taken here. You know Jake May's the guy, but you always want to be rubbing shoulders with people that are good at your craft as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess they're just saying he's 100% the guy, but if he gets injured, wouldn't it be helpful to still have Joe Milton on step that if he ends up balling out, you can promote him to the number one guy. I just think it makes sense to go more that direction. But I think that Vrabel is a great hire, a guy that fits in with New England. Those fans are rabid, and I think they're going to love Vrabel and what they've got. And I think that the playing in the trenches football is what benefits them, and that's why I think Will Campbell's the most obvious pick here.
Yeah, and this commercial break, I have a feeling, is going to delay this pick, but then really make the next few fast because the clock continues to roll even though the content that we're seeing on here. And we're going, for the most part, live when we're seeing it on the television, who that pick is. You said it, Will Campbell. So let's dive in on him a little bit, if he is the guy. From what we have seen being talked about, I think the question with him is, the Patriots have a big
You want
need.
a pro on this one?
No.
Is,
Did not do my will.
he's
Did not prep for him.
He
No.
did not do the prep for Will Campbell. As Will Campbell is an offensive tackle. They need a left tackle bad. They've got Vidarian Lowe out there. But is long-term Will Campbell a guard? Can he play tackle at this level? That's the question, as Mr. Goodell.
Here it is.
That looks like a Will Campbell in the chat room. A strong Louisiana man, well, at least from LSU. That's what just went down. We'll get this up on the.
I mean, I think it's a great picture comment.
Let me talk about the drip. I don't know his game, but he sure does have drip for an offensive lineman. We go all green suit and the white pinstripes. Oh my goodness.
With a pocket square, too.
Oh, the pocket square is like, I think it's gray or silver.
Like he's at the
Looks
Masters
great.
a little
He
bit.
does look like he's got a Masters theme to his suit.
Oh, this is some aura right here, too. He's pointing at his own name. Wow.
I mean, absolute dog. If you talk about mentality, I think that's going to be great in the Patriots locker room.
That's a
Looks like
Vrabel guy.
That is a Vrabel guy, and he's a player's coach. So I think they're going to work great together. But yeah, let's go back to the suit real quick. They had the gray buttons on it. Usually you go solid color with the rest of the suit, what the buttons are. He said, no, let me show out even more besides the pinstripe suit. And let's make it gray buttons. I love the drip, and that's all I got to say about Will.
Let me talk a couple technical things about Will Campbell. What he's great with is the fact that Will Campbell, he's not the biggest guy out there. He's 6'6", 310 if I'm not mistaken. But what he's great with is he's super technical. His pass pro is amazing. It's out of this world. And then in the run block is very athletic. Is a great puller from the tackle position. So he's the type of guy that Mike Vrabel is going to love. He's about as technical as they get as an offensive lineman, which I think at this point is what you want. He's got the size, of course, but a lot of these teams, they're just emphasizing pure size. I think Campbell's great because he's incredibly technical and he's got the size to go with it. Let me go update our draft board.
Yeah, we will eventually get a camera view of the draft board going on back there throughout, but the picks are going so fast. And with that, let's talk about who's on the clock here. Cody's Cleveland Browns with 7 minutes and change to go on this pick. The question, I think, is do you keep the pick? Because now, for the last 3 months, Travis Hunter practically has been the guy. And you look at, they have a lot of needs to fill. I don't think quarterback's the move here. Do they maybe turn to the O-line, get one of those tackles perhaps at this spot? Do they maybe get a Tet McMillan to pair with Jerry Jeudy is practically all else they have? Cody from the back there is a non-Tet McMillan guy. The pick is in, so they have kept the pick.
Oh, it's in?
This is of note. Do you go best available Ashton Genty here even?
Hey, crash out, Cody. Do we take Graham here? Do you take Graham like you thought on the draft board?
I don't think they go Graham. But they do. They could actually use a D tackle that they lost. But I really have no clue. I thought they were going to trade the pick. To me, I don't think there's a lot of dudes that make sense at 5 for the Browns. But I think Graham is the only. I think he's really the only answer here. I actually retake back my statement because we could see Ashton Genty. I didn't even think about
that's
that.
what I'm saying.
We could see Ashton Genty here. I think that would make sense.
So then you trade away Chubb?
Well, he's not even there anymore. Believe it or
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, he's not?
Yeah, breaking news. I know, he's
He's a
out
free
there,
agent?
dude.
Yeah.
They've got Jerome Ford and then Pierre Strong in the
goodness.
backfield. That's where they could use some.
Plus, he's still free agent, right?
That's insane.
Nick
Injuries.
Chubb,
Injuries was his problem, but that's not a good thing for the Browns
you
organization.
think Cleveland Browns? You think Nick Chubb over the last half?
I say that's a slap in the face to Nick Chubb. I think that might. If I'm a player looking at a free agency, if I see them do Nick Chubb like that, at least sign him and maybe try to ship him off or something. But that's crazy to me. I think that's a little bit of a disrespectful to a guy who's poured his heart and soul. Besides all the injuries, he did his best.
Yeah, I agree. I love Nick Chubb. I think all Browns fans do. He's a guy that plays for the team, plays with heart. I think the only problem is it's a money issue for Cleveland. I think that's the biggest problem that you run into is you paid Deshaun Watson so much money that you kind of handcuffed yourself a little bit. So you can't re-sign guys like Nick Chubb, and you already gave Myles Garrett as well a massive deal. So you just hurt yourself in that respect.
I think one of the biggest mistakes teams have made over the last number of years, it wasn't just the Browns. The Broncos did it with Russell Wilson. The Raiders just did it with Geno Smith this offseason, is you trade for a guy, and yes, if you're trading that much, that means you got a lot of trust that the guy's going to play well, but they're extending him before he even plays a down in this league. I mean, that is a bold, I should say, for that team, not in the league period, but there's a lot of money moves, as Cody mentioned there, that, it kind of limits your self-cap-wise.
Let's also talk about the Panthers trading for Sam Darnold for 3 top picks.
Yeah, right. That's what happened there.
It's just not the smartest move, and it's a very unknown. I mean, you look at Chubb. Also, the market was not – no one knows the market for Nick Chubb. With all the injuries, it's kind of hard to pay him and then try to trade him, as Roger Goodell is up.
Cody's going to be
announcing
capped
the
in
pick.
here.
Cody is locked in.
Mason Graham is the guy. Let's get that set up there. Wow. What are your we need the Browns fans' instant thoughts on Mason Graham going to Cleveland?
I thought it made sense. I thought the only potential 2 guys were Ashton Genty and Mason Graham. You trade down in the draft. He's a dog. He's got great technical skills, good size as well. I'm happy with him. His hand fighting inside is one of the best. I mean, he's not the most athletic guy up front, but he's a great power rusher at D tackle. It seems like we have some news.
There's no official news, but Carolina is fielding calls for trading the number 8 pick, which I am for. Trade the pick. Do not go for any rookie. Let's get some picks built up. We're still recovering from the Bryce Young trade. We need to trade the 8th overall pick. Back to the Browns.
Okay. I mean, that kind of finished what I thought, but Mason Graham's a beast. I think he's a guy that fits in well with the Cleveland culture. You know, we like a hard worker. We like guys to get it done. And Mason Graham's that type of dude. He's a gritty type of player. We love this type of guy.
Now, as an Ohio State person, you've seen him for a couple of years now to eat up on those Buckeyes.
Yeah, exactly. I have. That's the thing. That's what makes me love this pick I'm not in particular an Ohio State fan, but my brother went there, so it's like you watch the game every year. This kid's an absolute dog up front, in unrelenting. I'm happy that it's not just Myles Garrett up front. You give him some help. And it seems like that's kind of what we needed last year, right, Riley? Because the Browns had, like, technically speaking, good defense on the back half, at least as far as names go. But they just didn't seem to put it together. And I think part of that was missing on the front end.
Yeah, that's what they could use. I mean, even, for example, midway through the year, trade Zadarius Smith to Detroit. You just start losing that depth up front. And so that is something for sure that they could use. And just giving more guys that the offensive line has to pay attention to besides Myles Garrett is certainly a help, as Mr. Cody's going to update our big board back there. That, as said, at some point when we do have time, we'll maybe give a update breakdown. But as we kind of continue on in this draft, now we're at 6 with the Raiders, I believe, are going to be on the clock here. And this is when it's open.
Quick question. Do we know where Smith went? Because that was an interesting move by Detroit, because they bring him in for half a season and now he's gone.
He's out there. He's just a free agent. And reports, because I literally was looking the other day, I'm like, what are they doing? Apparently, a reunion is not even very likely. So you're exactly right. Detroit put some chips out there on the table to go get their guy, and it feels like it's not a long-term move, which is a tough situation because we'll get to Detroit later in the night, but early they lost a lot. Yeah. Of what you specifically talk coaching-wise, there's a lot gone. Now, who gained in the coaching department? Las Vegas. Let's talk about the Raiders with Pete Carroll coming back. They bring in John Spytek from the Buccaneers to be in there in the front office. How much does Tom Brady have say in what's going on here? Now, I'll tell you this. Right now, if it were me, I'd put a lot on the table that Ashton Genty's available, and I think they're going to take him here.
Yeah, and then, you look at Carroll, I mean, he had a guy named Marshawn Lynch as his running back before.
Pretty good.
It's a little bit of a difference. He's a little bit undersized compared to Marshawn, but he doesn't also have the powerhouse that Marshawn have. But when talking about ability, his agility and ability to do anything on the football field is absolutely insane, no matter the size. And he can truck and push through anybody, especially if the offensive line gets up behind him and pushes them. I'm sure Max Crosby would go on the offense to do a tush push with Ashton Genty. I think it would be a great pick for them. It would be a nice running back. They haven't had a good running back since Josh Jacobs, who, I mean, I love Josh Jacobs. I picked him in the fantasy when he was a rookie, and he went absolutely off for me, and I've been a fan of him ever since. But they've not had a guy like Josh Jacobs in his first few seasons after slowing down a little bit before he got traded. Genty would be a great pick here for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Marshawn Lynch is actually a great comp that you make, because Genty, he packs the power and he's very speedy as well and has great moves in between the tackles and impossible to take down. I mean, we've seen endless clips of him breaking 8 tackles. Riley, you want to announce it?
Yeah, we just saw it right there. Ashton Genty, as I will get the graphic going up here. That is the move I think saw. They've been lightly hinting at it over this last short while, but I think it makes a lot of sense. You talked about a comparison to Marshawn Lynch. Maybe the best pure runner of the football we've seen at the college level since Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, absolute dog. And let's talk about a little bit of a drip. Nice and classy right here. I think it's a...
Now, he does have Crocs. Oh, no, he switched out of them.
Oh.
Wow.
Honestly, if y'all knew me in high school, I wore Crocs every single day. So if he wore the Crocs to the draft and go hug Roger Goodell, he would be my favorite player in the NFL. But, yeah, I mean, he's one of the most dominant college football players at the running back position since Saquon, and before that, maybe Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And he can literally do it all. He is a little undersized, but his strength makes up for it. I mean, you look at Boise State. He tried his best against, Penn State?
Yeah.
But the offensive line just had to shove him. Like, that's all he could do because he couldn't break free. And that was another thing. When you game plan against Boise State, especially late in the year. Obviously, Oregon didn't do too much of it because it was the second game when they played them. But all you got to do is just put everybody in the box. You know where the ball's going. So it's kind of like, do we really know the peak of Ashton Genty?
Yeah.
Now that we have a variety of where the ball is going to go, especially now that they have a quarterback, Geno Smith, who can throw the ball. It's not going to be like one of those quarterbacks where they don't trust him, like Drew Brees late in his career, where you got to hand it off because he doesn't have the arm power like he did beforehand.
What are your guys' thoughts on that Geno signing?
I think it's an interesting move. They go and get somebody. Without a doubt, Geno Smith to the Raiders, if anyone has not been tapped in. They traded for him and gave him an extension as well right off the bat, which I was talking about earlier. I think it's a fine move. He still has a lot of good football left. I think the Raiders are in a spot where they know they're not going to compete right away, so he's a solid bridge guy in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the reason that it works so well is because he is going to his former head coach, Pete Carroll. They did just show Emmitt Smith as a good comparison for Genty. But back to Geno Smith, I mean, he'll be a great guy for them. They need a little bit of a depth from the wide receiver position besides Brock Bowers at tight end, even though he's a little bit more agility than your normal tight end. But this is a great start. But it's very young. And then you got a veteran quarterback. That might be an issue later on. But I think Genty and Bowers, they've already shown that they can make a big impact early. Obviously, Genty hasn't yet, but I expect it very early.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just got to some of the comments. Who will the Commanders take? I'm not sure yet, but I think if there's a good edge guy available, I know Cody had Eziraku, it looks like, from Boston College going there. I had them trading out of the first round because the top edge guy, if they're willing to take the character risk on Pierce Jr., he'd be a steal at that point in the draft. But I think they've been pretty adamant on having a strong culture. As Pierce mentioned, Emmitt Smith comparison is really strong for Genty. Let's go give some love to our guy Cody back there on the big board. Let's switch to the live view, as I just killed the switcher for those at home. But let's see what he's writing. Oh, no, you've been doing stickers. Oh, he's going pick first. I like this, actually. So to recap for those at home, we had Cam Ward from Miami going first. Then we had Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter.
Yeah, so welcome into my office. This is, I think, the biggest shock of the night thus far is, of course, the trade between Cleveland and Jacksonville. My big board so far is perfect in terms of the people that have been drafted. I didn't have the trade, of course, but I don't think anyone did. Actually, no mock drafts that I saw beforehand, I don't think, had this trade between Cleveland and Jacksonville. Even though it was rumored that Jacksonville really wanted Travis Hunter, it kind of seemed unrealistic. It seemed like that was just the obvious one for the Browns. But they trade down, they get Mason Graham, and I think the big thing for them in the future going forward is that they will have that number 1 pick. Let's switch you back to our main setup.
Wow, that is some electric stuff from Cody right there on the switcheroo. And with that, Ashton Genty just being picked, on paper, that should have us at who? The Jets? As our next selection. As Cody said, I'm the same. We didn't have the trade, but for pure player for player, the mock draft is currently basically chalk, if you will.
Yeah, we both nailed it so far. Each perfect to this point.
Yeah, this is where I think we could see a split in the road. This is a wild card. Let's talk the Jets, because this is a team worth talking about. Gone are the days of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. They also lose DJ Reed in the secondary, which was a big loss at corner. They're going with Justin Fields on a 2-year deal. Yeah. Could he be the guy, or is he a Band-Aid?
I mean, I'm still hopeful in Justin Fields. Like, I don't think he's done yet. I think he showed flashes of greatness in Pittsburgh. I think you got to give him some time, you know. I believe that he'll end up being like a Baker Mayfield type guy. Middle of the road. He's not going to wow you particularly, but I think he will end up being a viable starting quarterback in the NFL. This draft really interests me. It seems like Pierce might have some news, so I'm awaiting him. But the Jets are very interesting because I think they might go O-line, but the question is who?
I don't have any word on that. Sorry
what?
about that. Kind of gave me a big pitch. Didn't have enough. Gave me a full stack. We were all in, but it didn't work out. But minutes after drafting rusher Abdul Carter, Giants GM did extend and picked up the 5th-year contract of Kayvon Thibodeau.
Oh,
So they went
wow.
all in on their young guys. Now, does that bring up Brian Burns? I mean, he was traded from Carolina. Didn't do too much, in my opinion, of how good he was in Carolina in his early years. Do you get rid of him? Like, I don't know. His value's not as good. I mean, they kind of did steal from the Panthers the value of Brian Burns, but his value right now, I feel like, is a 3rd, 4th round pick, if that.
Yeah, I think that goes to a trend I was going to bring up earlier with D-line and edge, as well as the quarterbacks. There's this trend in the league, it seems, of late to be copycats. And when we look at the Eagles, what they set up a number of years ago, having a really strong defensive line and edge rush room to where you can get new, fresh legs in on every other down, that feels like something a lot of teams are trying to adapt to, and that's maybe a reason they go that direction.
Yeah, I think everyone's trying to copy what Philadelphia has done, which is like stay fresh, keep fresh guys on the field. But it's so hard to get a team that's as stacked as Philly is, right? I mean, it only works because everyone's like equal, right, Riley?
Yeah, you have to just have a lot of depth. And the thing is, once you start stacking, what they do well is they don't stop drafting, even though they don't have a need there, but they just take a best available guy. And we're going to see what the Jets do with this pick. Who are we?
This one's interesting to me because I had Kelvin Banks Jr., your guy was Membu here,
and
right?
I think the wild card is Tyler Warren. Let's see who it is at the 7th pick. This could shake things up. They're going Membu, so I do start 7 for 7 on the players. Right? The reason that I went with Membu over Banks, and I think that they go as well, is he's a right tackle. There's a gaping hole at right tackle in the Jets' offensive line, losing Morgan Moses, which, whole nother subject, I would not have given Morgan Moses a 3-year deal. He was like an a Pro Bowl level 10 years ago for Washington, but that's besides the point. The Jets have Carter Warren, who they picked in the 4th round of 2023 at right tackle. That's a weakness spot, but otherwise they've started to shore up this offensive line. That's the last missing piece, if you will. I really like this as a strong physical guy that just showed him absolutely pancaking a guy to oblivion on ESPN, as he's just a great right tackle, and he may be the better player between Banks, just pound for pound, but they needed that specific position.
Here's the only thing I question on Membu from a technical side is his athleticism. Yeah. You know, he's a great power guy. I mean, gets out there on the edge, and you better watch out if you're in the secondary. But I question his ability to be a great pass blocker in the NFL because of how athletic these dudes are on the outside. And we have Pierce shaking his head because the pick is in
the Panthers are up. Do you know what already happened?
No, I don't know what already happened. I just know that the Panthers did decide to pick, and
you're disappointed.
I'm very disappointed. If we do go edge here, I will be a little bit in a better morale, but I was hoping to trade. I'm kind of glad we didn't get Mason Graham like we were projected to in some mock drafts. I wasn't sold on him, especially just in our system specifically. I think he is going to be a great guy, but the system is like,
And
I don't know
you guys already
that.
double dipped in the free agent pool, bringing in D lineman. You bring in Wharton from Kansas City and Bobby Brown from the Rams. I also, just looking at this, you guys didn't lose a lot this offseason, really. With Xavier Woods has been there for a little bit. Sanders was fading in the depth chart, and then we were reaching, Cody and I, and putting these together on who's that third guy they lost.
Yeah, and I think we did lose Shaq Thompson, or I think we decided to not pick him back up.
Yeah.
I think he might be a free agent, but like you look at Luvu. We had him just before last season, and now he's in Washington. He's one of the top guys besides Bobby Wagner. So, like, linebacker is exactly what they need, and we don't have an edge anymore because we traded away Burns. We will not get the pick until after the commercial break. But I did not get to talk about the Jets real quick. We got to talk about the developing story of how they did away Aaron Rodgers. He talked on the Pat McAfee show. It was a little bit questionable.
Yes,
they had him fly out. They didn't pay for him to fly out. He had to pay out of his own pocket for a 15-minute conversation. And it wasn't even a conversation. It was just them telling him that he's out the door.
Yeah, that's like a long distance relationship saying we got to figure this out. This could have been a text. That's what a lot of people were saying. This could have been an email with that conversation. I do think you do have to have that connection in the war room, and that's just brutal. But I think you have to bring him in person to break that news. But the fact that they did it in 15 minutes is quite shocking.
Yeah, and it was a short-term relationship.
Yeah, it was.
Some people have long-distance relationships. Some last longer than others. But, like, when you think about it, if it was a short time, I mean, I guess a text isn't bad or a phone call. But, like, if you're a few years deep, I mean, you might as well just make the call all the way down. But the Jets only had him for 2 seasons, so I guess that is short-term in terms of football terms. That is a short amount of time. So they could have just sent a text.
Yeah,
They could have just sent a
the
text. or a
real
phone
world
call.
analogies were bound to make its way into this draft extravaganza at some point. We're trying to capture, if you're at home somewhere and you haven't been somewhere in a while with some buds, just enjoying the NFL draft, we want to bring that to your living room. And so the Jets, as you said, just kind of a hard breakup, if you will, with Aaron Rodgers. And so the Panthers, so you wanted them to trade out, but here they have the pick.
Yes.
Who would you go
Yeah,
with
who do
now
you
that we
ideally
know they've
want?
I
picked?
genuinely don't know. I
You
mean,
think Walker's the best guy?
I guess so. I guess that is the best option is Walker. I will be screening my Twitter and see if I can hope to see that they have a questionable trade later on and they just fold the graphics guy at ESPN. But I've not seen anything so far. The Jets head coach Aaron Glenn did have a 45-minute FaceTime call with their guy from Missouri that they just picked up. So it seems like they were set on him from the start, and Cody, you were pretty wrong on that Texas Longhorns pick.
Well,
So
here's the thing. I think Kelvin Banks is the more like safe option, if you
Sure.
will, Riley.
Yeah, for sure.
But Membu he has higher upside, probably I would say. I'd love to get your thoughts. So why'd you want Carolina to trade this pick? You just think there's no value here?
it's just too much question. I don't think there's anybody left right now that we need that can be our guy. We got our quarterback, I think. At least for this season, we have our quarterback. So it's really like, what do we do here? We got Adam Thielen still on. We're hoping Leggett does set up to be a little bit better next year. He was solid as a rookie, but he's only going to develop from here on. So you look at defense, it's either we pick up an edge or a linebacker, being Jalon Walker, who actually is listed as a linebacker here, but I think he could do a little bit of both. He could be a great hybrid guy like Brian Burns was. So Jalon Walker, sorry about that mispronunciation, but he would be a great Panther if we were to go there. I don't see him going Will Johnson.
Now, I just want to say, for ESPN, Mel Kiper did have Shedeur Sanders as the 5th overall player, and I have a hard feeling that he's going to be on the left side of their graphic.
And he didn't have Cam Ward in his top 5 best available.
Well, now, this is a whole nother subject, too, because
Yes,
best available is
versus
different
who you
than
should
who it
take.
goes. Yeah. Well, the pick's in. Here you go, Pierce. This is the future of the Carolina Panthers. Going
Hot
on
take, we're taking Tyler Warren right here. Let's see if we can shock
I think
somebody.
Chet McMillan could be a sleeper pick here. Here we go, Roger Goodell. I'm going to play it on here, too. Wow. How do you feel about this? Teteroa McMillan. Yeah, Cody's got a whole paper ready on this one.
Okay. He's one of those fast guys, right?
He's a
He
jump
was
ball
super-
physical. Yeah, he's
Okay.
he's a number 1 guy.
All right. So I kind of like that. I have heard of him a little bit. Didn't go too deep into the tape. I did hear one take that he is a little too flashy for some people's likings, which I'm not going to love if that's kind of how our wide receiver room is. We got a veteran, Thielen, and we got Leggett. I mean, 2 guys who are not very boastful of themselves. I'm hoping this guy doesn't do that. But a lob threat, a deep threat guy would be perfect because Leggett, he can get those, but he's more of a hybrid between like route running, getting open, and jump ball. So if he is a jump ball type of guy, that is the last piece that the Panthers need in their wide receiver room. Now, I'm hoping that the entire rest of the draft goes for either offensive line or straight defense because Chuba Hubbard's the running back for sure. Quarterback's locked down. Wide receivers locked down. We don't really have too great of tight ends. It's a decent room, but not great. But, yeah, I think defense got to be the goal now.
Yeah, I personally liked receiver as a sneaky need, like first-round pick for the Panthers because you got Adam Thielen's aging, but there you mentioned Xavier Legette has potential. Jalen Coker was okay at times last season. It hurts my dynasty team. I may be dropping him now as I get new rookie players. He's probably on the way out. But I like this pick for Carolina. It feels like once again, kind of pushing the chips in with Bryce Young to support your young quarterback.
And that's what they got to do. They got to support him. But it's always scary not picking a player that was in a dominant conference. Like Arizona, they did have good competition that they played, but it's not top tier. Like you don't look at it as like SEC competition or Big Ten competition. Like you look at Graham, him going from Michigan helps him a lot. So like then you look at an Arizona type pick, it's like do we like that? Are we confident they will be dominant in the NFL along as college?
Now, let's talk about the Saints if we're ready to swing over.
I'd like to give one thought on McMillan.
Oh, yeah, he's got a paper. My bad. He's got Tedero McMillan.
I think you make a great point about guys in some of these smaller conferences. Of course, the Pac-12, rather the Big 12. The Big 12, perennially a great conference, but it doesn't have the same talent as you mentioned Mason Graham in the Big Ten. He faced dudes that are going to get drafted later tonight, most likely, against Ohio State, against some of these other great teams in the Big Ten. Not necessarily the case for Tedero McMillan. He has great upside, but I think this is more a guy in Tedero McMillan that I would take later in the first round. I just think Matthew Golden's a little more of a sure thing. I know Tedero McMillan's getting mocked as the number one receiver, and I get it. He's a flashy guy. He's a fun guy to watch. He's going to make the big plays. But I just think that Matthew Golden is the more sure thing.
Well, we are a quarter of the way through the draft. We appreciate you taking the time on this Thursday evening. I've got myself, we got Cody, we got Pierce. Other guests are apparently minutes away from potentially joining us in person here.
I'll tell you, this thing feels like it's been flying by so far. I know we're an hour in, but I can't believe
we don't even have to go to the big board graphics at this point. I mean, I haven't even know. We had a ticker ready, folks, for who was all picked. We're talking about who's on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, this has been felt fast and furious. I don't know if it really necessarily is, but it's felt pretty quick thus far. New Orleans is an interesting situation.
Yeah, let's go to them. This is where we land on New Orleans. They bring in Kellen Moore to be their coach. Fine move. I'm not wowed by it, but here's the bigger thing. Without Derek Carr, their quarterback situation is not there. They got Spencer Rattler probably getting the reps, or Jake Hayner out there at quarterback. And the thing with them, do you have the self-awareness, right? I don't think New Orleans, I'm just going to say it, is going to be real good next year if they don't have Derek Carr. I don't think so. And so the question is, like, can they somehow have a magical run? Maybe. To me, you don't go Shador here and give him a bad situation on top of, because we already know there could be some risks. I'd go best player available and just go in Madden, sim the next season, and get ready for the draft again, potentially.
The Saints haven't drafted a quarterback since Archie Manning. Could you imagine
in the first round?
In the first round.
What if
Could
next
you
year?
imagine
Yeah, exactly.
Archie Manning, the son?
I think the Saints are going to need a lot of luck and a lot of it out of their control when you have your quarterback injured like that. They lose Paulson Adebo, a key piece of their secondary there, and they bring in Brandon Cooks, a nice reunion. He got picked 11 years ago. I mean, Kellen Moore's got potential, but I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this team.
I mean, I really like your point, Riley. We talked about this last night about it just doesn't feel like the Saints are in a position right now to take a quarterback. Like, just wait for your guy. It feels like, hey, draft the grandson of Archie Manning. Take Arch potentially next year. He may be the number one pick. Who knows? But I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't think they should take a QB here. That's just my opinion.
Well, we're about to find out. Kelvin Banks Jr., I really like this pick, actually, for New Orleans, because that just feels like let's keep building our team to have more surrounding core for that future quarterback. And obviously you were a big fan of him too.
Yeah, and they needed an O lineman, but he's also, in my opinion, the best guy available still left. I mean, Kelvin Banks Jr. is about as technical as they get. He does all the right things. He might not wow you. He's not going to have necessarily the big plays like Membu, the stuff that pops off the page, but he does everything right, and that's what I love about Kelvin Banks Jr.
What would have been fun for the Panthers is if they did get Jalon Walker and then go hit Kevin Banks off the side and then go destroy Derek Carr in the backfield. Unfortunately, it couldn't happen, but, you know, it's going to be okay because the Panthers, they're on the bright side of this rivalry. Cam Jordan hates the Panthers. He hated Cam Newton when he was on the squad. They always got beef. So the Panthers did win one of the matchups the upcoming season, but I think the Panthers are the 8 and 9 slot. I think the Panthers might have won their picks. I don't know what y'all think. I'm a little biased, but what do y'all think?
Yeah,
Who won the 8 and 9 pick?
I personally, I like both. I think it's about a wash for me, honestly, because I really like the Panthers pick of McMillan. I don't hate this pick either. They did just take Fuaga, but then they're losing. I think Ramczyk is gone now on the offensive line for New Orleans. And so I think both are pretty even. I think the upside is higher with McMillan because I think he could legit be a difference maker for Carolina over these next few years. This is a safe pick to me for Texas, from Texas, Kelvin Banks, for the Saints here, which is fine.
And one thing they got to do is they got to use their picks because, their cap room is probably, I think it's
finally
it
caught
might
up
be the
to
worst.
Him. It's finally caught up to him.
It's caught up to him. It's probably one of the worst in the NFL. So they got to either trade guys for picks or they have to use picks. So this is a good situation for the Saints. I'm going to be honest. They are on the back half of their dynasty, especially since Drew Brees has been gone.
Yeah.
So I think it is a good ultimate pickup for the Saints. They got to start building the line now before they get the quarterback, in my opinion. It's always best to have a good line before you get a QB. Like, look at the Bears, who's up with the clock, and they're about to make a pick right now. They got the quarterback before the offensive line, and then now they got the offensive line for
they
Caleb Williams.
tripled down in free agency in the trade as they got Jonah Jackson, Drew Dalman, and as well they go out and get Joe Tooney from Kansas City.
One final thought on New Orleans. You have to admit you're in a bad place to move forward, and I think that's exactly what they're doing.
Well done.
I really like the pick there. Moving on to Chicago. I think that they're in a very interesting spot here. I don't know who they really are going to go with. I think this is an interesting split that we've seen in a lot of the mock drafts. We've seen a lot Tyler Warren here, but it's also not necessarily a team need for them. Do they go for a D lineman here? I just don't know where Chicago's looking.
Right, this could feel like a Warren. Who you got?
It feels great to not see the Panthers' first-round pick go to Chicago. So this is the first time they've done that in like 2 seasons. So that's a good sign. But now they're doing a little bit of a schedule release. It's every game is revealed from on May 14th. Oh, they just announced it.
Yeah, but we still got a ways to go
just
on that.
announcing when
They're gonna release the schedule out here. That is some.
And this is taking like 5 minutes.
Yeah, this might be the longest segment of the entire draft. A little bit questionable of what they're doing here, as long as the drip from the lady in the red. Man, next year I'm gonna have to do an Adam Schefter camera and drip camera.
We're gonna step it up. We still got a couple years potentially in the area here to get this worked out.
Soon enough, we're gonna be broadcasting live at the draft.
Dude, that'd be
Riley's
awesome.
Red Zone to whatever city. I don't know who has it next year. We take a trip.
We're going to Minnesota.
Yeah, we're going to Minnesota. That would be electric if they hosted it.
What do you think about the location of Green Bay? It's super interesting because it's basically just a town, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting location for the draft because it doesn't have all the infrastructure of a big city.
Well, all these fans are hating this pick no matter who it is, even if it's a great option. Y'all missed it while y'all were talking about the big boards earlier, but a lot of the former Packers came onto the stage. Clay Matthews, he looked at, I think it was maybe a draft board. He opened it up and said, Chicago sucks. So
wow.
The tension's there. The rivalry's there. I think that's always fun at a draft. And here comes the pick.
Here's the pick from Mr. Goodell making the announcement. Oh, we got a big sponsorship first from a family. Okay, rest in peace, Steve McMichael. a former Chicago Bear, lead that in. This pick is, I think, going to be interesting for Chicago. They could go a lot of ways. Ben Johnson, I feel like as a new head coach, would love to have a weapon like Warren out there at tight end, no doubt about it.
But that's a great hire on their part too.
Yeah, that was a big upside one. So we'll see where they go with this pick. You're exactly right. They bring in Dennis Allen for the defensive staff. That's an all right hire, but a big move to get Ben Johnson there from Detroit. And well, once again, I feel like Detroit has already been alluded to twice this evening, but we're going to get to him later. There's a lot that went down in Detroit here. And I feel like Chicago, truthfully, last year a lot of people projected them to make a big step up. I didn't quite see it because you got the rookie quarterback. I think this could be a big step up year for them.
Yeah, and I'm really shocked to see where they go here because I think coming into the draft, I mean, maybe you just go best available here because coming in, the need was maybe an offensive tackle, but the two best have been taken off the board.
I'm going to make a bold call. My early prediction, I think the Vikings and the Bears will be the top two teams in the NFC North this season. Who is it? Colston Loveland, our first shocker of the evening. Goodness, folks. Go get the big board, Cody. We're going to have to cut back to that. Oh, my goodness. Just picked Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan. You alluded to it. They jumped ahead to get Warren. Like, they skip Warren. They go with Loveland right off the bat. That is very interesting. We are live with some new guests here as we are experiencing the draft in a format.
Wait, what are we recording now?
Down here,
Yeah,
sir. Welcome to the show of Riley's Red Zone live from
We're doing a live?
Yeah, we are. They just realized. As we got lots of guests, everyone is welcome to hang out.
I can't cuss, correct?
Oh, dude, we're going to try to keep it a family-friendly show.
Okay, family-friendly.
But feel free to hang out and also contribute to the conversation. That's the extravaganza that we're having this evening. We have lots more voices here to join the show. And with that, Colston Loveland Pierce.
Hey, shout out Hydra Athletic.
Hydra Athletic is a huge supporter of
I don't agree with either mock draft pick.
we got.
I mean, that was a good pickup, I believe. It is a weapon. It's glad for them to finally get some weapons.
We got like 5.
They got a wide receiver last year from Washington who did a little bit, but not too much. I think they do need to start getting. They need to start taking a risk on the wide receiver position. They just need to start getting a wide out, somebody who they can throw the ball to, because now they got the offensive line, they got the quarterback. They just need to get somebody the ball to.
Right, that's the thing. They've got the quarterback now. They have the stability up front. That's what they're looking to do. As at some point in the evening, we've got fans of certain teams that are going to make their way to the conversation. We've got more eventually. Do we want to go to a Cody big board cam? Is that what we're saying at the moment?
One thing I do have to know, it's kind of questionable to do all the draft at Green Bay. You kind of looked at what's going on. They announced the death of one of the guys of the Bears, and then they talked about the 50th anniversary of Peyton.
We do have another. We're calling it in. We got our guy swimming in. The party is getting going. We got another Packer fan. That's 3 Packers fans for those tracking out at home now. We have in the building.
All right, we want to go to the big board, Klaus.
Let's go to the big board. Cody's big board.
Okay, so interesting here, Colston Loveland. This is the big development is Loveland. Going to Chicago at 10, we expected that he was going to be below Tyler Warren. Colston Loveland's a little more of the sure thing, right? Loveland is the more traditional tight end. Warren is more of a utility guy, a guy that's going to wow you with his skills and ability, but he may drop a little bit, and I think that that's going to benefit a team a little later in those 11 to 15. If you can get Warren, that will be a big pickup for who's ever able to get him. Let's go back to the couch.
As we go back to the couch for this extravaganza evening. Who's on the clock? The 49ers are now picking, so we're going to get that graphic right up set here. But, wow, they've already got the pick in. So
yeah, I mean, we've been moving fast
we have
tonight.
been cruising.
You want to join
very
us
quick.
in the middle here? Okay,
so
so
let's get Robbie involved.
Let's keep it clean, Mr.
Yeah, we are live, right?
We are live here.
So
on the YouTube
we
channel.
got Robbie. Robbie, how we feeling tonight?
Feeling good.
Packers, you think they're gonna take a skill guy tonight?
I think it's receiver, corner, or D-line. I think that's the only options we have. To be honest, drafting Green Bay, but I could see them trading out anyways. Send the fans home upset, but I think it would be a fine job, of course, because Packers usually trade back. They would seem to do so. But I'm going to turn the question here on you, Cody. The Browns trading back, passing up on Travis Hunter, and get Mason Graham, another D lineman, to potentially lead the Browns to 3 or 4 wins this year.
Well, we talked about it early. I like the move because we're just banking picks for the future. Like, I just think it's an offer we couldn't refuse. Like, I think it was a terrible trade by Jacksonville. Travis Hunter's a great player. He's going to be phenomenal. But you can get that value for that trade. I personally like it.
And I think, it's a better landing spot for Travis Hunter, too, so I think it works out for everyone. Jags get their guy to play offense and defense, apparently.
I think it makes much more sense in Jacksonville.
I think it makes much more sense in Jacksonville. And I don't know about you. I'd rather be in Florida than Cleveland. I know you're from Cleveland, no offense, but I think it works out for Travis Hunter very well.
Yeah, I don't think it's particularly a hot take to say you'd rather be in Florida than in Cleveland. But I think San Fran here, Riley, is an interesting one. They're likely going to go something on the D-line you would anticipate, unless they see something, unless maybe they go Tyler Warren just because he's the best
With
available.
George Kittle already,
It doesn't
they
make
could
a lot of sense with their personnel. But, like, you got to start thinking at this point, he was mocked as high as, 8. He's a real special talent. I wonder how far he'll drop.
Now, I really quickly need to mention you're a betting guy as well. You are spread savant for the evening. Until we get the legit spread savant over Zoom, supposedly is going to join us for the Commanders pick. But
we're gonna get
I have a
Robin.
buddy who's been watching. He bet earlier that Shador gets picked after 11, so this is big for him. He needs this to
then
not be
it's
Shador.
it's a lock,
It's a lot with the
100%.
49ers, unless Brock Purdy's out for his
It's a
job.
lot.
An interesting prop here in Blacksburg. A Virginia Tech Hokie was plus 350 to be picked tonight, which is
How do you
very
know that?
very concerningly low. Concerningly low, meaning that we could see some stuff in Blacksburg here tonight.
Okay,
feels
I thought he got
oddly
picked
low.
for a second. I thought Shador got picked there for
That
a
feels
second. but no.
oddly low, like it's gonna happen. For
That's
some
exactly
reason.
why I saw it everywhere.
Who would it be?
And I'm not 21, so I couldn't have put money on it, obviously, but
I mean, I think it would be APR, right? Like, I think he has the highest upside of anyone out of Virginia Tech.
you look at his sack numbers, I think so. But if you look at athleticism, I think Lane and Tootin are the guys. I mean,
Another name.
Colin Schley right here, I think, for the 49ers.
But where do they go with this pick? That's the real question. We have chopped up for their needs both line spots and an edge rush.
I could see Mikel
Schefter's got some
Mikel Williams here out of Georgia.
Michael Williams, Michael Williams is who I have
Jalen Walker's
mocked.
not still available, is he?
Who?
Jalen
Oh,
Walker?
he's still out
No,
there.
Jalen Walker's still.
He's still out there.
No brainer.
Jalen Walker's
O-line
still
potential.
available. I think he's
They
a
would,
big
yeah,
one.
they would.
George Kittle was not at practice the other day. And he
Oh,
did not
breaking
participate,
in.
so they could be moving on from him. That would be a huge thing for the
That would
49ers to do.
I think we see
but
Tyler Warren slip.
don't count out a tight end here.
I think Jalen Walker's the most obvious pick, right, Riley?
Yeah, I would say so. Well, San Fran as a team, you look at what they did with the additions. They don't have much. They lost Aaron Banks to said Packers. They trade away Debo Samuel.
doesn't even have the
Charvarius Ward is gone as well.
Yeah.
That's
This
just
guy knows ball.
5 years, $77 million contract.
Did you guys talk about the Loveland pick at all?
a little. That's when
Yeah,
everybody popped up.
Loveland's a shocker. I think that's a little bit. We talked pregame that's where some of the mock drafts kind of split is who goes first in the tight end room, and it's Loveland.
What I have on Loveland is that he played at Michigan as the starter for multiple seasons. And if you look at what Theo Johnson's done in the NFL, not a lot, and Tyler Warren was his backup. So Tyler Warren, obviously the focal point of the offense. Penn State wide receivers, can you name any in the draft this year? You can. So when you're force-feeding a tight end like Tyler Warren, obviously the production's going to jump off the stat sheet. I think the Bears are going to be happy with Loveland. And I think he profiles a little better in the NFL than Tyler Warren does. But 49ers here, let's see what they do.
I think it makes sense because we said Loveland's the more sure thing. He's the more sure thing, it seems like, than Tyler Warren. But Warren's a guy with high upside. And we saw Membu earlier, who I think is a guy with high upside, but less of a sure thing, went ahead of Calvin Banks.
Calvin Banks.
Yeah. Here we go. Here it is.
That's a solid pick.
Michael Williams. I think it's interesting that Jalen Walker is starting to slip just a little bit in this draft. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think Jalen Walker is one of the best players in the entire draft. I saw mocks go as high as 8 with Jalen Walker. He's a guy who can play linebacker and edge rusher. So I'm interested here to see where he's going to fall, too. I think anyone who gets him now, outside of this top 12, it's a slam dunk pick for them.
Well, I'm gonna try to get the graphics here.
All right,
we just
Robbie, let's sub you out. Cowboy
There we go,
shake.
we got
Are
it,
you in
we
the
got
middle of eating fish?
Someone tag it. Someone
Do
tag
you want to?
it.
Taylor Brettle, you
Kyle,
look, Taylor Brettle come in.
You guys want a Hydra ad yet?
All right, Taylor, you're a Green Bay fan as well.
Oh, yeah.
How are we feeling for their pick later tonight?
I kind of agree with Robbie. I wouldn't be shocked if they trade it. I think corner is ideal, but the Jair situation is definitely a question mark. I think corner is ideal, but then if Jair's coming back, you probably don't go corner. Maybe you go D-line. You got Van Ness recently, but he's been a little bit disappointing. It's really hard to know with the Packers draft, right? If a receiver falls, it's like, why wouldn't they take him? They never do. That's just not what they do. They always get, the third or fourth round guy like a Romeo Dobbs. But to Robbie's point, I wouldn't be shocked if they trade it. I think the right guy has to be there. I know that sounds like really obvious, but I wouldn't be shocked. It really depends who goes off the board. They're still, 11 picks away. So it'll be tough. I mean, Riley, following the Vikings, who would you not want them to get? Or who do you think they can get? I guess you can answer that in either way.
I think they're going to try to trade out. I think that Minnesota will attempt to. I think they'll go safety, corner, guard, or D-line if they do go with the pick. I want to talk about if we go here to the Cowboys who are on the clock.
Also, shout out to the graphics.
Yeah, we
Respect.
shout out.
I forgot they got Javonte because I was about to say running back is definitely a need, but with Genti gone, I mean, there's no one there.
They took
for a
9
minute.
minutes on this pick, Taylor. They took 9 minutes to make the selection.
Do we think Bayshore Tootin?
I think they're.
You think a receiver?
We've got a Matthew Golden mock.
I like
from
that.
the
I
crowd
saw
here.
receiver mocks. I mean, only one off the board. But
They do go with the pick, but it took them a lot of time. There might have been a potential trade down in the works that just couldn't get secured. As the Cowboys in Green Bay, I feel like you got a little bit of history there as well.
Oh, tons of history. I mean, the fact that they're making the trip is impressive. He's not dropping his flag because that's not Des Bryant, so shout out.
Okay, here we go. Cowboys pick. We'll see who we queue up here. I think it really could be anything. I think Jerry's going to want to splash, though. Maybe one of the Texas guys. Tyler Booker from Alabama.
Wow.
Another surprise pick on the evening. Wow.
Riley, this might
shocker.
be a draft where the receivers truly drop, and the Packers might have to capitalize. But it might not.
We'll see
We'll see if that happens.
Wow. So Tyler Booker's the guy.
How do you feel, Rob? How do you feel about the Packers pick? Riley asked me that question. Need your thoughts.
Well, when I look at the draft, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of players.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And with the Packers, they have a history of not taking the player you expect. So, as a lifelong fan, I've learned that when I watch the Packers draft, I don't make any projections.
Exactly.
I just see what happens. Sometimes you expect a wide receiver, and you draft a quarterback. I personally thought he needed to gain 200 pounds and play D-line. But he worked out. So I'm not going to keep my expectations high. I'm just going to see what happens. I trust in Brian Gutekunst, and that's all I got.
We're going to turn to apparently Tyler Booker ball knower Robbie here.
I'm not on camera here, but if you can hear me,
You're sneaking in. You're sneaking in.
Look, the Dallas Cowboys, obviously they built their good teams in the 2010s through the trenches. Zach Martin retired recently, so I guess they see something in Tyler Booker. They don't really look similar, Tyler Booker and Zach Martin, but maybe they see something in play-wise that, he thinks they're their guard of he's their guard of the future, another Hall of Famer possibly. So definitely a shocker, but that's probably what made the Cowboys go.
Pierce off screen.
Off screen, we're gonna talk about the drip again. The new trend, it seems like we're talking about the new drip. I have the golden initials on the side of the suit top.
That could have
That's
been
a new thing.
his own name, though. You got to really think about
No, it started by Ryan Clark. He usually has his own logo. It's kind of become a trend tonight. I think I've seen it 2 or 3 different times with different players. The drip is questionable for this guy. A little brown suit action, but not the best. But nice to see his initials in gold, though.
Respect.
Yeah. With
That was a good take. I mean,
Pierce McKnight, the drip king.
I mean,
The
the drip.
king is here.
Do we have a Newton jersey on Pierce?
Yes, we
Talk about Drip King. Let's go.
It is way too small.
Sea-Wags. You have the seat, Sea-Wags. This is all you.
There hasn't been another Panthers player worth buying in a decade, guys. So he's wearing his kid's jersey.
Let's go to the Miami Dolphins with half their clock. to make a selection here. They lost a lot, and they're potentially going to lose more. There's a lot of saying that Jalen Ramsey's going to be gone, supposedly. But they also try to replenish the offensive line with James Daniels. But
we can bring in our in-house
Yeah,
Miami guy.
Miami
We've got to
Dolphins
we're giving
fan.
him a moment. But
we're covering all the NFL teams here.
Hold on, he has to look up who the
Yeah, we-
Dolphins
Some last-second research here before we turn to our Dolphins expert insider.
Plug the shirt.
all right. My mock, I've got Will Johnson. Not sure what you had, Klaus, here, but
I also
what,
did, I think.
What do you think Miami goes with here?
Well, first of all, Miami, a team that, just like our message for Hydra Athletic, a team that didn't have their riches and their wealth given to them, right? And so they had to work hard for their opportunities. And that's what we're all about here at Hydra Athletic. With that being said, I think, sometimes you have to go a direction that people don't expect. With Jalen Ramsey leaving, I think the Dolphins should go with Malachi Starks out of Georgia. Got themselves someone back there that can, stop the passing. The Dolphins have struggled in a lot of facets, especially late game defensive collapses this year. And I think if we can go to get a good safety to kind of help out back there, I think it'd be a big move for the Dolphins.
No way he knew that beforehand. He had to have looked up Malachi Starks.
Hey,
There's
hey,
no way. That was impressive.
The
That was
test,
well done.
the test
That
is
was
taken
well
when
done.
the class is scheduled. It
Here
doesn't
at
matter
Hydra
if
Athletic, we love being doubted.
Yeah, they're hard workers. Hydra Athletic, shout out. Go by the word.
Yeah, actually, go check them out. We don't have official sponsors, but this is the best you can
We'll get
do.
you guys some
Is we're going to
merch
shout
soon.
you out. We're going to give you credit as well on Riley's Red Zone.
Riley's Red Zone it's a giving place.
It is. We give a lot. We don't make any money off of this. We're just having a good time. So is Tyler Booker in the green room in Green Bay right now. So I agree with what Kyle said. They lose Javon Holland, a huge piece at that safety spot. That would be a big replenish. But safety feels like a potential reach here. But I do think they maybe go secondary potential corner maybe. Pick is in. They are going to keep the pick.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot of the safety guys are going to be down in that 25 to 32 range. There's a couple of safeties that we have mocked in that area. Emin Wari and Starks as well is right around that 25 to 32 range. I think makes most sense for those guys. But Will Johnson is a guy that has drawn a lot of ire, a lot of attention, and I think he'll go high in this draft.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I have Schefter on the phone, so hold on.
We've got, apparently Taylor has Schefter in on the insiders. We talked about earlier, sometimes the insiders do have the ball knowledge. Other times, it takes a little bit.
Taking my job, dude.
Without a doubt. Yeah, that was Pierce's operation for the first hour was the inside. With the pick in,
Anyone want to play Scrabble after this?
we've got a Scrabble.
Hydra
tossing.
Athletic, we love to, train the brain. So when it comes to Scrabble, we like to tap in. Loquacious is my go-to
I was about to
word
ask
if I
what the
ever
go-to
had
word.
Kyle, who are they getting here? If you're right, we scrap.
Will Johnson.
Will Johnson and the Dolphins, everybody.
You knew I got on the phone with Schefter. I was scared.
Okay, well, while we have some time, I want to quickly talk wide receivers and what we're looking at. Because McMillan was taken earlier tonight. I just want to talk because there's a lot of Green Bay guys in the room. Do you think that you think if Golden drops, he's a for sure fire take?
No. Well, it's not a
Bay.
sure
No.
thing, but
Okay, here's the thing.
He's a should take, but
Robbie
it's not for
Ackerley needs to pipe down a little bit. Let me tell you a little bit about the Green Bay Packers. Okay.
whoa.
As an owner, yes, I do have a share.
Camera is
Okay.
here, but we're up there.
No,
Yeah, I was looking into the
Yeah,
camera.
my
I know where
bad,
the
my
camera is.
bad, my
I
bad.
can find the camera.
Do you have share in
Okay.
the Packers?
I do have share in the Packers. Okay,
come on.
yeah, we're there. We're there.
Do you have share in the Packers?
do.
Yeah, I mean, we got
do.
three
Zero,
owners.
0.1. Okay, so here's the thing with the Green Bay Packers. They will not draft offensive talent in the first round. And that's okay because one thing I will always say about the Green Bay Packers is they are one of the best second-day draft teams. If the Packers have a wide receiver available in the late first round, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually trade back on the pick, get another pick in the second, maybe some futures in the later on in the draft, and all of a sudden Green Bay gets a great second-day wide receiver, and they're looking great. Jaden Reed and Christian Watson, the two main guys for the Packers wide receiver core right now, both second-day receivers. They do a great job of scouting the guys who people don't look at initially.
Dobbs a third-day receiver as well, fourth round.
As they say, get this man a true. As they say in Green Bay.
Well, the pick is in for Miami. We've had a lot of build-up on this one. They took their time. And Pierce is going to get
Alright,
back in the starting
Pierce
lineup.
back.
We got a bench rotation here at the Riley's Red
Signing
Zone.
class.
Extravaganza. Oh, we're going 4 wide.
I think
Looking like
Dolphins.
looking like Talladega out here.
I'm very interested
I'm just
in
gonna
seeing
reach over
where
for
they
this
go
this
because
way.
I think Will Johnson makes sense, but
hope
I
it's not
could
Will
see a
Johnson
random pick here from Miami.
We kind of go back to, I feel like, Jacksonville, where we
Packers
don't really
and
know
Miami.
where the direction of the team is even going. So it's kind of hard to know what they're going to pick here, and it's not going to make a big impact. Like we talked early on, like, are these going to be impactful guys like Travis Hunter, Cam Ward? Whatever the Dolphins pick here is not going to be as impactful as the Dolphins would hope.
I think
Will Johnson.
the
Adamant
only
Will
question of a guy that can make an immediate impact, I think, is Tyler Warren. The only question on Warren, I think, is he a bust or does he really show up at the NFL level? I think he's got high upside, but also a low floor rather.
I don't see a tight end here. We'll talk after.
Here we go.
The pick.
Kenneth Grant from Michigan.
Yeah.
It was a Michigan guy,
Wow.
but not.
I had him
draft,
mocked
bro.
all the way at the bottom of the first round. Wow.
Yeah, wait.
That's a
let's see.
shocker.
Hey, we're gonna have to go to Cody's big board
Yeah, we may have
momentarily.
to go to the big board.
He had him literally 32 to the Eagles.
He did. Cody had him 32.
take
We
them.
talked about it pre-draft. This is.
We talked about tight end just before
Okay,
this. I
here we
want
go.
to
We're
touch on
gonna
that
cut
real
the
quick.
I
The
still have
offense-
Tyler Booker up. Rookie move
offense
from
for the
Riley's
Dolphins
Red
doesn't
Zone.
really make
Wait,
sense
he's a rookie.
for a tight end.
Kenneth Grant. Oh, we went back.
Oh,
we
we're
forgot
having
to
an issue.
Yeah, we
Technical
forgot to
issues.
unsee. My bad, folks at home. We do have
Technical
to
issues.
unhide. We need to hide the guy who just got picked so we can
Oh,
see
goodness.
who's selected, which is Kenneth Grant from Michigan. Now they did lose Calais Campbell. Let's talk about. They did lose Calais Campbell, which is a huge loss on the defensive line. They needed to fill that, but a little bit of a shock. Cody's big board. How are we doing back there? Do we need another second? Okay, 1 minute, and then we will go to Cody's kitchen for the the big
This
board
is-
breakdown.
I don't think we want to go to the kitchen because I don't think he's cooking. So
Oh, Taylor Burrell
I'm
is.
gonna act like I had that pick right myself.
Yeah, did anyone have
Yeah, I don't
Kenneth
think
Grant
anyone had that.
13? I don't think it's.
had not picked that.
Rob did not have that for those at home. This is not the craziest reach we've ever seen. It fizzles a need. It just wasn't expected, perhaps. Now, I will tell you what.
I was shocked they
the
didn't
Colts,
trade down.
the
and he might have
Colts are
started.
licking their chops right now if they get Tyler Warren for
Yeah.
free.
What happened with Brock Bowers
Yeah,
last year?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready over here.
Okay, we're
picture
gonna
already in.
we're
The
gonna
picture already
switch to the phone cam. Go
Okay,
live.
so the Colts pick is in, which we're expecting Tyler Warren there. But let's get a quick breakdown. This is the second D tackle out of Michigan tonight. Who would have expected it? 2 Michigan D tackles inside the top 13. You would have thought that Kenneth Grant was going to slide later in the first round. He goes all the way up here at 13 to Miami. I mean, a team need, but you thought that we're going to go cornerback. Will Johnson, it seemed like the perfect time. This is a draft night shocker. Let's go back to the couch.
He's a dog, that's why.
We're gonna switch here as we get back to the
Can I
couch
borrow
setup.
host Riley Klaus for a second?
Yeah, yeah, potentially.
Klaus, can I get you off camera for a second?
Yeah, momentarily here. Let's just go. I'm tweaking here. We're on Kenneth Grant as we.
Dude,
Tossing it
Schefter's
around.
telling me 3 picks in advance, so they have the script. So I'd be careful when you ask
Which
them.
yeah
No.
for
T. Brettle
T.
thinks
Brettle.
no. T. Brettle thinks he's Adam Scheffner tonight. He will not be. I've not seen anything
Adam Schefter, baby.
on Twitter immediately. Not seeing anything. A steal would be huge for a big tight end.
I
here
think
would
you
be
have.
huge
I
for the
think you
Colts.
have to go Warren.
I mean, I had mocked Loveland because I thought that Warren was
I
going
mean,
to go
Warren should have
above
been
him.
off the board. That's
but
not even-
but
yeah.
I think Warren goes
Yeah,
here, right?
yeah, yeah.
I think
Tight end
it's a
swap.
no-brainer
It's
here.
where they were gonna go. Most people
Let's
like
see.
Fair
Pick
point.
is in. Here's Goodell.
here we go.
Benji Costello. Tyler Warren is the pick.
Tyler Warren's the
Warren.
pick.
Wow.
Wow. Kind of. I had them even
Great.
trading up to do so, and instead they do it right here.
That's a. I mean,
That's
very obvious, but great pick. You had to do it.
Here's
And he gets to stay in the same college.
I mean, to have Warren fall into your hands like that is just. I mean, it's great for Indianapolis to be
100%.
able to execute there.
This is a guy that will put anything on the line. He's a very good of a culture building person. After you got AR tapping out last season, it's a good turnaround to get a good rookie who's willing to put a new perspective out on the Indianapolis
My
Colts.
only question is his speed. My only question is his speed. When I'd watch him, he seemed very slow, but he catches everything. So it's hard to shy away from him. But he does seem a little slow to be interesting in the NFL to see what he does.
The best GMs in the NFL know how to make the easy pick, and that's exactly what Jim Irsay did here.
For sure.
It's the goldfish talking.
It's a matter of who's gonna throw the ball to him. Can AR even make the throw
Yeah,
to
the
him? Like
blocking's
that's
also big for JT.
that's a big thing. Do the Colts
A
later?
tight end is a quarterback's best friend. So this is the
Yeah.
Colts investing in their future.
But I also will say, to be fair, Warren is a much more like down the field type of guy. He's not like that inline tight end where he's gonna make like just like a 5-yard out. He's gonna be making the big plays down the field.
You know, he can.
And he also does it all.
Yeah, he
On the
throws
TV
the
right now,
ball
he's
as
throwing
well.
the game.
This is.
He lined up at center. There it is right there, actually.
Yeah. Robbie's breaking down
And then he
film.
called a
He
touchdown
lined
pass
up at
after.
center and made this
He
play.
also could be way faster than I believe, but he just looks like he moves slow. But then
Are
he
you
also
faster
still
than him,
flies down the
Taylor?
field. I'm not saying
You
I'm
think you're
faster
faster?
than him.
I think he's an open
I'm
field
smaller
type
than him
runner.
every
They were
way.
talking about how
Taylor
his
Brennan
speed
thinks
is.
he's
It's more of an
faster than
open
Travis.
Not
field
said it's on
runner,
tape.
and I think that's how it's gonna work
Speaking of
for him.
fast, 2 men, 1 mile coming up very soon.
Who was that last bit? Indy.
Yeah,
Indy.
Cody is doing the sticker first, then the team. Yeah, we could get a side Scrabble set going for those. And
Next-
there's also cornhole too up there. That we can have a mini
If we start
cornhole.
playing Scrabble, where should we play?
Tables wide open if you want to use it.
I think on the draft board.
We
Right on Cody's
this is
big
we may go to a Scrabble
Minus
cam
Scrabble.
at some point, folks at home. We may go to the Scrabble cam, see who's winning.
Before I step aside to play Scrabble, I would like to lock in a pick for the Green Bay Packers at pick number 23. Through careful consideration and seeing who has been taken so far, I think the Green Bay Packers will take Ben Saul's kicker out of Pittsburgh.
Wow, what a
And
prediction!
you know what? This isn't a joke because guess what? The Packers need a kicker. They drafted Andres Carlson last year.
They just re-signed McManus to a contract.
Give me a minute. They drafted Andres Carlson last year. He flared out. They picked up McManus. Did phenomenal. But they re-signed him. He's aging. You never know. You know, Green Bay's looking for a long-term kicker. Right now, if they take Ben Sauls out of Pittsburgh, that's what they're getting.
All right, Robert Bateman,
Wow.
shareholder with the pick.
Wow, so watch out for kicker, folks, in the
This
first
is why
round.
the shareholders pay and don't really get much say. That's what they say.
All
You
right.
gotta kind of rhyme the saying you pay, but you don't get much say. That's kind of how it goes in Green Bay. If you know what I'm saying, come on now.
To help Riley out, let's transition back to the present and let's go to the Atlanta Falcons, who are on the clock with the 15th overall pick. They have 4 minutes left to go before the pick is due. And last year, you got the first round pick. They took Penix at quarterback after they signed a Kirk Cousins to a huge deal. Who Kirk Cousins now is the backup.
Yes.
I'm not smart enough for Scrabble.
So side Scrabble table.
Cody playing?
I don't know who all, but there's a side Scrabble table. We're gonna go to Scrabble. We're gonna go to the Scrabble cam midway through their game, figure out who's leading that. But for now, you're exactly right, Pierce. They trade for
We're gonna
Kirk
slide down
Cousins.
the couch.
You know, are they?
We got
we're going far wide. You know, we
Spread offense.
it's a spread on. Oh, I just went to page 2.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, but Kirk Cousins is such a situation here, right? Because now they go with Michael Penix. But Kirk, do you trade him away? Do you hold on to him? He reported the other day. What do you do with him?
Well, it's really, I think tonight's the night we'll really find out. We'll
defense,
know if
right?
Pittsburgh goes
Got
for a
it, yeah.
quarterback. So then Kirk Cousins could go to Pittsburgh if Aaron Rodgers does not play. So it's really like, what does Pittsburgh do in the first round? I feel like that's a contributing factor of where Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers goes.
Yeah, I think it is. I personally think.
Facts.
I think in a way too. I think Rodgers, if anything, is waiting for the draft to be over. Apparently, he's just taking his time for his time's sake. But I think he's gonna take his time so that we can, see if he's gonna be the starter somewhere. I'm grabbing the wrong laptop, folks. We got to keep it on because we're expecting some
Yeah.
virtual guests supposedly later.
Well, we
Sorry,
heard.
I'm getting a call. It won't focus. We got Adam Schefter back on the phone.
Oh, the inside scoop. But the Falcons, yet again, taking their time. Are they at all considering a trade
Well,
back?
this is why
But-
they're I think it might be.
Wait, pause the phone, everybody. Is Jalen Walker still out
Jalen
there?
Walker is
Yes.
They have
We
their.
haven't had a pick since Indy, right?
Yeah, Schefter.
No,
Yeah.
we have not.
You're right. You're right.
Shefty.
They have their pick of edge rusher.
Shefty's coming out of retirement. He may be across the stage. Think about that.
Oh my
Think about
good.
it.
Oh my goodness.
Also, have they done the bikes across the stage? I don't
Yeah,
know
they.
if saw it.
Yeah,
Goodell
yeah,
came
they
out with
did.
the
They
Packers.
did.
Yeah.
They did at the beginning of the
That's cool. I did
draft.
see
The
something on
bikes
that.
were going
It's-
crazy.
And Lil Wayne. Packers players and Lil Wayne was there too.
You in?
Yeah, Lil Wayne did come out for the Packers
You gonna play?
opening.
So we're figuring out.
You go ahead, Cody.
The Scrabble situation.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
We're going.
Klaus, you want to share your mic with
We're gonna.
Yeah, we're getting lots of action. Apparently, no, Taylor is
Yeah, I'm
going to
not-
join in on
Taylor,
it.
it is if you're.
as said, we will.
I'll be back by the Packers pick. I'm about to Scrabble.
Yeah, Taylor will be tapped in.
We'll get a Scrabble, Cam, next time we go over to the big board.
Yeah, when we go to the
And
big
we'll
board.
get an update on how the game's going.
We will
Cody, you good at
indeed.
Scrabble? You strike me as a guy who's good at Scrabble.
I've never played Scrabble. Oh, well, I've played Scrabble, but like it's been a long time. Here, Klaus.
Yeah.
Can you help with
Yes, sir. We got,
I'll go with Rob.
we're going 2-2 here.
One thing to note for next year is we got to make sure Cody has his own mic. He's very much of a mic grabber tonight. Any chance he gets, he's like, please. Well, yeah, we've been sharing all night, but Cody wants the mic hog. He's got all the analysis, and he's been studying. He's a little bit mad about the prep. The prep was there. I will admit we see a lot of prep.
Well, this
from
was
Cody's
really
computer.
Klaus. I have to give love where it's due. This was all Riley Klaus here. The only thing that's made was my
His mock draft.
mock draft.
Does Atlanta go quarterback here and get
got
Shador
40
Sanders?
They got 40 to pick.
I think Jalen Walker makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. He's the best player available. Less than 1% chance if you're watching along on ESPN that he'd be available at this pick. But yeah, Atlanta 30 seconds to make a pick, and if they don't make it, they get skipped. The pick is in, however.
Yep.
It's got to be Jalen Walker.
So edge
you would
rush
think-
has got to be the thing.
Bateman lurking
They're gonna have their pick of edge rusher here. I forget though. Did Michael Williams get chosen by San Francisco? Right. That's what went down. So he's off the board.
I had Shamar Stewart here, but I thought Jalen Walker was going to be off the board. So I guess
exactly
it's whoever
right.
they like better here. And I would guess it's probably Jalen Walker. But you maybe did limited research on Walker because you probably guessed he would be gone by 15, right?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Now, this is where you really prove, though, you should be studying throughout. But it's just like the movie Draft Day, right? Bo Callahan keeps slipping. Everybody passes on Bo Callahan for a reason. It wasn't just the Browns, and it wasn't just. Yes. Yep.
Whoa!
The Riley's Red Zone whiteboard across the room just got kerplopped. But I think I don't know if there's Sharpies somewhere up there as they're going to keep track of the Scrabble. We're also going to keep track of the Scrabble for those at home that have decided to join us. And maybe if you were playing your own Scrabble game at home.
I wouldn't be shocked here if we see Josh Simons taken. He's an Ohio State lineman, really quality, and the Falcons need protection for Penix. So just keep that in mind. You know, you guys are talking edge, but I really think a lineman is a strong need for the Falcons here.
It is something they could use. As they lost some on both sides of the ball, specifically Dowman at center, as well as losing Grady Jarrett on the defensive end. The Falcons, longtime Falcon.
Falcons looking on the board right now. Jalen Walker's still there. I think it's a no-brainer, and the question is, if he doesn't get picked, did anyone go to his birthday party? That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I just have a feeling
gotta be
it's an edge guy. I think it's the go-to for Atlanta. Before the draft, that's what they were expected to take. Now that Walker slides, I think it's even more of a likelihood. I mean, it seems like that last pick for Indy was a no-brainer. This seems even more so.
Yeah. Pierce is enjoying his Capri Sun over here.
NFC South reaction here. When we finally find out the pick.
Yeah, no one
It is-
cares about this division.
Yeah, it's an interesting division.
Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker. I'll get the graphic ready, folks.
Yeah, that's a good pick there.
Panthers have won the
a good pick
draft
there
in the
by the
NFC
Falcons.
South, in my opinion. Saints.
Won the draft?
In the NFC South.
In the NFC South.
In the
thus
NFC
far.
South. I like this pick. I mean, the Panthers could have taken themselves. Would have liked to see that, but I think the Falcons are an interesting situation. They're going to be competing for the number one spot. I think the Buccaneers have it for at least one more year. Carolina's making a step. The Saints, though, I think they're taking a way drop.
Especially
a big
if
drop
they
for
can't
them.
get their hands on a real quarterback, then that's going to be difficult.
Exactly,
because
because Derek Carr is just not the guy.
And
I
his
mean,
shoulder injury is
Well, and he's
nagging.
right, he
That's
might
what they
be hurt
worry
for the
about. He
whole
might
year.
not be able
He
to
might
play.
be hurt for the whole year.
Yeah. A slam dunk here by the Falcons, I think.
Yeah, this is one of those that, like, if you're grading at home and you see this pick, it's an obvious A+. Sure. And, you know, maybe there was something going on. I think that this isn't more about Jalen Walker. I think it's just these other teams didn't need to take an edge, and it's just like last year with the Colts just having Latu fall into their lap at the middle of the first round, that he's happens to be available. He's a Georgia guy staying in Atlanta. That's a big piece for Atlanta, for sure.
Definitely.
I got a question for y'all too. I think we need to talk about y'all. Yeah. Gotta get a little country in here. All right. So with this next question, I think we gotta talk about Shador Sanders. He's dropped out of the top 15.
Yeah.
So Okay, let's say he doesn't get drafted first round unless the team trades for him. What team do y'all see trading? I can see Saints, honestly. They got to trade some players because their cap, but their cap being so bad, they do have an opportunity to trade and make a pick and go down the cap.
Yeah, if it gets to Pittsburgh with 21, the reports were coming out about Jalen Milroe and Steelers kind of being a match made in heaven there with Arthur Smith loving those big mobile quarterbacks. But you got to wonder now, if you're the Steelers with pick 21 and you're going quarterback, Shedeur Sanders still on the board.
Right.
So what are you going to do there when you have the guy who, who's a little bit better in Shedeur Sanders by the scouts projection, or the athletic guy who you like in Jalen Milroe? But in terms of Pierce, who I think is going to come up, I think the Giants, Cleveland, New Orleans are all teams to look out for. I think the Giants and the Browns might be a little more hesitant, being that they are at the top of the second round, and the Saints are going to have to jump those two teams in order to get their quarterback.
Right.
So I could see the Saints coming in here.
I agree. We talked about the Saints earlier. I think it's smart that they didn't take a quarterback in that top 10 range because they just have so much work to be done. I think they'd rather lay the groundwork and get that pick right next year. But for who trades back up, I'm leaning between the Browns and the Giants as potential teams. But the Giants did a lot of homework on Shedeur, which at the time people were like, oh, maybe they take him at 3. I thought for a while, and I think it's what came to be true, I think they're doing homework on if they think they could get back into the first and get him. Is he worthy of giving up assets to do so?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting draft thus far. A lot of surprises. Robert Joseph Ackerley Jr. just texted me, my father, Mock's blown up, LOL. And then retexted with the Jalon Walker pick, absolutely blown. So, very interesting draft thus far.
Yeah, there is a lot going on at this point in the day.
I think. Yeah, it's Schefter calling once again.
Yeah, as we're getting breaking news of what's going on.
You want to come back in here, Cody Wagner?
Adam Schefter.
Schefter is hitting us up. And there he goes grabbing the mic. Didn't even ask. Cody Wagner.
He handed it to
Look,
me.
in the analyst.
Hey, run that back. You guys go watch it.
It was here. It
You'll
was
see,
here.
You'll see. He
All right.
extended his arm.
I'm just
Cody Wagner is a top pick, but his red flag is that he is a mic grabber. That is what his red flag is, what the scouts say about him in the analyst big board. He grabs the mic a lot.
I am going to say this right now. This has a lot of YouTube Shorts potential. We're going to need a highlight tape of this draft stream.
Shorts. Yeah. Oh, but guys, we haven't even mentioned, who do you think the Cardinals are going here? We haven't
let's
even
talk
about
I forgot.
We haven't talked about any. Let's look at the graphic. We go with the key additions. They bring in Josh Sweat on the edge from Philadelphia. Big loss to the Super Bowl champs here. But if you see the trend there, it's defensive line. They bring in Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais Campbell, a reunion for him as well. They bolster that up. And let's be honest here, they didn't lose much at all. They lost 3 defensive tackles who at best were their second string for the most part. Tonga's gotten some playing time, same with Lopez. But they really didn't lose much. They could be interesting if they make a good pick here.
Yeah, I think for the Cardinals here, they picked Marvin Harrison at 4 last year, and he wasn't really able to do much. And you know why? Because he was the only guy out there in terms of receivers. Of course, Trey McBride, the best tight end in football, if you know ball. And Marvin Harrison, unable to get open because he was kind of on an island. He's by himself in that receiver room. So he's on TV right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Matthew Golden scored the most touchdowns in the SEC last year in Texas. He's a deep ball threat. And yeah, the Cardinals, I wouldn't be surprised if they get a receiver here.
They're not going to do anything in the season. It doesn't matter who they pick right now. They're still going to be at the bottom of the NFC West. The Rams are going to make. I'm not a Cardinals hater, but I'm just keeping the facts straight. I mean, we got to think about the division. I mean, you got the Rams.
It's the toughest division in
The
football.
Rams just got Devontae. They're going to be up there. San Fran's always going to stick around. They don't have as many injuries, hopefully, as they did this past season. The Seahawks, they're going to be questioned. So they're fighting for the 3rd and 4th spot of the NFC West.
I mean, the NFC North, obviously the best division in football by a far margin. But the Cardinals here, predictions all around the board, I'm going Matthew
Terrible
Golden.
take. It's
couldn't
the
tell you.
AFC North is obviously the best division. Of football.
I like
Bottom of
Golden.
The AFC North is
I like
really holding
Golden
them back
here
in
as
Cleveland
well.
that drags them down. I'm going Matthew Golden here. Who do you think, Cody? Who do you think, Riley?
I'm going Matthew Golden as well.
I think
Surprise
Golden probably
pick,
makes
Jahad
sense.
Campbell.
I had Campbell before mocked, but I think Golden makes sense.
Oh, Walter Nolan.
So the D tackle's flying off the board here. Walter Nolan, an absolute disruptor in both phases, run game and pass game. That's a good pick for the Cardinals here, just beefing up the defense.
Yeah, I mean, let's getting the just pick graphic there. We got Walter Nolan. A little bit interesting.
I had Nolan going way up. I think he's one of those high upside guys, right? He's a guy similar to one of the linemen we saw earlier tonight on the offensive line. Sorry, the name's escaping me at the moment.
Are we going Banks?
Membu.
Yep.
Sorry, Membu.
Membu.
It reminds me a little bit of that as far as Nolan goes, because he's kind of a high upside guy here in D tackle. I think he could make a big splash, but also has potential bust on him.
I think a few things. First, let's go to Pierce for a drip check on this guy.
Drip check real quick. He did come in on Zoom. Or that camera set up previously. We went with a very casual look, very unlike normal, even like virtual people. Like he came in with virtual like incomers, all right, whatever. People, draftees that didn't show up to the green room. He came in with black jeans, a red zipper. I mean, hey, he picked the color. The color was dead on for the Cardinals. It matched perfectly. And then a big chain. Another thing to look out for, this is the second time I've seen a family relative with a lime green dress on. The first one was Ashton Genty's, I think, mother. Very interesting to look out for.
If you had over under 1.5 lime green relative suits, your bet would have hit. Dresses. Over 1.5 lime green dresses on family members of draftees tonight. Your bet just hit. Congratulations on that one.
Hey, I mean,
You'd be surprised. A couple years ago, I want to talk interesting props. There was a Super Bowl bet that involved Tom Cruise flying down onto the field and hand delivering the game ball to the refs. Did not happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Who could have guessed that one?
Yeah, but my takeaway with this Walter Nolan pick, though, too, you said it, Robbie. D-line is flying off of the board. We already saw Kenneth Grant go. Does this push Derek Harmon out of Oregon up the stocks?
I have just played a 90-point play on my second turn of Scrabble.
We're gonna need a Scrabble.
We might have to turn to the Scrabble game.
And my first word was bang, by the way.
Wow.
So now that we got other people here, you can click. I'm gonna click the board. You guys click the picked after when he sends it back, because we're going on the run, everybody. We're going on the phone. Two things to keep track of. What, you said you were ready?
I'm ready now.
Okay, big board, Cody. What do we got?
Yeah, they mentioned it over there, but D tackles absolutely flying off the board. Thanks for the mic. D tackles absolutely flying off the board. You got Walter Nolan, two guys out of Michigan, and Kenneth Grant, and way up here at Mason Graham, two D tackles out of Michigan. Unbelievable. And Michael Williams, he was a D-end as well earlier in the draft. Jalen Walker, more of an edge guy. But these D-ends are absolutely flying off the board, and it's shocking to see to me. I think the interesting thing is wide receivers. How long does Matthew Golden have to wait the rest of the night? Because Tedero McMillan, he went early. He went all the way up at 8. I think the interesting thing here is how long until the second receiver gets taken tonight. Let's take a quick look over at the Scrabble board as well. So we got bang on here, perhaps our favorite word.
We got the Bevels and Foxes combo with the S, triple word twice. That gets this Foxes, double letter under there. That's 57. I believe, what was it? 57 and 33. A lot. And the first word was also playing off the bang, which was my first turn. Kyle had a good first word, or was that you? You had yogurt, Rob?
I had yogurt.
Rob had yogurt. This is a very solid game out there. This is just, 2 turns in per person? This is
So what's the scoreboard?
I mean, just three fellas going at it.
I want to see this.
I mean, I'm in a big lead, but that was from 1 turn, so there's a lot of room to come back in. This is Scrabble, ladies and gentlemen.
We're gonna have to keep an eye on.
Great performance early by Taylor Brettel. We'll check back in when we go back to our big board later.
Especially after Willie Adamas.
We're gonna go back to the board.
Did you see the clip?
We're back to the main cam. The Bengals
So I watched it
have
twice.
made their selection, everybody.
It's got to be defense, correct?
As I would lean that way for sure. We're gonna see who's on
Who did
the
you guys have
clock.
mocked? Let's see.
Back in the day, I think
And then
I had them trading out. I think, if I
you had them
remember right.
trading
I
out.
think so. Let's see what the Bengals have got cooking here.
Am I correct? Real quick, Cody. Crash out, Cody.
Yeah, where'd they glasses?
Well,
I got
I
one.
made myself now the drip coordinator, so I had to put it on the glasses. Drip coordinator is now have the sunglasses on. I will pass the mic in just a minute. But am I correct that Trey Henderson has not been re-signed yet?
Well, he's on the team, but not long-term extension.
Yes. So do you look for a replacement? Do you try to dish him out? Like, what do you do here with the Bengals? You already invested so much on offense. Do you ship out your big defensive name and draft a defensive edge here?
Pierce, I'll take that back for you real quick.
Yeah.
Just to Cody, you want to go first?
We can
I'll let you-
leave this over here. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. So, all right, he's calling the shots
Facilitate it.
now. It's okay. I think Cincinnati's got to go defense no matter what position it is. I want to throw back to a Thursday night game where Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow combined. Someone had the stack against me, dropped 110, and the Bengals ended up losing that game. So if you take a look at that, Jamar and Burrow able to combine for 110 fantasy points and lose the actual game. It's clear that the Bengals just can't guard anybody. I mean, they were tied with the Titans 21-21 in the first quarter of their game when they played last season. So it's clear they need defense.
Hey,
I
boys,
think.
let's remember, Will Johnson's still on the board here. I think he's someone that honestly has kind of dropped more than we anticipated.
Well, it was interesting because Will Johnson was a surefire top 10 guy in the early phases of the draft. And as we get towards the end here, Daniel Jeremiah's last mock does not have Will Johnson in the first round. Whether that's due to injury concerns or him just thinking corners like Jahad Barron are better. Jaheed Barron, not sure how you pronounce that one. Apologies to the Barron family if they're watching. Doubt it.
I don't think they're going cornerback here. I don't think that's really a need right now. For
I think
Cincinnati.
it's edge, or maybe Derek Harmon gets pushed all the way up the board due to how many D tackles that's been flying off the board right now.
Well, Roger is up.
I had James Pierce Jr.
gonna
He's got talent.
let
He's
us
had
know.
off the field issues.
Watch the Texas A&M guys
I have
too.
no
I'm gonna
clue.
click the draft.
I think though edge is where we're leaning for this one.
And it is, but it's Shamar.
Can I
Stewart.
comment about this guy because I got a bone to pick with Shamar Stewart, an athletic freak. There's no doubt about it. But that's most players that enter the draft. When you look at Shamar Stewart and you take a look at the stat sheet, 1.5 sacks in his final year at Texas A&M. I'm just not sure what teams see in a guy that has zero production, not even a lack of production, zero production in his final year. But he's got a green suit on, so we're gonna flip it over. What? We're gonna flip it over.
I'm gonna crash out real quick. He did take away my green suit take. This is nice. This is clean. We don't have a tie, I don't believe, but it's a nice little suit that goes over, right?
No undershirt either, Pierce.
No undershirt. That's drip. In my opinion, that's drip.
That's drip.
Right. So we got the
Cam
chain.
Newton.
The chain's definitely popping. As a Cam Newton fan here, I do know drip. All right. So I do think the green suit is nice. And kind of questionable from a guy that isn't Aggie. You would think you'd maybe go a little bit maroon or some white or something different. Green is a little bit strange coming from a Aggie himself, but I think it's a great pick. I think it's an interesting pick. It's an edge player. Does that mean that we might see a trade tonight for Trey Henderson? I mean, I talked about it a little bit before, but
Question for you, Pierce. Do the Seahawks snag a receiver? It's been a very thinly drafted receiving room, and they need one. That's my
It's
question.
interesting you say that, Taylor, because when Seattle didn't need to take a receiver a couple of years back, Jackson Smith and Jigba slid to them, and no one thought he was going to be there, so they just took best player available, snagged him anyway, and now a guy like Matthew Golden's there, and the Seahawks have nobody apart from Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jake Bobo on the roster right now to play receiver. So a very fired up man in the green suit, like Pierce mentioned. Apologies for introducing it first. I was going to swing it to you. Pierce. That was what I was planning on there.
Yeah, I will say though they did also get Cooper Kupp, but they still need.
I forgot about that.
But
Apologies.
receiver is still a huge need though. You mentioned besides those guys, Jake Bobo, as much as he's loved by the meme community, it still needs to have some playing time, and he could be a baller.
Hey, look, he's a deep ball
We just
threat.
haven't
He's got
seen
good
it yet.
ball skills. The 40 time is what worries me when you're looking at Jake Bobo. He really can't create
Now,
separation.
Seattle's a team with a lot of discussion points here, right? How do we feel about the move to go get Sam Darnold and you end up replacing Geno Smith with Sam Darnold?
Honestly, I apologize if my father's watching, a diehard Seahawks fan. I think they replaced Geno Smith with more of the same. However, they got younger and they saved money as Geno Smith wanted a bigger contract than they gave Darnold. So they pick up a third-round pick, they get younger, and they save money. I think it was a nice move for Seattle. I don't think Darnold wins you the Super Bowl, but that's not where Seattle's at right now. They're in a transition period.
well, let's move both mics over here as two fans that have had Sam
Yeah.
Darnold on their team. To be honest, I've never been sold on the guy. We traded way too much for him in the few years I believe it was actually only one season, if that, because Baker Mayfield was also on the squad, took over the starting role for a little bit. I don't think Sam Darnold's gonna be good enough. I think he was just in a good system. You got Kevin O'Connell, a great offensive coordinator. Or a great head coach. You can speak a lot of truth to that. But I'm not sold on Sam Darnold. I don't know. I feel like they're in a new era in Seattle. They do have two wide receivers that are good, but Sam Darnold, I just don't know if he can be the guy in a place that's not necessarily hugely offensive friendly.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk at Viking-centric later, where I think it was a smart move to move on for the asking price. But let's talk from the Seattle perspective. Robbie hit the nail on the head. It is them just getting younger. As Pierce just said as well, I don't know if he's the guy to really take you over the top. Another underwritten storyline here that I think is interesting is they take a swing last year trading for Sam Howell, and they just abandoned it. I honestly, if I were Seattle, I would have given him 1 year and potentially take the loss at what it is at a cheaper price and then found your future quarterback after that. I just don't know if Darnold's the long-term guy.
I think for this pick, you want to focus more on I think they kind of need an interior O-line guy. I think Gray Zabel makes sense. Maybe you're reaching a little bit. I think that's the only potential here. I'm a little shocked they didn't trade back because I feel like Zabel's the guy you want here if you're Seattle.
Yeah, they definitely need blockers. They didn't get anybody at all to block in free agency, which I thought was weird. You see GM John Schneider, who I've met a few times, really happy right now in the green room. So he looks like he's got his guy. But I will caution on Sam Howell a little bit because last season the reports in training camp were that the difference between Sam Howell and Geno Smith were the ocean and the beach.
That is a big difference.
So, yeah, it was between, I think it was a Grand Canyon reference, the distance between the sides of the Grand Canyon between the two of them. So Sam Howell, not their guy. Seattle pick coming up here. Pierce, any last thoughts?
And Sam Howell did play a few games with the injury of Geno Smith. I know it's not the same as being a consistent starter, but coming in, he was not looking good at all. So I think that might have been the icing on the cake to know that that's not their guy.
I think they may look to trade him in the coming
And
days.
it is Gray Zabel
What a call.
of North Dakota State.
How do you feel about it? Yeah, so Robbie, you like this pick, I assume.
Yeah, I do like this pick, and as Taylor just mentioned, Matthew Golden sliding, it would be Packers fashion for the receiver to slide to them and not take him. That would be Packers fashion. I think my father's going to be happy with this one. I'm expecting a text from him in a little bit. He did mock Gray Zabel in the past 2 mocks. He texted me in all caps, final mock, kid. So I think my dad's going to be happy with this one. I think Seahawks get a great blocker in Gray Zabel, of course, an FCS player, but North Dakota State, that's the FCS school you want to be drafting from.
The drip with this guy is the mustache itself. Big man with a nice mustache. I think that's drip. I didn't see the actual clothes he was wearing, but the mustache is drip in my opinion. Now, you did talk about how he's coming out of North Dakota State. He's not a power forward player, and that might be an interesting route that they took to go with not a power forward player. I mean, you look at it, they have a few players from this squad of North Dakota State to be good, but I don't know if they've had a offensive lineman come out of North Dakota State, if I remember right.
You know,
I've never heard of that before.
Seattle took Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. I know that a few years back to play tackle for them. He's been pretty good. But in terms of O-lineman, I know Ben Barch was North Dakota State at one point. I believe he's still with Denver playing pretty.
He was actually a very small school out, I believe, from like St. John.
wait.
But then they do have Cody Mock. From,
That's the guy with the
with
teeth?
The ginger
Okay.
mustache. Yeah.
Was
for
Ben
Tampa
Barch the
Bay.
guy that drank the weird protein shakes
Yes.
from Wisconsin Whitewater?
Oh,
that's
yes.
what it is.
So, update on the drip. He was wearing some nice jeans
Apologies
and a sweater.
Misuse of ball knowledge.
Kind of strange. It's a church outfit. I don't know if it's
Getting
a
a call
draft
here.
outfit. Kind
pass the-
of strange, but it is an interesting take. We talked about who has came from North Dakota State. I believe
Robbie's been called by the Packers. He's their pick.
the most notable name that comes to mind is Carson Wentz coming from North Dakota State, and he didn't last that long in the NFL as a starting QB. So, I mean, you go offensive line, they are kind of more of a trenches type team, so it might be a good pick for them.
Well, bless you. I've been told we're here for a little board update with both Scrabble and the big board, so we're gonna shift to that here.
We don't want to update on this board.
Okay, so let's first take a look at the big board. I think that Gray Zabel made sense. We talked about it right before the pick. Seattle needed a big guy, a guy up front to help them out, and I think it made most sense that they went there. Tyler Booker went a little earlier to Dallas. I think that he was probably their guy. I think had it not been for Booker getting taken by Dallas, they probably would have went to Booker here with Seattle. But Zabel now makes sense for Seattle. They needed a guard. They needed someone on the interior O-line. Zabel can also play center if you need it. He's a very versatile guy. Cincinnati, we talked about it. edge makes most sense. Those guys have been absolutely flying off the board. Let's go back to the Scrabble table and let's get a quick update. How are we feeling, Tom Moshe?
Feel awful right now.
I like the scoreboard, Kyle.
A lot of vowels on the table, and Taylor had a very impressive turn early. So
We're not looking good
not
now,
a lot of
though.
options.
We're not looking good now, though.
Shout out Hydra.
This is what the letters are looking like right now.
This is what it's all about. Right now, Rob and I are both tied at 50, and Taylor's at 114. This is what Hydra Athletic is about. We love being doubted, okay? We love being doubted. We're here for the opportunity. We love proving people wrong. As a matter of fact, when people count us out, it just takes the spotlight and the pressure off us. We shine in the dark. We shine in the dark.
One thing about a Hydra that people always forget, when you cut off one of its head, 2 more grows back. So we believe in the underdogs, and we like to bet on the little guy. It's David versus Goliath in this world, and we trust in the Davids here at Hydra.
Taylor, comments on the game?
All I can say about the game is that, one of my letters is describing how they're feeling right now with the scoreboard, but it's very early, and 6 of my 7 letters are vowels.
Domination thus far for Taylor Brettel.
It's early, though. This is not looking pretty for the long run, so it's Scrabble, man. You got to wait till the end.
Do you have any comments?
On what?
We're running a race in about a week and 2 days' time.
We are?
Well, we'll go back to the count.
Swing back over here. The pick is in. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are drafting. Now, Adam Schefter did tweet out Buccaneers picking with a ... So they might have been shipping off the pick. Ultimately, they decided to go with the pick. And after this short commercial break, we will find out exactly who they decided to go with.
I did just get off the phone, guys, so I will not be. I'm not very. You're not gonna be shocked when the pick is in because I think the camera's coming right here.
Wow, Robbie's been chosen by the Bucs.
I mean, I didn't know we had cameras ready for the NFL draft.
Right there, it's actually hooked up.
Yeah, this is actually
this was just for his draft night.
Yeah,
I didn't tell you guys. A surprise.
Now, what would you rate his drip, Pierce, if he were to have been drafted in this?
By the Bucs in this. Am I drafted by the Bucs in this?
I don't know if that's the move of being drafted to the Bucs.
How's that drip?
Didn't y'all face the Bucs not long ago in the playoffs a couple of years ago?
Back? We were robbed. Yes, we did.
So a little bit of a.
Is he going to go to
Shador?
Yeah, it's 2 picks away for Shador. It does.
Interesting.
Hey,
We're talking about Shador Sanders for those.
I'd be surprised if Pittsburgh doesn't look former UCLA quarterback Colin Schlee. I would be surprised.
Wow. I had Tampa Bay going cornerback here. I think it's interesting. I think Johnson or Barron. I wonder who they have.
No corners apart from the hybrid of Travis Hunter been selected yet.
No
Interesting
corners.
and good for Green Bay.
I also think someone to watch here could be Jahad Campbell. You look at their linebacking room. Levante David been a stud for the better half of a decade plus, but they definitely need some help on that defensive side.
Yeah, you want some youth too.
swing take here. The Buccaneers are pulling a Packers move, and they go Shador Sanders at pick number 19.
After the Baker Mayfield resurgence last year, Baker Mayfield, for all you fantasy players, was a top 5 quarterback last year, and I have him top 7 this year. Was doing my fantasy rankings yesterday as I prepare for the fantasy season.
As a Browns fan, one of the more sad moments, getting rid of Baker Mayfield and bringing in Deshaun Watson.
Here we go. Pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I can back you.
Let's see who they got. Pick number 19. We're over halfway through this draft. Once again, folks, appreciate you. Emeka Egbuka.
Emeka Egbuka.
Wow.
Over Matthew Golden. Thoughts?
Interesting pick. And look, I was a little bit of a Matthew Golden hater just because I think his 40 time pushed him up the board. Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, the much more proven talent, I think, over his tenure at Ohio State. Of course, the touchdown machine, as they called him. Emeka Egbuka, just an interesting fit for the Bucs because Godwin, Evans, McMillan. Interesting pick here.
Folks, we are going to, for the first time tonight, attempt to have a Zoom call, live guest join in as we've got Andrew on tap. He's in. We're going to admit him. This is an experiment, folks. This is an experiment. Andrew, do we have you? Can you hear us going on? Welcome to the draft party. Do you have any thoughts on the draft so far?
No, we can't hear him.
Yeah, I got it. Let's see. Yeah, any thought? Oh, wait, we're muted. My bad, folks. My bad. One second.
Technical.
Oh, God, he's giving his
Okay,
analysis.
it would help me if I was unmuted. But how are you doing this evening, Andrew? Welcome to the draft show. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we're in there. He's here. I think we are. It'll pick up his audio.
The first ever technical difficulties on Riley's Red
Yeah.
Zone. This doesn't
Riley's
happen a
Red
lot,
Zone.
guys.
We're attempting. Can he hear anything?
21.
Okay.
Shake your head if you can.
Yeah. Can you hear us, Andrew? Okay. Do you have any takes on the draft so far? How is the input?
Okay. We can't hear you. That's the issue.
That's the issue. Are you on mute by any chance, or are you unmuted? 1 second. Oh, we might have. Oh, folks, if this works at home, this could be
huge.
this could be huge for the program. I don't know if it's going to. This is a live experiment for the first time ever.
It's kind of like started, 2020. Like, let me.
Yeah.
I don't know if my mic's on.
Yeah, let's see if-
We've been out of the game for a while.
Let's see if we can get something, perhaps.
Here's who do the Broncos go?
Audio.
Broncos might trade the
I'm
pick,
gonna go like
honestly.
this.
Broncos could be looking to dish it off.
Okay, so this does work. Oh,
It's definitely,
yeah.
they're trying to get here, I'd assume. In front of
Okay.
Pittsburgh.
They would take a quarterback.
Let's see.
There can't be another guy. Real quick.
Real quick
keep
take.
texting.
So Denver is looking to potentially maybe trade, and that could be huge
Giants?
if the Giants
Cody,
do
what-
come or the
Giants,
Saints.
Giants are potentially looking to get back into the first round, according to Jordan Schultz. I think it's an interesting strategy. I can't believe you signed 2 quarterbacks and then potentially would trade back up to go get another one. But you signed 2 guys. You're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, is Wilson or Winston really a viable starting quarterback? I just don't know.
I think in
We
terms
lose
of,
them?
Oh no, he's gonna try on his phone.
all right, in terms of viableness, I think they're definitely viable starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And if you're New York, do you give up draft capital to draft a guy who you didn't really love to take 3? Like Shadur Sanders is still here for a reason. But
We got
do
our
have a
man.
Zoom
Oh,
call.
here we go.
We have a Zoom call. We got you, Andrew. If anyone can hear, what
All
are your
right,
thoughts on
I'm
the draft?
curious.
Welcome to the draft extravaganza. What do you make of what's happened so far?
I'm curious who you think the Vikings are taking.
Ooh, that's gonna be a good question. We're getting pretty close here at 24. I'm thinking who's gonna be available. With Zabel, I like that. I think they maybe go Malachi Starks if he's on the board. I like them going.
Do you
safe.
think Will Johnson's going to be on the board?
You're absolutely right, Andrew. I just absolutely missed that. If Will Johnson's available, that's an easy.
Who we
walk
take
to the
another
podium.
corner? Have him with Byron Murphy.
And pair him with J.J. McCarthy again.
Oof.
Yeah, that would be a very.
You got me
good potential.
salivating over here in Omaha.
Yeah, he's live. Didn't you literally have an exam potentially tomorrow that you're out here?
It's not till
Denver's
2
taking-
p.m.
Denver's taking a long
and
time with this
we're
pick, guys.
we're getting study done. I'm in a
Maybe trying to
classroom.
trade.
If they can't, they're
Yeah.
going to pick someone.
If I
So-
do think they stay, I think it's going to either be Golden, who could stretch the field, and
Any
the opposite of
where do you
Courtland
think
Sutton, really,
Shador
who's a jump
goes,
ball
Andrew?
specialist.
Based on your expertise, where do you think Shador Sanders winds up? Does he go first round?
I could see him falling to the second.
Oh, okay. You heard it here first. Here first.
Do you think we get another
Who's up?
quarterback
I'm
in the
just
first
looking
round?
at teams who need quarterbacks, unless someone trades in.
Yeah.
It's-
Pittsburgh's
it's
the only
Pittsburgh's
remaining
got
team,
nobody.
unless anyone else trades.
See, I see like Shador at like Vegas or something.
Ooh, that would be a sneak Shador with Tom Brady's impact there in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
Like,
that
I-
seems like
Geno
a.
Smith trade.
I like that.
I don't know about that just because they just
Pierce
extended.
McKnight
is out here down.
was
No,
rejected
listen,
by
listen.
the drip
They
king.
extended Geno Smith, and you got to think about they extended him, and
That's
you don't
true.
want a guy with a big ego like Shador Sanders being behind him. Because if one bad interception for Geno
Country boy
Smith,
Sanders
you got
with a big
Shador
ego.
Sanders
Checks out.
tweeting out saying I should be the guy. And I don't know if you want to do that in a Pete Carroll culture.
I think if he drops the second round, I think the Browns will take him at 33 most likely.
Yeah, and something to know about Pete Carroll, as soon as the ego became a concern for Wilson, he shipped him out. So Pete Carroll does not play around with that stuff.
I still like it personally. I think it could be.
I
a
think
play.
it would be
I think
fun.
it
I
could
think
be a
it would
play.
be a lot of fun. Big market for Shador. That's definitely where he wants to be.
I
don't know
like-
if he wants to be in
So
Cleveland.
is he you're a Vikings fan?
I'm a Vikings fan like Riley.
How do you feel about the result and how the team played last year?
Well, because we only lost to 2 teams.
Yep.
Let's just say that. It just happened that we lost to the same, or that lost them twice. One of them in the playoffs. I think expectations are going to be high this year. I think I don't know if we're going to meet them, but I see us getting in probably like around 10, 11 wins.
Or Matthew Golden.
Nice. We're going to look forward to it. Well, we appreciate you making the first inaugural
so
Zoom
much.
guest appearance
Yeah.
on the Riley's Red Zone Extravaganza.
I'm in the Will Johnson camp if he's on the board.
Okay,
Like
folks.
another corner. Even though we don't, Riley knows this, we don't draft corners well, but
Yeah, it's been a rough stretch recently, but I think I could see them dipping their foot in that pool again. We appreciate you, Andrew, making a guest appearance on the Extravaganza, and enjoy the rest of your night in Omaha there studying or just getting ready for whatever is there. And
Yep.
yeah.
Any
Awesome.
final
Thanks,
thoughts?
Riley.
Any final thoughts before you leave us?
I don't have anything else. It'll be interesting to see who we pick up
Well, we
or trade back.
Yeah, I think trade back is likely as well. We'll have to find out. But for now, shout out Andrew for making an appearance on the live stream, and we'll catch him in another video. Appreciate you, Andrew.
See you guys.
Samuel on the stage right now for the Broncos.
So that's right, folks. We do have Zoom interviews on the Red Zone channel. We're expecting some more later, perhaps, as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys we know are peaking later in the night.
Yeah,
So.
we do, specifically Commanders.
I mean, my team was they were set to be on the board right away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we try to get a big group of people with different fandoms. Obviously, Panthers here. We got 3 Packers though. I don't know.
Yeah, 3 Packers in the house tonight.
Yeah.
All right, who do we think is going here with the Broncos since they decided not to trade? I think they could go running back.
Receiver, running back, I think.
Yeah,
UNC guy.
Here
Omari
comes
and
the pick.
Hampton.
I think Hampton's a reach, but scouts love him. Interesting pick. I'm not a fan, but we'll see. I'm not a scout for a reason.
You know, Scadaboo, he's not going to go until like the 3rd round, but I think he's a guy that's people are sleeping on.
Oh,
Jade Barron.
The first corner taken, the first pure, strictly corner taken.
Other
And
than
he might be the best one in this draft. That could be a steal here for the Broncos.
Yeah, the big question was who was going to go first, Barron or Johnson. They go with Barron. What are your thoughts, Pierce?
I couldn't tell you much on this guy. I would say my dad is living in Austin currently. I've watched a lot of UT ball games, but they do have a lot of athletic guys. So if he's anything like the rest of their team, that he's a very athletic, and he's going to bring some swag. A lot of NIL probably went to him personally, and that's good for him. But it's a matter of will he be able to take the toughness of Sean Payton.
Yeah, Pierce, let me get that for a second because if I'm a wide receiver, I am shaking the night before and not going to bed really safely before I face the Denver Broncos. Pat Surtain and Jahad Barron. Now, the defensive player of the year you have, and you take another corner. So a double dip here by Sean Payton into the corner position. 2 elite corners now. The potential to really just throw receivers off their game and eliminate wide receivers when they're playing the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting move for sure. I think Denver's going to be a little bit of a force here, and I like that they made a little bit of move of what we saw with the Texans, what we saw with the Commanders, which is if you hit on your rookie quarterback, let's put the chips in because that rookie quarterback contract is one of the biggest advantages you can have. And so for them, they bring in Dre Greenlaw from San Francisco. They bring in Hufanga from San Francisco defensively. Some big boosts there. And we talked about the rookie quarterback contract. The team up on the clock right now has a big question mark right here, which is if they start a new rookie quarterback contract.
Yeah, and one last thing with the Broncos. Of course, Peyton Manning was special, unbelievable, one of the greatest to ever do it. But there's a reason the Broncos won that Super Bowl, and it's because of the no-fly zone. So Denver trying to maybe bring that back here, drafting another corner and potential to just shut down receivers.
I don't like you talking about that Super Bowl, but we'll segue from that. I don't know why they don't go running back here. I feel like you need somebody in the trenches, especially with a sophomore quarterback. He's obviously willing to throw the ball, but you have no one. I don't think they've had anyone relevant since Phillip Lindsay, who didn't last long on the Broncos roster.
Look, in a class like this where the running back position is super deep, I think, I mentioned some tech guys as a joke. I think you could steal Bashal Tootin in later rounds, a guy who had a 4.2 speed, excellent pass protection, good receiver, perfect frame, my ideal frame for running back in Bashal Tootin. This is a deep running back class, so it makes sense to wait. Cody Wagner's getting grabby over here.
Getting grabby.
I waited my turn. But I think this is a team that maybe could go Scadaboo later. It seems like he would fit the Peyton system as a tough guy, a tough, hard-nosed running back.
Which, for reference, who they have is Jaleel McLaughlin. That's who they got at running back right now, pretty much.
And
Which is fine.
May I note, for anyone who started Jaleel McLaughlin in fantasy, last year there was a week where he went negative. That means not only did he score no points, he scored less points than if you just left nobody in that spot. And I was a victim of Jaleel McLaughlin last year.
Klaus, we want to go take a quick look at our mock drafts over here. Let's take a brief look at that. Because I think this is
the picks in.
Picks. We'll take a quick look.
All right, I'm swinging it back.
We had Shador. It's going to take them a second to come out. Picks in.
Be ready to hit.
We'll come back out in a second. Okay. Shador Sanders, we have over here. I think that's who they'll take at 21. But the question is Jackson Dart as well. Those are the two potential guys. Shador and Jackson Dart are the two guys that they could take here quarterback-wise. They could also go with the receiver. That's who Riley has. He has them taking Matthew Golden in this spot. The big split here is, does Pittsburgh take a quarterback or not? And is it Dart, Sanders? Even Milroe's been mentioned. Hey, let's go back to the couch.
Yeah, we're swing right back. Do we see the second running back or the second quarterback taken here, or do we go defense here for the Steelers?
Big pick here.
Pick is in, and it will be
Harmon from Oregon.
a defensive tackle.
Sanders slide continues. So I watch for the Giants out in New York, tri-state area. I look out for the Saints as well, and I look out for Cody Wagner's dog pound coming back in here as Shador Sanders continues to fall. And it scares me that teams are trying to trade because the Packers are almost up, and they've been known to trade out. And, Goody doesn't care if he does it to the hometown fans. He's going to do what's right for the team.
Well, but here's what's tricky here. Now, if a team didn't trade up before the Steelers to go get him, there's no rush for any of these teams. You're exactly right, though. It's going to be literally, I think, as Cody's a little bit talked about, right now Cleveland could sit at 33 and get him, or New York or New Orleans has to jump Cleveland, but they don't have to jump anybody else.
I think all three teams are in a good spot because, look, New Orleans was linked to Dart. Right?
Yeah.
The Giants and Browns now, Sanders and Milroe, whatever they want to do there. I think Dart is the last guy to go. Personally, I think McMilroe's athletic tools where I have a guy down in Bama, I won't say his name, who does work for the team there, said scouts were in love with his athletic ability, ran an unofficial 4.2, was bumped up to a 4.3. So I think scouts fell in love with his athleticism, and he wasn't an Anthony Richardson type where he didn't get much burn in college. No, Jalen Milroe was a playoff quarterback multiple years. So I could see Jalen Milroe going as the third quarterback. Saints still get Jackson Dart. So I think those teams don't have to jump up now. I think you guys are right.
Yeah, I think the Browns, they wanted to Shador Sanders to begin with. You heard like months ago when Shador Sanders was going to be a top 2 pick, that the Browns were going to probably take him at 2, that they liked him. So I don't know why that would have changed that much. You would think that front office and Andrew Berry still likes Shador Sanders. They might be able to get him at 33, unless someone else moves up.
Yeah, and I think for the Giants, Milroe is, a great case for them because, like you mentioned, Wilson and Winston, so now Milroe, kind of the least pro-ready out of the 3 guys in this one, gets to sit behind a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Funny quarterback in Jameis Winston.
Go ahead, Pierce.
Interesting maybe take here. All right, for the Chargers. Maybe not the first round, but if it comes down to it, Jackson Dart's on your board in the second round, do you take Jackson Dart to make him a backup, hard-nosed, to the Chargers? Now, Justin Herbert.
Cody just said they could in the first, but
I don't know. Now, Herbert is the guy in the Chargers, but he's got a lot of injuries.
Am I hearing this right?
I disagree with him that the Chargers, but I'm saying Dart could be a first.
I'm thinking injury prone. That's kind of what I think of with Justin Herbert. He's got so many injuries. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying you could develop a Jackson Dart type of guy way down the line.
Pierce,
It's a potential
I will
idea.
cut you off. I'm not going to ask. Are you aware of how much money Justin Herbert's being paid?
Yes, a lot. I'm a Justin Herbert type of
If you're
guy.
a team
I'm just thinking for the
if you're a team like the
future.
Dolphins, where you have Tua, who I don't think is very great, you could draft a quarterback, but you don't because how much you're paying him. You got to wait this contract out. And Herbert's been to the playoffs twice, albeit
Now-
2 horrible playoff performances.
Okay, what if you play Scrabble on him, if you will? Let's play Jackson Dart gets drafted in the second round of the Chargers. Justin Herbert gets hurt. Wait, Jackson Dart comes in, performs good like Joe Milton did for the Patriots. You trade Jackson Dart to like Miami, and you steal somebody.
That's some next level thinking that, I think Mike Ross and Harvey Specter would have a tough time coming up with. I don't think that's what Jim Harbaugh does here. But, Harbaugh's a crafty guy. Very crafty. I actually thought he was going to try to get one of the offensive weapons or Kenneth Grant, who we saw go way early.
Well, let's talk about what the Chargers did. You mentioned it. They want to run that ball. They've got their They signed Najee, but it doesn't rule out running back. They bring back Mike Williams, you mentioned as offensive weapon. They spend the most money on Mekhi Becton to bring him over from Philadelphia to get some meat up front for the offensive line. Defensively, they bring in Dante Jackson, but they're losing a little bit, not a ton. They do lose Joey Bosa for what he was worth at this point in his career. Christian Fulton played all right for him on the outside, and then Josh Palmer is a receiver that has kind of been pretty good for him over these last few years. They lose him as well.
Palmer's gone?
He's gone.
Oh, he is
Josh
gone. I
Palmer.
was about to say a
Where'd he
great
go?
special team guy.
Buffalo. He
It
went
was
to
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Great special
one
team
thing-
guy.
Pierce, you go first.
No, that's all I got. It's a great special team guy.
The Chargers GM the other day did hint at a Najee Harris exit immediately after signing him this season, so that is interesting. You do mention Hampton, who's still on the board. The Chargers love to run the football, whether it's one running back in Harris, two running backs in Dobbins, three running backs in Gus Edwards. Screw it, Harbaugh might add a fourth running back.
Kamani
in
Vidal
Hampton.
is over there.
Kamani Vidal, 5 running backs for Jim. You know Harbaugh loves his hard-nosed football. So let me give the mic to Cody Wagner here.
You know, I don't know exactly where Los Angeles goes. I was thinking there was potential they were going to go Harmon, but Harmon's now off the board. Los Angeles, they have a lot of stuff open to them now. Potentially a wide receiver they may look at. Matthew Golden's still on the board, wide receiver a team need. If they like Golden, they may go with him, but who knows? I mean, in the end, it's still only draft night. You never know if these guys are going to pan out. We make so much of this tonight, but in 5 years' time, a lot of these dudes will be no names, and a lot of these dudes will be stars of the league.
Wow, big picture stuff.
Whatever happens tonight, we can say all we want, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter that much. It's just a fun night to watch, gather together, and get back in the football mood.
Well, how about that? That's what we're all about here at the Extravaganza. Cody taking a big picture, enjoying some football. But let's go back to small picture Chargers. We could see anything here. I originally thought maybe they'd fall in love with Colston Loveland, get him back with Harbaugh, trade up for him. That's long out the window. I've seen Travion Henderson mocked to the Chargers over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I have as well, but like, running back really isn't a team need.
Yeah, they've got a plethora of them.
It's just like you kind of mentioned, do they want the future? Because Najee's probably what they're doing is they're treading the tires on guys who are worn down that you can get one more year out of it. You know, it's like you go and buy that 02 Buick from the shop. You can get a little bit more from it, but it's probably not your long-term car.
And I mean, Harbaugh is very well acquainted with Travion Henderson. Of course, on the opposite sideline, had to play him a lot during those college years. But I think it's interesting to see what LA, because they have a whole plethora of options in front of them. And it doesn't feel like they need someone, if you will.
He's not afraid to pick a Buckeye. He already has J.K. Dobbins, who is a former Buckeye. And then you got Mel Kiper's top 5 right now. The number 4 guy was an offensive tackle at Ohio State. So rivalry in college does not really matter to Harbaugh when he's talking about his NFL team.
We got some breaking draft.
Yeah, that's Josh. That's Josh Simmons.
News out of the college football world. Kent State will be now dropping down to D3 for all athletics next season.
That might be the best move for the school. That might be the best move.
And Pierce was alluding to earlier Josh Simmons, an offensive tackle out of Ohio State. He's a special talent. I wonder how long it's going to take until he goes.
Yeah, the thing about Josh Simmons, that knee injury has really pushed him down this board. If he doesn't have that knee injury, I think he goes as one of the top tackles, if not the top tackle. But the biggest thing that scares a scout is an O-lineman with a knee injury. So Josh Simmons, he's sliding down the board for reasons. And the Chargers here, they do have 50 seconds left, like Taylor just
That's the
mentioned.
biggest thing that scares them right now. Is like, are they going to get the draft pick off?
Maybe they wanted to trade out and they just can't find a partner.
Or maybe a power move
I don't
by
hate the
Harbaugh.
trade out. I don't hate the trade out for the Chargers because like it's kind of like they're kind of an injury team. That's what they really are unfortunate with. So maybe trade somebody.
There's been a number of interesting slides tonight, I'll tell you, Riley. Jahad Campbell, one I'm keeping my eye on at the moment. Shador, we kind of expected. A lot of people were talking about before the draft. But yeah, Jahad Campbell and Will Johnson are the ones that stick out to me.
On the ESPN graphic, the clock has ran out at this point for the Chargers. It is
triple
hit
zeros.
zero. And the
But
pick
the
is
pick
in,
is
of
in.
course.
Okay.
Just
Makes
a delay.
sense.
But yeah, Cody, I think every year the linebackers always intrigue me as a position that seems like for some reason is falling out of importance.
Yeah,
and
the
teams
edge
are not.
has really
Yeah,
risen
the edge has taken over because we
boost.
haven't seen a linebacker taken. I don't believe unless you count Jalen Walker as that
Jalen
hybrid.
Walker as the hybrid guy. Besides that, a pure linebacker.
Well,
not really
and then
drafted.
this class, you have to look at. You have Campbell up there, and then next you go to UCLA, he's been projected in like the second round. It's kind of a big drop off here.
We haven't talked about it yet, but Bosa's not on the squad no more, so that could be a new idea to get somebody off the edge. Maybe you go Pierce here. That could be an interesting. I mean, Hardball can set him straight when it comes to character. I feel, in my opinion.
And receivers wise, you look at the receiver room right now. Who's going to be out there? Mike Williams, a big guy who can catch the jump ball. Reunited with him. Lad McConkey, a twitchy slot guy, can get open over the middle of the field. So why not pair him with a third guy, Matthew Golden, who really contrasts their skills? Now you have three guys: you have a jump ball, a deep threat, and a twitchy slot guy in Lad McConkey.
I mean, I really like your thought there. I think Matthew Golden is maybe the top fit in terms of scheme and the type of guy you're looking for. Otherwise, best available, maybe Jahad Campbell.
Yeah, that certainly is something to see. The pick is in, but they did take all their time. Chargers able to squeak into the playoffs, and as I think you alluded to, not the best performance that they get. The breaks. Yeah, exactly. Squeaking
I think
in.
though they gotta be happy with their first year.
Yeah, for sure. But that's where I
productive
was going to
first
go with it. Is like, can they really make a mark in this AFC West with the Broncos and the Chiefs still in heavy contention?
And to me, they made a great pick last year. The tackle out of Michigan. What's his name? The tackle they drafted last year.
Joe Alt.
Joel. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was a great
guy.
pick and perfectly fits what Harbaugh wants. I mean, a great selection for them, and they got to be happy with the job Harbaugh's done.
Quick question before the pick: who's the next team in the AFC West to come out besides the Chiefs? Who's next?
What do you mean?
Like, who's the next team to be on top? That's not the Chiefs.
Chiefs. I'd say the Broncos.
Yeah.
Omari and Hampton is the selection.
Hampton. Taylor Brettel. It's time.
Yeah.
Green Bay number 23. Taylor, join me here on the couch. I want Taylor Brettel by my side.
We're going to get the Packers
right here on the couch.
insight. Well, first,
All right. So
okay, but really quick, we're going to get a lot of Packers analysis, but Omari and Hampton, they just once again continue to run that football is what they want to do. Okay, so we got Pierce McKnight here on the drip check. What are you feeling here?
We are wearing sweatpants to get drafted to the NFL in the first round. You're a top pick and you're wearing sweatpants.
if it's Josh Simmons, I'm leaving.
The best thing
I
he
am
had
leaving.
was a chain, and like everyone has a chain nowadays. I don't like the drip from this guy.
All right, so no drip there, but we're going to focus on the most important pick of the night. The Green Bay Packers on the board, Kyle Marshak.
Before we get to the Green Bay Packers pick, I'd like to let you guys know that this Scrabble game is getting real close. Taylor Brettel had a 50-point lead at one point, and I've closed it within 9 points. And we were
man.
all on our last letters.
Dude, we got the Warriors.
Dude,
Taylor Brettel.
I played a Z, leaving the Z connected to a triple word open, and
Rob is
Kyle-
not close, Kyle says.
Robert Bateman expected to be in last, and he is in last right now. But the Green Bay Packers on the clock here, 23rd overall pick. Rob Bateman now coming in. I believe he wants the mic. He's got nothing to say.
I'm locked in, man. There's 6 minutes until this pick, and now I'll say it once again. You know, I was joking about the place kicker earlier. I do think Green Bay needs a kicker.
No trust in McManus.
I don't trust in McManus. He's aging out. We saw what happened with Mason Crosby in the later years.
Nearly convicted on
and
some allegations.
finding a kicker is a really important thing for a franchise. Now we're staring at Lambeau Field, crowds packed out with Green Bay fans. In all honesty, I wouldn't mind a lineman. If we take Josh Simmons, that would work out well. Robbie Ackerley would leave. That's a W. And we get a nice lineman.
Some terrible analysis from the 9-minute mile, but I think right now the Green Bay
All
Packers.
right, so are you running it too?
I mean, what day is it?
What day is it?
May 3rd.
My knees hurt that day, unfortunately, so I'm not going to be able to participate.
Yep.
But right now, I'm going to go across the board here. Top fives for the Green Bay Packers. Taylor Brettel, you first. Who's your top three players?
No,
three
top five. I'm going top two.
going top five?
No, I'm going top two.
Top
you have
two.
to take a receiver or you have to take Will Johnson. They're both there. I mean, I'm sorry. You have
players.
to.
I want either Will Johnson or Josh Simmons.
I'm going to go Will Johnson or Matthew Golden here. Maxwell Harrison, though, I think a sneaky pick. I've seen a lot of mocks. A very
I trust
undersized
in
corner.
The Ohio State University.
Maxwell Harrison, Will Johnson, or Matthew Golden. They won't go Golden. I would love it. Or like Rob said, Josh Simons. I would hate it, but we'll see about that.
Why would you hate it? Having an O-lineman is big.
That comes off a knee injury. I'm good. Thank you.
We have Jordan Love. We need to protect him. If there's a strong lineman in there, injured or not, we need that.
Question: who do we sign in the offseason? A guard to a lot of money. Question: where do linemen wear the braces? Their knees, because they get hurt a lot. Question: do you want a guy who in his younger years in college had an ACL tear that pulled him all the way to the back of the draft board?
Not going to tear it again.
We'll see about that one.
Actually, you
Is
can
that?
tear an ACL twice.
Well, yeah, you know.
Might tear it again.
I'm taking Robbie with the pick.
Me?
Yeah, Robbie going in for offensive line.
6'1", 315.
Robbie actually.
You used to play offensive line, right?
Yep.
Taylor, you want Golden here?
Golden or Johnson?
Golden Johnson, sneaky Maxwell Harrison with a 9.63 relative athletic score.
It just feels like they're there, and it has to be Golden or Johnson. And knowing the Packers, they won't take them. You'll get the overreactions, and it'll end up being okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if D-line's taken, though. I wouldn't be too stunned.
Look, Rob alluded to it earlier. The Packers do their damage in the receiving core on the second day. He mentioned the guys we have now, but let's look at Jordy Nelson. Let's look at Greg Jennings. You can go. You can go to Cobb. You can go all the way down to the.
Adams.
You can go all the way down to day 3 where they took Donald Driver, who's the receiving leader in history. Jared Boykin, shout out there, interesting one. You can go down the list and just name random Packers receivers. How about Jared Abbrederis?
Wisconsin legend. Good kick returner.
Jeff Janis has the record for the most receiving yards in a single drive in NFL history.
I don't think your
103.
receiver is a good pick here.
You do or don't?
I
does
don't.
not.
I do not.
You don't like Matthew Golden?
No, I do not. Why would we take a player who does the same exact thing as 2 of our wide receivers? Doesn't make sense.
Want to catch the ball?
Well, okay.
None of
we
them
did
do
lead the
that,
league in
so-
drops. We did lead the league in drops.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
We can say we because we own
We
stock.
are shareholders. Only team that can do that.
So all 3 of you are shareholders.
I have the
in
plaque.
Packers?
Yeah.
Since like 2011, it's dated. It's been a while. Yeah.
My mood for the next week does rely on this pick.
They're taking a while.
Which, remember, might impact the run as well at that point.
When is that again?
Robbie's knee's going to be hurt. Rob might go to the run. Robbie will leave depending on who's picked. Rob will stay to it. There's a lot at stake. I'll be here no matter what, though. We'll at least have one of the three.
My presence, Rob's mood, a lot on the line here in the next 2 minutes and 17 seconds here as Green Bay yet to submit the ticket.
Honestly, if they shop this pick and somehow trade out of it, I'd be very
That's not
happy with
crazy.
that.
Yeah,
The crowd might hate it, but the ball knowers will love it.
Now,
Well, that's the thing is I trust the front office of the Green Bay Packers. You know, everyone kind of judges the moves they make, but we're not a team that's going to make a big move that's risky. We'll make moves, we just don't make big ones.
Yeah, and there's a reason they've only been in the top 15 at, 2 times, is it, in the past decade with Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness, who, interesting. But,
I like Lucas Van Ness. He had a good season last year.
yeah, he's a big boy out of Iowa, grass-fed, corn-fed Big Ten guy. Rashawn Gary yet to take the next step that people kind of expected out of one of 6 perfect prospects out of high school in the 24/7 era.
if they traded out of the first round, there might be some riots here. But if they can move back, that might be a smart.
Depends what
I don't
the haul
think trading
is.
out of the first round's an issue, depending on what we get. You know, if the
key.
package is right,
The return is key.
Green Bay fans, you have to realize, we have gone through it in the first round. I can't honestly name a year in the past 3-4 years where the Packers have picked who the fans expected. So we'll see what happens here.
Quick segue. Will Johnson from Adam Scheffler has confirmed that the reason that he has not been picked yet is because of the knee injury. He has officially confirmed that. That's why teams are hesitant on them. But back to the Packers fans.
So, Will Johnson or maybe Golden. Taylor Brettel agrees. Rob Bateman looking for the offensive line and Josh Simons. Not sure which one. Pick is in, though, here in Green Bay, and a big pick.
It's probably going to be a big build-up, right? And once they select
I mean, this is the biggest event in the history of Green Bay, barring a sporting event. And this classifies maybe as a sporting event, but this is the biggest event in the history of Green Bay. Look how many people are there. I mean, this is
The entire
this
town is there.
They doubled the population tonight. They mentioned before. An interesting setting. If you've never been to Green Bay, you got to get out there. Just pack your winter coat.
Winter coats, plural.
segue. This may be the biggest event in Riley's Red Zone history as well. Shout out to
Do we get a Virginia Tech baseball Tootin pick to back up Josh Jacobs plus 10,000? $1 to win $1,000. What would you do?
I mean, look, a Hokie, like I mentioned, plus 350 to go in the first round. So concerningly low odds. And Vegas, they're up to something when the odds look a little skewed.
Yeah, it's 2 or nothing in that group, in my opinion. Just first round.
Packers go Dorian Strong here as a corner. Imagine that.
So
Will Johnson would be my ideal pick here. That like if it's Will Johnson, I'm happy. If it's Josh Simons, I'm
It would be crazy
and
if,
if it's Matthew Golden, I will be a little upset.
It would be crazy if they go Will Johnson and then Jair stays. Imagine that room you'd have.
Wow, so it's out on the stage here is Goodell, joined by some company. You see Mark's head in the crowd. Any other corners here besides Will Johnson that you're looking out for, Rob?
Who's the Old Miss guy? I can't remember.
Trey Amos.
Yeah, he's a good pick, but Johnson is clearly the better player. So I prefer Johnson over Amos.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys got to remember, you guys signed Nate Hobbs as well, in addition to
Exactly. Yeah, his is an interesting contract because he has a lot of incentives if he really plays.
More of a slot corner, so we are looking for that outside guy to replace Jair Alexander.
Well, Keyshawn Nixon has said he's not going to play special teams this year. He's only going to focus on corner, but I don't
see
know how
about
much
that one.
impact that will make.
He's a liability in coverage half the time, so. Packers now really dragging this one out as expected. I think it'll be corner. Maybe a James Pierce here, a sneaky edge rusher. I know Goody said that they have confidence in their edge rushers. Mark Murphy here to make the pick. Do something great. Harrison, Johnson, or maybe Matthew Golden.
I'm doing cardio, I'm active, so I'm staying fit all around.
Come on, Mark.
Oh
my
he's gonna
God.
For the folks at home, this may take a minute. You know, this is like
Look at everyone just taking in the moment.
Johnson, Will Johnson from Michigan.
Wait, you were saying the one at the lineman, I thought.
Will Johnson,
No,
Matthew
that's not.
Golden, or
No,
Maxwell Harrison?
That
Those
is
are the
my
three.
second pick.
Those are my three.
here we go.
There it is.
They're going receiver.
Receiver.
Matthew Golden, Matthew Golden, Matthew Golden.
It's got to be
Oh my God.
Golden! Let's go! Come on!
Oh my God. Robbie.
We got two fans
Come
celebrating.
on! Let's go! Rob, hey. Remember this face. It'll be in Matthew Golden Hall of Fame highlight tapes. Look at this face right here. Let's go, Rob. Get hype, baby.
They are electric for the pick right now.
Call my girlfriend.
He's making a call to the girlfriend right now to let them know. But Rob, you feel differently.
Okay, so here's my thing with the Green Bay Packers, right? We had a lot of injury issues last year, especially with the wide receiver core. And, you know, funny enough, we have 4 guys who are arguably wide receiver 2s. So you're really just hoping one guy takes the jump. Jaden Reed, great all over the field. Christian Watson, deep threat. Romeo Dobbs had a great breakout in the middle of the season. And Dontavian Wicks out of UVA last season had a fantastic year as well. So now we're adding a 5th wide receiver into that core, which, don't get me wrong, Golden could be our wide receiver 1, but that also means one of those guys is going to have to be the wide receiver 5. And I feel like we needed a corner more. I always love taking O-line. You want to build your team inside out. So I don't hate the pick, but I do feel there was better options on the board for the Packers. You know, when you watch our team, I don't think wide receiver is the biggest glaring issue. So that's the only reason I'm not ecstatic in calling my girlfriend as Robbie Ackerley is right now.
Sure. Well, now the Vikings already have their pick. We're going to briefly join Cody with the big board here as we make this switch. So let's go here.
While you're walking over, though, can we talk about how the Vikings made a pick in about 30 seconds and the Packers took it all the time they had?
They took 6 minutes.
Yeah, it took the Packers a minute. What I want to talk about here is a lot of the skill guys going off the board. You see a Buka, then Hampton, then Golden. In these last 5 picks, even a cornerback in Jahdae Barron, it feels like we were light on a lot of the skill guys early. It was a lot of guys in the trenches. We saw guards, D tackles, a lot of edge guys taken early, but now we're starting to see a lot of the skill guys drop off the boards. I think we're going to get a little murky as we come down the stretch in this first round. Let's go back over to the couch.
Swing back over here.
He's getting the hang of this. Here we
Now
go.
Golden did make an announcement, and he is currently right now to the Packers fans. We do not have the audio of the full interview.
I'm not going to get
We
his
will turn
copyright,
it
but
up.
we're going to turn it up just a little. Oh, he just gave a hype speech. Wow. If that doesn't excite the fans.
Rob is still stone cold face, has not made a smile yet. All right. Well, we are moving on to the other NFC North
Yeah,
team.
I'm going to give my expertise here because it's the team
Take it
I
over.
know the best. Okay, so phenomenal offseason for the Vikings, right? They let Sam Darnold go. Not scheduled, but we could get a guest appearance at this point. We'll see. But a phenomenal offseason, in my opinion. For the price that was going to be to keep Sam Darnold, I don't think he had the ceiling to take you all the way. I think that was kind of peak of what we saw. So I think it was really smart that even if McCarthy isn't the home run, I think the odds of him being a home run are higher than if you just stick with Darnold and are kind of content. You at least need to swing for the fences there. What they do in the offseason, they beef up both sides of the trenches. You get Ryan Kelly and Will Fries from Indianapolis at center and guard. And then on the defensive side, you get Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave from San Francisco. In addition, you go and get Isaiah Rodgers at corner from Philadelphia. So where does that leave your needs? What you lose in the offseason with Sam Darnold, which at this point you're going with McCarthy, you lose Cam Bynum. That's of note because Metellus for Minnesota plays all over everywhere, and I have a feeling I don't know if they really want him playing full-time safety. I do think safety could be the pick here for them. They also lost Daniel Jones, but otherwise, they didn't lose a whole ton there. So where are the needs? Left guard. Blake Brandel is decent, but not the best. That's their one hole left on the offensive line. Corner, they could use badly. They do bring Byron Murphy back, but then you have Isaiah Rodgers, and then it's can you get somebody else to step up after that? So that's where I think the pick could be. And you add the safety as Cody just was on the white. No, that's,
I think Riley Klaus is the only Vikings fan that ever considered Daniel Jones was even on the roster. So highlight to him even saying that.
they're going to get a comp pick for him, though. That's the thing, because he signed for $14 million. That's a notable loss.
Watching the Matthew Golden film, I think the Packers just won the Super Bowl, if I'm being honest. Matthew Golden.
Watched him play before?
I have at Texas, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
Well, you were acting
Austin
like
guy
that.
here. I wasn't paying attention to the offensive line or the defensive line for Texas, but Golden is a dog. He will be great for Jordan Love. I think it's going to be a great pick. The biggest thing is, can he play in the cold? I'm not sure where he was before Austin, but Austin, Texas is a very hot place considered for a cold place like Green
Look,
Bay.
and they take the deep threat guy because the deep threat the Packers currently have is going to be out until at least November in Christian Watson. So you get a guy, Matthew Golden, who's a better talent than Christian Watson and, can replace him till November, and then Watson comes back. This Packers offense electric. Riley, I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask him a question. Okay. Do you think safety-wise it's Eman Wari?
I think they go Starks.
You think Starks here?
Yeah.
Live reaction here for Riley Klaus.
Here's the pick.
Okay, that is fine. That is very fine. That is Donovan Jackson. That's the definition.
And not Simmons. Wow.
No, because that's a
but
tackle.
A
They
tackle.
don't need
I know
tackle at all.
they need a guard.
Yeah, they don't need
But
tackle. They need
That's
left
interesting.
guard.
That wasn't the Ohio
I like
State
it. I like
offensive
it
line we thought
for
would go in the first
Minnesota.
round, but hey.
They left guard was the last weakness they had. Okay, Houston is trading. The IHOP
It's
trade
the
alert,
Giants.
everybody.
It's going to be the Giants. The Giants are trading back up into the first round, according to Adam Scheffner
Oh,
right
the
now.
Giants are
It will be
getting
New
back up.
York. New York will be drafting Shador Sanders right here with the Texans' former pick.
Or Jackson Dart.
In bigger news, Kyle has come back in Scrabble.
I don't care about Scrabble.
Guys, the Robbie Ackerley draft fantasy rankings have been updated. You see Matthew Golden, the first receiver in the fantasy rankings, ahead of Chase, ahead of Jefferson, ahead of Lamb, way ahead of that cornball of Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Now, we talk about the
Bay.
Giants. There's a reason that no one for the preseason Hard Knocks accepted this year because of how bad it was when the Giants moved on from Saquon Barkley. With this big trade back into the first round, they could be getting Shador Sanders. Now, that will be 3 big names in their quarterback room. It could be great for the future, but now Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson are getting up there in age. The Giants may have made a big save
Now-
to their head coach's career and the general manager's career.
Now, I'll tell you why I think this is a quarterback, because I think Los Angeles was a sneaky QB destination for somebody. As they did get Matthew Stafford back for now, they came to an agreement, but it doesn't feel like he's a long-term guy. So let's talk about the Giants again. So earlier tonight, they did what they were supposed to. They get Abdul Carter. They've done a lot of work on Shador Sanders. Jackson Dart also on the board here. It's probably one of those two, whoever they feel more comfortable about. But I think it's smart by the Giants to jump the Rams, go get likely a quarterback. It could not be. But now they were smart. Instead of forcing a pick at 3 or doing anything, they get a high-class player in Abdul Carter, and now they can pair it with whoever they get here. It could be Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart looks like that might be the pick.
Update on the trade, though. We do have the
what's-
Giants only got the 25th overall pick. They gave to the Texans a 34th overall pick and a 99th and a third-round pick next year. Betting analysis for Robbie.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you checked the books this morning, like you should have, children, Shador Sanders' odds flipped with Jackson Dart, and the second quarterback to be drafted, the favorite -135, became Jackson Dart. Shador Sanders turned to plus money. So if you checked your books, you checked in with Vegas, like you should have after you got your good night's sleep on this beautiful draft day eve.
Last time I checked, it was -200 for Jackson Dart to be the second quarterback off the board. That could be big bucks if you chose Dart early on in draft betting.
This is an interesting settlement. No matter what happens here, but to one last thought on Riley's Vikings. I really think it's interesting that they go guard there, because I think they wanted Zabel, right? Is what I would guess. He's off the board, so they go in a different direction.
Yeah, I do think Zabel would have been the pick if he was there, but clearly he was really well-liked for the NFL. He was even mocked the other day, I saw a lot yesterday, to the Niners in the early teens. I think it became an option where he was not going to be available. It seemed like they maybe attempted a trade back, but honestly, I think that they took a decent player with a need, and that's really a missing piece, because I'm telling you, I think the Vikings actually watch out for him. They have everything they need to succeed with J.J. McCarthy. That's dependent on him. If he's good, they're good. If he's not, they're not.
Yeah.
One thing to note is the NFC North got better, and it's kind of hard for them to do that. I feel like the Bears even got a little bit better with theirs.
I think Klaus said that the Bears and Vikings were going to be top of the division this year. I think the Packers just flipped that on its head.
Now, that is very heavily biased, but, you know.
That's close. Just
Where? Bias.
I think if I'm being as objective as possible, the NFC North is currently the best conference best division in the NFL. I mean, it's so tough. That 4 group of teams is some of the best in the entire league. Like, I would say that they're 4 of the top teams in the top 10 teams in the entire league.
I don't know if you can say that, because you got to look at the AFC West. I mean, even the AFC North. The North might run the NFL for both the conferences, but you can't forget about the West. I mean, you got to talk about how much of a competition it was to get that 1 or 2 wild card spots for the Broncos and the Chargers. It's going to be rowdy. It's like a little bit different
Yeah,
in the
but
AFC, NFC North.
they just don't seem as dominant over out of division opponents.
We got to talk about the jobs of the Giants. I mean, I touched on it a little bit before we went back to the Minnesota, but, like, I feel that the job security is very on the line.
Yes.
This pick is huge. I think if you go Jackson Dart here, it's too much of a risk for their jobs, because if Jackson Dart doesn't pan out, they're out the window and after this season, I feel. But if you go to Shador, I'm sure that the ownership would rather have Shador because he's more of a safer pick.
Is he though?
It's gonna be a quarterback though.
Yes, quarterback 1,000%.
Okay. It's gonna be a quarterback, right?
Quarterback, no
you'd
matter
assume,
what.
but because I was, as you kind of maybe missed it, but like jumping the Rams here is significant. I think the Rams like Jackson Dart. So for that reason, I think they jumped ahead to go get him.
Scratch
they
that.
had to scratch just to get Stafford back for even one more year.
We have another trade. The Falcons are moving back into the first round for the Rams spot at number 26. So I guess the Rams might have been looking for QB, saw that the Giants are taking a QB instead. They decided to dish their pick to the Falcons.
And now the Rams think Dart trade out. I think Dart's the pick here, right? If you say the Rams like Dart,
I think it's got to be.
and the odds for the this morning.
I don't have confirmation of exactly what
People are gone now.
they got.
Packers pick. That's crazy.
That's why the draft will never be back in Green Bay, because they don't only have a fan base of their own team. They don't care about the draft other than themselves. So this will be the last time the Green Bay will host an NFL draft.
Spoken live by Pierce McKnight.
One more thing on Green Bay. My final comment. What an absolute smack in the face to Aaron Rodgers. That in Jordan Love's third year, you give him the receiver, and you never give Rodgers a first-round receiver.
Pick is in. Here it is.
This is a big one. You got to think it's a quarterback. Likely Jackson Dart is where we're leaning. Jackson
Oh
Dart.
my gosh, it's Jackson Dart.
All right, talk about it, boys.
Wow. I mean, I personally like Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders, but I feel like for the system of the Giants, they can probably need a swag type of guy. I think a little bit more swag is in the with Shedeur Sanders instead of Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's got a little bit more grit to him. I like the style. I think he's a very good development, which I think in the QB room, development will be crucial here because they have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. The only issue is those guys are pretty much washed at this point. So what analysis can they really give Jackson Dart? They got a little bit of, I feel like the best thing for Jackson Dart, Coach Gruden did talk about it a little bit. Russell Wilson did know how to get down when he was sliding after the line of scrimmage. So I think that would be crucial for Jackson and Dart.
Yeah, I got two things here. First of all,
Traded for
first of all, I saw a quote the other day from an unnamed coordinator, but they said basically if they had the first pick in the draft and they had the bet on a quarterback, somebody said Jackson Dart. But second of all, if you're New York, you're taking a swing on his quarterback, who do you think is their week one starter?
It's Russell Wilson. Yeah, it's got to be Russell
I think
Wilson.
that's got to be
and
the
I
answer,
think
but it's going to be interesting to watch.
Dart
this
is
season.
super talented, and people were comparing him to Zach Wilson, that his pro day went super well, but Zach Wilson got thrown right into the fire. Dart, now a guy with unbelievable talent, gets to sit and wait. And I hate to mention him again, but you know who sat and wait and is now elite? Jordan Love. You know, sitting and waiting is a proven thing in the NFL. And another thing that's kind of proven, Vikings, McCarthy, Bengals, Joe Burrow. Why not take the hot white guy and let him play quarterback?
Now, I was never going to bring that up in some cases, but there's a lot of situations that it's a little bit different.
It's a phenomenon, the TikTok and its catch on.
This is a huge thing for the Giants because this is an Ole Miss quarterback. The last one was Eli Manning that they drafted from Ole Miss. So that's kind of an ironic thing to talk about there.
Yeah, I think this is – well, here's my concern with this, though, right, is we talk about he's going to have time to develop. You mentioned the coaching staff. If this – here's what I'm saying. There's two possibilities. I think Dabble is a really good quarterback coach. But if they succeed enough this year, he's their future guy, right? But is there a world where they flop this year, they go 4-13, they fire – that regime, and the next group goes in, and they're like, we didn't pick this guy.
They have to, and that's exactly what happened to the Panthers this last season. I mean, they ended up sticking out with what they wanted, and that was Bryce Young. But this is, I think, a last year of the Giants' front office and coaching staff. Now, we do have an update on the Falcons and what they gave up to the Rams for this
what they
pick.
do there.
The Falcons traded they received the 26th overall pick and a third-round pick of this draft. Now, they sent away a second-round pick at 46 to the Rams. The Rams got a 2026 first-round pick and a 2025 seventh-round pick. So, depending on how good the season is for the Falcons next season, the Rams could have a great draft pick depending on how well the Falcons go this next season.
Wow, this is an interesting one. In other news, apparently Taylor lost the Scrabble game after that, 99?
It wasn't 90.
9-point word, and he lost?
It was a 90-point word, but it was the second one of the game. So
Okay, so early, very early lead. So can we get a word from... Are you the Scrabble champ?
Never count us out. Never count us out. He had a 90-point turn on his first round. We were down by over 70 points in the beginning of the game. As a matter of fact, for the first 3 rounds, I was dead last. But Hydra Athletic, you chop one of my head off. And
one of my head off, he says.
3 of them grow back. And you know what? Bad enunciation won't stop a guy like me. Okay, that's what Hydra's about.
You gotta clip that together. It goes on Instagram. You gotta clip that together.
There's only been 4 first-round picks the Giants have taken a QB. One is Daniel Jones. That's the last notable name. Jackson Dart. And I believe, what was it? Was it Phillip Rivers who it was that they ended up trading away? I think that was the Eli Manning trade. but there's only been 4 Giants QBs taken in the first
So
round.
where does Atlanta go here?
Why do you trade up here? Is my
I don't
So they went with
know.
Walker early, so now did they check that off?
Will Johnson's still on the board?
Yeah, Will Johnson be a
I don't
home
see
run.
you trading up for that.
They'd be the winners of tonight if they get Walker and Johnson.
I see Pierce. I could see Pierce heavy here.
James Pierce, I agree with that. Edge rusher or Will Johnson.
James
It's
Pierce Jr.,
Pierce, yeah.
what a call. Wow, I love that. They needed edge bad.
Yeah.
Pierce is a pretty good name. I think
Yeah, I like the name Pierce.
Honestly, kind of gives me vibes of, like a Panthers kind of name. I don't know.
Yeah, it does seem like a Panthers type name. Now going into the college football season this past season, the Panthers were supposed to get Pierce, and being named Pierce myself, I would have loved that. Now I can't even look at a jersey named Pierce because now it's at the Falcons. I could have got a Pierce jersey, but now it's to a rival of Atlanta. Now that brings up Baltimore up on the clock. No idea what they're gonna go here. Can't go running back, I don't think. Like a backup running back. Quarterback, not even a question. Offensive line, I feel like they're good enough, especially because you have to you have to know how the mobile quarterback is, though. You know what I mean?
I think they go secondary. Oh.
No, like I'm saying, you have to know what it's like to block for a mobile quarterback, and I feel like you've already trained these guys on how to block for Lamar Jackson. You can never give up. So I don't think you draft a new rookie who's already scared early on in their career. Go ahead, Riley.
I definitely think they go secondary here because on the defensive line, they ended up going with. We got graphics the whole time. The defensive line, Harmon's off the board. The top 3 D linemen are off the board, so they can't. Kyle is enamored.
If you wear a Hydra t-shirt, you don't realize you have graphics for the past few hours. Buy it.
The Hydra ownership group has been disrespecting crazy on Riley since they walked in.
People who have the Hydra mentality can count people out sometimes, and I will say, Riley, I'm sorely impressed.
Well, we appreciate it. We try to do our best here on the Riley's Red Zone Draft Extravaganza. It's been Yep, Cody. We might have to go back to the big board.
We haven't talked to Cody in a hot
Just
minute.
to ponder my Scrabble victory a little bit more, I think the best word I used was I put a Q down on a double
QI in the corner of the board,
which is chi. Chi, if you guys didn't realize, is actually one of the most commonly used words in Scrabble, and I was lucky enough to get the 10-point value on the Q, and I did. There were I's in the corner, and there was a double next to a Q that was on a double word value. So I was lucky enough to have 33 points from that round. It was very useful.
Well, I just got the tap on the shoulder. We're going to go to Cody's big board. Here we go. Here's the mic.
Yeah, we gotta get some intro music.
Let's get a switch there, Robbie. Robbie, can we get a switch? All right, here we go. So over to the big board. This is an interesting one. James Pierce Jr. This one hypes me up because I had him going early in the mock draft, but he drops down here to 26. This is huge for Atlanta. They needed 2 edge rushers, and they do exactly that. They get Jalen Walker at 15, which was a big drop. And then James Pierce Jr., who a year ago was going to be the number 1 overall pick. He's a guy that, because he's had off-field issues, drops a little bit. But his talent is unprecedented. Riley, follow me over to our early draft boards. So the mock drafts had him way up in the draft. Up here at 17 was Cincinnati, who was in the market for an edge rusher. He drops a little bit down in the draft. Riley, if I'm not mistaken, actually had him dropping down to 32. So I think it makes a lot of sense for Atlanta to go up and get an edge guy. It's exactly what they needed. Let's go back to the guys at the couch.
You got it? Really? Shout out.
Swing back over. The pick is in for the Ravens. We're in a commercial break. Only 6 picks left of the first round. Not sure what's going to happen. We might see the end of trades. We might see somebody come in and get Shador Sanders. Now, with 6 picks left, Cody, do you think the Browns will take Shador in the second round?
Yeah, I think that it's likely. I mean, that was their guy from the get-go. I know months ago, Andrew Barry was saying how much he loved Shador Sanders. They were saying it way back when Shador was being mocked as number 2. So I think that Shador is going to be the guy. I actually think he is potentially the best quarterback in this draft. Like, I think he's just getting so much hate because that's where, like, the tide is flowing, but I don't know that it's necessarily reasonable. He only got hate since the season ended. How could you think that once the season ends, like, how's your opinion changing on him not watching football? Oh my!
The apartment is going to be
Fire.
lit on
I'm
fire
sorry.
as we're playing with
Bugs.
matches on the side.
Whoa!
Riley's red zone's going to make sure that there is not a flame on the side.
Oh my goodness!
Are we
He
good
just
over there,
picked
Riley?
up-
All right, we did see a spark from the match get flung over.
You guys didn't
Across
know,
the room.
but there's actually a magician who came.
That smell. That smell isn't. Rob, don't bring that over here. Jeez, I'm getting them out of here.
All right, we are here with the Rob Bateman playing with matches while we are in the longest commercial break ever.
Yeah, so like one thing about me is my favorite meal is fire. So it's really simple. You just let the match burn and tastes great. Less filling.
And
Okay, now we just have to return to a draft show after that.
that's the craziest thing I've ever seen from a cheesehead.
I didn't think we had magic on this show. I thought Scrabble was the craziest we'd get to. That's crazy.
Thunder down 26 at half. Developments and
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah, I
whoa,
know.
whoa, whoa,
Are
whoa,
we
whoa.
talking NBA right now?
No actual way. Down 20.
Who's
what's
phone
that?
did I
The real MVP is Jokic, but ball knowers know it.
Knicks did get a huge win in Detroit
mine.
to make it a 2-1 series lead for New York. New York took back the home court advantage, and we're finally back here in Green Bay. Huge. Back here in Green Bay, the pick is in for the Baltimore Ravens. Swing back over to Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see what they do here. As I said, I really think secondary. They've got their pick of safety between Starks and Iman Wari. So
Yeah, I
think,
had
this
had
could be
Eman
either
Wari
way.
and Starks both dropping to this point. I had Eman Wari here, but it's whoever they like between Starks and Eman. I'm really concerned because there's fire immediately off
I think,
frame.
Cody, if I'm going to give my analysis,
It's
on
about
this-
to burn Rob's
All right,
hand.
here we go.
okay, well with the
Starks.
pick,
Starks, okay. Starks or Eman Wari we're expecting at safety.
Better, especially with Hamilton and Gurley plays linebacker.
Malachi Starks, they got their guy.
Malachi
They just
Starks,
sat
yeah.
and waited.
Yeah, what's the thought here?
Yeah, so the two safeties, obviously the two top ones, Malachi Starks and Eman Wari. Very different players, of course. South Carolina, Eman Wari, more of a sub linebacker type, a 6'3", a big safety who's going to fill the gaps and going to come downhill hard. The Ravens already have that in Kyle Hamilton, a guy who can assist in the run game. So they're going to get Malachi Starks, still a very talented safety, but not a Kyle Hamilton type player. And Pierce McKnight, the drip man, is back.
We have an all pink suit, pink everything, undershirt, everything. Chain is the only thing that's not pink. Actually, it might be a little bit of a rose gold action. It's a pink diamond or a rose gold, one of the two. I've never seen this be all pink, and it's pale pink at that. It's not hot pink like Travis Hunter was. I kind of like the pale pink more than the hot pink. Now, Kyle Marshak has now tried fire. We've got two guys into the fire kink.
Landon Weaver at home is really hard at work, so he could not come today. Unfortunate.
Yeah, I feel really bad. I am on the co-host of him tomorrow, and I have not done anything to
Pierce McKnight showed up in his sunglasses and said nothing.
I will be grinding it out. I'm not gonna say his name.
Whoa.
I'm not gonna pull his name. Who doesn't?
yeah,
We're not gonna do that. So
I'm not going to do that.
That's crazy. But you're enjoying the draft here. The Lions just made their pick. They're enjoying the draft potentially.
I think the last 10 picks of this draft is probably taking longer than the entire first part of the draft.
Yeah,
which we
definitely.
talk about how fast it was. It became so slow. As
He's here! I had $10 plus 1,000.
Carter Hill appears.
We got another guest in the house.
Early, dude. What's
I'm gonna give this to someone.
Somebody, Carter is in the house. Another guest. Oh my goodness.
I think it is a little bit surprising that he came in with the 28th pick. It's kind of crazy how there's 5 picks left and he decided to show up.
Hey, the late.
Meet, how we doing?
Yeah.
Who is this to?
Well, we got the whole channel. We're live on the Riley's
We're
Red Zone.
live?
Yeah, on
Oh,
Riley's
what's
Red
up,
Zone.
everybody?
Graphics right.
Yeah, we got to get the graphics on here. On the clock of the Lions.
I'm a big fan of Riley Red Zone.
Hey, let's get Carter Hill on
Thrilled to be featured on the channel, everybody.
Get you back to the couch. Here we go.
We're back here on the couch, and the Lions are finally about to pick. The reason that it took so long was Starks took forever to get off the stage. Tyleek Williams with the D tackle from Ohio State.
Okay, now I have
is
to
now
have
in
I have
Detroit.
to have news for everybody. This is the first player that we don't have a graphic for. We made 56 just picked graphics. And Kyle McCord made the list. This did not. Tyler Shugg made the list at quarterback, but unfortunately we didn't. But this is a Lions pick right here, though. Is they've got their guys. They needed some help up front. So, Cody, do you have any knowledge on Ohio State? here?
Yeah, so Tyleek Williams, he's the guy that actually got shot on campus one time. This is a dude, incredible
And you're
toughness.
lecturing me for this being a family-friendly show.
No,
Cody.
it's a true fact.
Players are going
This dude plays so hard, so inspirational. Tyleek Williams is about as tough as they get.
He's really good. And the first point is that he got shot. Not about how he plays, just he got shot. I like this pick here. I like this pick here, Tyleek Williams. Obviously not a first-round grade on him, just because of the plethora of talent at D tackle. And we've seen all four of those guys go tonight in Graham, Grant, Nolan, and Derek Harmon. So Williams here gets pushed up the board, you think, Riley, because of those 4 D tackles that have gone before him. But a good pick here, and like Cody said, he's handled some adversity pretty well, considering he's a first-round pick after being shot.
Well, and I think you mentioned it too, the defensive line position. I don't know if we expected this many to get taken because, I mean, even Derek Harmon's already off the board. He was at what, like 21? Did he go to the Steelers, I think? Yeah, he was already picked, though. But we didn't maybe expect that, and so they have to kind of move up in a premium here. But now it leaves Washington, which is interesting.
In terms of the D tackle, I don't think any of us on our betting boards had the D tackle being the most picked position by any means.
Yeah, exactly right, Pierce. I mean, it's been interesting to see just how highly sought after these D tackles have been tonight. I mean, teams want to win in the trenches, and we're seeing that tonight. A lot of guards, a lot of O tackles, and then a lot of D tackles and edge rushers. That's been the majority of the draft, and I've got to count it up. But there's been a lot more of an emphasis on front guys rather than the perimeter tonight.
Yeah, we'll see if there's a front guy coming here for Washington. Now, they had a pretty good season. I mean, a new head coach, a new rookie quarterback. They made it all the way to the NFC Championship to face the Eagles and eventually got smacked down. But a great turnaround for this franchise after drafting second last year.
Yeah, the biggest turnaround of anybody. As Robbie's still just reliving his Packers drafting his draft pick. But, yeah, what a turnaround. And as I talked about earlier with teams with, the Texans and Washington, if you see your rookie quarterback emerge, you put all your chips in and you see what you can make with it. So I really like what they're doing. They go out now. They make 2 trades, which I thought were interesting for some bigger contracts, but good players. And Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil, they go out and sign Javon Kinlaw. So they've got a lot of additions. Not a ton of losses. They decided to let go of Jonathan Allen. So it's not like they even lost him. They got rid of him. But then I think that here they have their kind of leisure to do whatever they want. Now, edge is the biggest need, but with Pierce Jr. gone, I think that would have been nice for him.
Yeah, that would have been perfect for him. I mean, they after having Chase Young, who then didn't turn out after his rookie season from Ohio State, it's kind of like they have PTSD at that edge position. You got to think, I thought they potentially could trade. The pick is now in. We're going to have to wait till after a commercial break. But they got to hit on this edge if they go edge here because you got to remember, Chase Young, the long blonde dreads from Ohio State, he was there for, 2 seasons before he got shipped off because he had a terrible
He was a
ending.
beast at Ohio State. He seemed like the all-time prospect, just didn't end up panning out. Wasn't quite as good in the NFL. He's still a solid guy, but not the same as he was in college. But I think here Donovan Ezaraku's got to be the favorite for Washington at this point, I would think.
I really like that for sure. Will Johnson is still available at that corner spot if they want, but obviously the injury's got to be worse.
That knee's banged up though.
I would
Ezeraku
say-
screams bust. I watched this man play live inside Lane Stadium, and he got locked up by Parker Clemens, who you will see get drafted in later days, possibly a first-round pick. You never know. But I think Ezeraku is one of those players who can capitalize on opportunity, but I think at the next level, he is a bust.
Now you said edge. I think they
Sonny
go
Weaver
corner.
stuff.
I think they got to go corner. They got completely beat. Like, that was their biggest thing, I think, against the Eagles, besides the tush push that they couldn't stop. They got beat on everything, I swear. They did get good wide receiver being Debo Samuel on the offensive side, but, like, I don't know if their corners can stand against their own division with the Eagles there.
Yeah.
Will Johnson is still on the board.
Yeah, Will Johnson out there.
There must be something that the general public does not
Well,
know.
they
for him
said
to-
Schefter did say it was his injury with his knee.
But
They
this
did
is
say
obviously
that
a
was
bigger
big thing.
concern, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about Mike Green still waiting out there from Marshall? That is interesting.
Dismissed from Virginia football, I believe it was, and ended up at Marshall. So
Yeah, lots to
Interesting.
watch.
Character is a big thing in the NFL. I think we've
Yeah,
learned
Trey
that.
Amos, Cody just threw out. That could be a name at this. Hairston. Yeah, so corner could be the move here. It's really deep at corner. So do they feel Eman Warry's out there? The pick
All
is
right.
in for Washington. Okay, here comes the pick. This feels like a interesting one.
Wow, this is great.
Dorian Strong.
Oh, Josh Connerly on the offensive
Protection
line.
for the rookie.
He is a good pick. Wow,
Hey,
this
I mean, we've mentioned it all night. These teams going big in the trenches. Like, it's shocking to see as many offensive linemen and defensive linemen as we've seen tonight.
Can I say something, Cody, real fast? I think just for everybody listening at home,
I think one of the most rewarding parts about watching the draft on ESPN or NFL Network, depending on your choice, is being panned to the most random places like Auburn, Washington, to see Josh Connerly Jr. see his dream come true as the 29th overall pick taken by the Washington Commanders. Like, how many of you guys expected to be in a living room in Auburn, Washington tonight? I think it's a fair
I
point.
did not.
I
did
I
not.
think it's a fair point. Like, that's cool. Anyway, I love how they put it at 6'4", 5'8" inches. Like, that's very specific. There you go.
Gotta get on bench.
Dylan Gabriel. Okay, good.
Yeah, that leaves the Bills up on the clock, which is fascinating.
Where's your boy Josh Simons? Where's that golden knee of his?
Okay, so let's analyze the Buffalo Bills here a bit. They're a team that definitely needs some depth in the wide receiver core. Khalil Shakir had a big breakout season last year. Obviously, Keon Coleman was their pick last year. They didn't actually have a first rounder as they traded back with the Chiefs to let the Chiefs take Xavier Worthy. So I'm interested to see here what Buffalo does because they're a franchise that typically tends to miss in the first round but hit later.
That child's gradient on the screen.
All right.
Riley, an interesting point to me here is going Connerly over Simmons, right, out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Josh Simmons, we thought was going to go in the first round. He may drop. He may still get taken in the first round. But I think Simmons not going yet is still interesting in Connerly going over him.
Yeah, and we may end up switching to an interview very shortly here, as we may have an appearance apparently. So we're gonna figure it out.
About Golden on his Instagram.
Yeah, so
And it won't stop. It'll be more than 4.
they're very happy with the result of Golden
we got some fish
getting
at our place
selected.
now. We should come over and see.
Okay.
Riley, we went and bought some fish at
Some
PetSmart today.
fish apparently at some other apartments we're gonna have
Like
to
a
check
pet,
out.
not like
Wow.
he got true. Well,
Okay.
I went shoe shopping.
I would not be shocked if we see the Bills go with Will Johnson here.
Yeah,
We've been saying
they
that
need
for
corner.
a few picks in a row, but I mean, you have it on your needs. I completely agree. A corner is definitely something that the Bills will want to capitalize on. So we'll see what they do. Sean McDermott is an experienced coach and tends to make good picks. So
Okay,
we'll see what happens as we.
We're gonna go to a expert on the Commanders. Welcome in Raza to the show, a Commanders fan with the insight. How do you feel about the latest draft choice?
First of all, I got to say this is a great crew. It looks like y'all are having fun.
We miss you, Unc. We miss you.
I don't know how y'all feel about the way. Listen, I like what the Vikings did. I can't say I really like what the Panthers did, but yeah, it's been an interesting draft. So I was not. I will say it was a bit of a curveball. I wasn't expecting them to go tackle, but I don't hate it because in this draft there are certain positions of value that you really got to hone in on. I did think one of those was edge rusher, but the clear cut top tier edge rushers are off the board. Um, so I don't mind tackle at all because you got to beef up the trenches, uh, not just to protect Jaden Daniels, but also you got to beat Philadelphia in this division, and this is the way to do it. But Riley, the main reason that I like this pick a lot is because it solidifies what the offensive line is going to be in 2025. You're going to have Laramie Tunsil playing left tackle. You'll have Nick Allegretti playing left guard. Tyler Biotish is your center. And then there was a question of where does Brandon Coleman, who was a third-round pick last year, slide in as a right tackle or at right guard while Sam Cosmi is recovering from an ACL injury. This kicks him in a right guard. Connerly can start at right tackle. Andrew Wiley can be a rotational guy coming in off the bench. So, yeah, it's not flashy, it's not sexy, but I think it's a very smart pick. After last year where they made a lot of flashy picks, now they're just getting better and continuing to get bigger and bulkier in the trenches, and it's never a bad day to protect a franchise quarterback. So I'm pretty pleased about it.
Well, we'll ask more questions to you in just a moment after the Bills pick is right here. You like the trenches, I know that. So, but also you got to think on the offensive side for the Eagles, they were killing your cornerbacks. I'm shocked you didn't go cornerback there, and we'll get your response right after this if Goodell ever comes out. Like the graphics have been all saying that he is coming out.
Now,
I think that the Bills need to draft a defensive lineman of some kind, whether it's a tackle or an edge rusher. They could also use some help in the back end of their defense, but it's got to be on that side of the ball, probably in the front seven.
Will Johnson is the pick here. I'm still curious as to why he's slid so far, but I think out of all the prospects right now, especially defensively, he's the best on the board.
Yeah, people have talked about like injury concerns and stuff like that, but me personally, I'm a that boy nice type of draft evaluator, and that boy nice. So
We're like tapped in on the same.
The shoes on this guy named Tommy is absolute elite.
Dude, his drip.
I don't
Judge
know the
his drip.
turtleneck, but I like the chains and I like the pocket squares. Actually, pretty Bills worthy too.
Let's go,
Bills Mafia.
I think we're on the same timing of the picks, right?
Draft. The Buffalo Bills select Maxwell Harrison. Let's go.
Wow.
it's a good pick.
They go corner
It's-
and not Johnson.
Okay, so
I love
It's
that
a good pick.
I do
mean-
love the pick. Johnston, we're talking about how he's been sliding. I love a corner right there. I think the Bills definitely needed help in the secondary. I mentioned it before Raza got on, and I think Hairston is a guy who can really bolster their defense from day one.
So back to what were you gonna
Oh, the cornerbacks. Like, would you rather
Yeah.
take him there, or
So-
would you have rather taken Johnson?
So I think in that position, if you really like a guy, you got to go get him. I like Hairston. I thought Johnson was also a good potential option. But you got to understand, I mean, like Marshawn Lattimore played pretty much his entire tenure with the Commanders hurt. He'll be back and be your true number one guy. You bring back Noah Igbenogany. You can have Sanderson play on the outside or the inside. They got Jonathan Jones. They got Will Harris. They like upgraded in the secondary in ways that kind of moved in silence in the offseason. And I think, Marshawn Lattimore will return to being that like true number one lockdown guy. So I did think that corner was an option. I thought safety really would have been an option, whether it was Malachi Starks or even, Nick Emenwari, because of his, like Harrison, just an athletic freak. And, Dan Quinn likes to get those guys on his defense and coach them up. But I would have been cool either way. I mean, there wasn't an edge rusher I felt great about at that position, so I was okay not going edge. And I understand with Hampton off the board, Henderson might have been a little bit of a reach in terms of getting a running back, but I mean, I got no complaints about the direction that they went in.
I'd like to take on Lattimore and add on to it. The only problem is, like, when it comes to penalties, him and A.J. Brown are going to get tangled up, and it was always against him. That's the only downside I see of not taking a quarterback to watch Devontae Smith. Now, we do have a trade to announce. The Eagles received the 32nd, or they traded the 32nd overall pick and 164 to the Chiefs for the 31st overall pick. Cody has a question for you, Raza.
So Raza, Connerly versus Simmons. What do you think the thought process there? I mean, Simmons, some injury stuff. I know you're an Ohio State guy. What do you feel on that pick, Connerly versus Simmons?
I think injuries notwithstanding, Simmons is the best offensive lineman in the class. But I mean, he had an incredible 2023 season. He was even good at San Diego State, and then came to Columbus and was incredible in 2023. Was on an all-American trajectory in 24 before getting hurt. But the problem is that injuries play a factor, right? Will Johnson could have been a top 10 pick in this class if not for injuries. Josh Simmons could have been a top 10 pick in this class if not for injuries. So I think Josh Simmons is a great player, but you got to stick with the guy who, like, is going to be there in training camp. Is going to be there at the start of the season. Especially with a little bit of uncertainty on the line. So I'm not surprised if it was a team maybe like Minnesota has made a lot of moves in the offseason to get their offensive line right. If they could have taken Simmons and sat him for a little bit, but they want to take Jackson, a guy that can plug in instantly. So it's really about what these teams need. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these teams at the back end of the first round, Philadelphia or Kansas City, were to take him because you can never get enough help on the offensive line, especially Kansas City. But it's just a matter of some teams can't overlook injuries to that extent. I'm really interested to see what Philadelphia does here, because it's like they don't have any holes. So if it's best player available, it's just a matter of who's the best player on their board.
Yeah, and Raza, one more thing. Did you say Simmons was the best lineman in the draft, you thought?
I thought, like I said, injuries notwithstanding, I had him as the third tackle on my board. But I do think that he is the best pound for pound offensive lineman in the class. I had Membu as my first tackle, Campbell 2, and Simmons 3. That's no disrespect to a lot of other guys in the class like Connerly or even like Gray Zabel, who I do think will be a guard in the NFL. I just, pound for pound, he's such an incredible talent, and he's with his length and his athleticism and his physicality. It's just hard to take a guy. I had him as maybe the 13th or 14th best prospect in the class. He's not going to go in the top 15 coming off an injury like he had. As a big guy in your last year, getting injured in the middle of the season, and it's a bad knee injury. Like it's just difficult for people to come off like that.
I mean, big trend we've seen tonight, Raza. I mean, if we have to let them go, we can. But big trend I've seen tonight is a lot of trench guys, a lot of D tackles, offensive line guys. What do you think that is? You think it's just team needs? But I've seen even teams that not even necessarily a team need have gone in that direction tonight.
I think it's just a good. It's a good line draft, whether that's offensive line, defensive line. I mean, you got a lot of big, beefy defensive tackles. Obviously, it's an extremely deep edge class. You've got 4 or 5 tackles that are worthy of getting drafted in the first round. There are some good guards. Like I said, Donovan Jackson, Gray Zabel. I even think Jared Wilson as a center is a guy who's worthy of a first-round pick, but probably won't hear his name called till tomorrow. So I think it's just, a draft that's lacking in skill position guys and is really heavy and deep on offensive and defensive lines.
Well, thank you very much for taking your time, Raza, our Commanders and overall draft expert. We appreciate you making an appearance on the program, and we may have to do this again. Really quick, Carter's got one last thing to say.
Raza, I just wanted to say hello. This is quite the surprise.
This is a surprise, Carter, and I hope you guys are doing well. Looks like you guys got quite the setup, and I appreciate you having me on.
Bro, here's Kyle, too.
Raza, one last thing for Ohio State. You have 4 in the last 4 drafts.
Hi, Kyle.
Ohio State wide receivers have been picked in the top 20.
Get this. We're playing. Oh,
You need your mic, yeah.
we're playing Scrabble, right?
Mhm.
Taylor has he puts down like foxes and veils or something like that. Oh, bevels.
S on the triple.
S on the triple. He got 90 points off that, right? My opening round was 9 points. So Taylor was leading by 90 points in the beginning of the Scrabble game. I came back to win by 4.
Dang.
One of the
Taylor, you should
achievements of my
be
entire
embarrassed. That's a crazy choke. That's an
Yeah, that is a
all-time choke.
crazy choke.
Kyle.
All right, love you,
See
buddy.
you,
Miss
Raz.
ya.
See you guys.
Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your draft night.
Of course, you guys as well.
All right. Wow. Yeah, that'll go. We'll go to the clock. Okay.
Big fan and should be analyst Landon Weaver, who's watching, says he needs a group opinion on Shador Sanders right now and where he stands. Does anyone want to start?
I think I can talk about this one because I think he's going to go to the Browns, right? I think Shador makes the most sense to Cleveland at number 33. They're going to trade up because Philly nor Kansas City is going to take a quarterback. The only reason Shador would go in the first round is if someone really wants him that bad. But it doesn't seem like that, Pierce.
Yeah, I don't see Kansas City going for a backup QB anytime soon, which Mr. Landon Weaver is watching. Philly's not going quarterback, so yeah, it's going to fall down to Cleveland. Cleveland's definitely going to be landed. I will be working on the script right after this, I promise. I just had to let you know that. But yeah, I think we are going to go transition to the big board. Shador to the second round.
Yeah, and it just seems like no one has the need enough to go up and trade for Shador in the first round. All right, let's take a look back at the big board. Trenches, we mentioned it all night. We just talked about with Raza, been big. Josh Connerly here at Washington is the one that stands out to me. Still no Will Johnson. He's been a super interesting one tonight. Out of Michigan, he slid big time. Eagles about to make their pick. Just one quick point on Hairston. He's a great lockdown corner out of Kentucky. He'll be big for Buffalo. Let's go back to the couch.
The pick is in for the Eagles, and they will be taking, I believe, the first only linebacker on the board. Jahad Campbell, I think is how you pronounce it.
Campbell.
Jahad
Wow.
Campbell.
Linebacker out of Alabama. Had him mocked way earlier in this first round. Jahad Campbell is a dog. The first true linebacker taken tonight. Been mostly edge guys. Jalen Walker is the only other kind of hybrid linebacker, but Jahad Campbell, the first true linebacker, slid a little far. This is just the Philly doing what they do best, adding up on what they already got in a talented linebacker core.
Yeah, I think this is yet again a situation of the Eagles just waiting it out, get the best guy available. I'll get the graphic up here. But I think this is just a home run pick again. Like they did, though, talk with Kansas City, obviously, to trade up one spot. Kansas City is able to maybe pick up. Do we know what the trade details were on that?
Trade details was they flip-flopped the first-round picks, and I think it was 164 of this draft was the pick that went to the Chiefs. Now, the pick is in for the final pick of the night in the first round. We'll see what the Chiefs go with here. They usually, last year they had the 32nd, I believe, and they went wide receiver. Am I correct with Xavier Worthy?
They ended up trading up to go get him.
I remember that vividly as a Panthers fan, thinking I could potentially get Worthy on my team in the second round, but then the Chiefs decided to steal that hope away at the last moments. But it's been an interesting night, Riley. It's been fun. We have, I think, a total of 8 people as the max capacity.
That's pretty good. Well,
10 if you count your roommates. We hit double digits in person plus 2 online Zoom members.
We did. It's been a pretty complete stream overall. We appreciate you taking your time back home. Yeah, we appreciate those at home taking the time out this Thursday night to enjoy the draft. The last pick here, Chiefs will be on the clock. We're going to be losing some of our guests. It was a solid evening for a Scrabble champion, a Packers fan as well.
Now, this pick will take quite a minute now because the Philly man that just got
Jahad
drafted,
Campbell.
will be still
so
on the stage.
let's break that down to the 2 Packers fans enjoying it out here.
Hydra Athletic. Love being doubted. Cut me off, 2 grow back. Let's go.
Yep.
Hydra
Shout
Founders
out.
Collection available.
now.
Available online now.
If this was a Hydra shirt, I'd feel awesome.
Let's talk. Who's left in the green room that has not been picked? Shador,
Shador?
Milrow.
Shador's not there. Shador's
Milrow's there.
Shador didn't
And with
show
John Campbell gone, is anybody else there?
I think it's just Jalen Milrow.
Well, and Shador. Oh, Shador's not there.
Shador's not there. Yeah.
Will Johnson's there. Yeah,
Could you imagine Shador waiting an entire night without being picked? Shador Sanders with Dion right next to him. I could not imagine the ego.
Yeah, we're gonna quick go to the mock. Yep.
The mock draft one last time.
You guys both have edge rushers here?
Yeah. So this is just a look to see how it's played out thus far. I think some of the most interesting guys, Eman Wari, still on the board, hasn't been taken in this first round. Wasn't the first safety to go off the board. Instead, it was Starks. It's gone mostly to plan this first round. Most of it makes sense. The biggest one, Will Johnson, had him all the way up here at 13. He has dropped, still not taken. You got to wonder if KC goes with him late in the first round. Might make sense. But KC can really go whatever they want. They have the ability to pick whichever guy they like. They can just go best available at this point. You would expect that's what Kansas City is going to do.
Yeah, let's go back. I was hating on Josh Simons earlier. I looked at your guys' mock drafts. It would make sense here for Kansas City to get a high upside tackle because, of course, their O-line, it's pretty solid. You know, Mahomes was kind of running for his life in the Super Bowl, so they could look to beef up the trenches, but not immediately, if you know what I mean. Josh Simmons can sit and wait a little bit, let that knee injury that I keep talking about heal. So that wouldn't be a crazy pick. I look out for the Boston College defensive end as well. I think the Chiefs need help in both trenches, defensive and offensive, so I think the pick will be in there, following suit to what most teams have done tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a great take. I think they need help in the trenches. Ezaraku out of Boston College would be good. Simmons, yeah, there's just questions around the injury. It seems like teams are saying safe of him. But I think they're in a position that Raza mentioned earlier where they won't need him immediately. Riley, don't you think in a way it would make sense?
Yeah, offensive line is their biggest need, but they go out, they signed Jalen Moore from San Francisco, which honestly I think was a little bit of an overpay based on what he's done previously, but they're kind of betting that he's continuing to develop as a player, but he's at least serviceable. I think that you're exactly right. They need to get more help up front. Willingly trading away Joe Thuney was a move. I'm just going to say that. It's a choice. He's had to fill in at tackle last season when needed. He's a star guard, though. But they make that choice, and they go out and they bring in Jalen Moore. But otherwise, I think that line is just a big weakness here. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up going that direction. Well, here we go. Goodell is going to make our final selection of the evening. And it's Simmons, the offensive tackle. So they do it again. Everyone alluded to it, but here they go ahead. They take a really solid player that now they can let develop, and I think it's a really good landing spot for him.
Develop is a key word there. The only issue is they're going to probably have to throw him in pretty quick there in Kansas City, so it's kind of going to be hard to develop because there's a lot of pressure that comes on with being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, there's going to be high standards. The Chiefs are always expected to make it back to the Super Bowl, if not winning the Super Bowl. So, but then you got a guy who is a national champion. So then you got a winner on your outside tackle. So I think that's the best part of that pick right there. It's not just an offensive lineman; it's a winner, and who just won the national championship with Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, now that we're at the end of the draft, what are the key takeaways of who won tonight's draft?
I think there's one clear winner, and it's the Green Bay Packers. I mean, you finally take the receiver after 23 years away from it. You take a guy in Matthew Golden, who Steve Smith Sr. had as his number one receiver. He's got a pretty good eye for talent, I'd say. So what do you think about Steve Smith? You like him, Pierce?
Oh, I gotta love Steve.
Yeah, so he had Matthew Golden as his number one receiver. I trust his eyesight a little better than Robert Bateman's, who didn't love the pick, of course. No shade to Rob. I told him he'd love the pick in a few years, and I think the Cheeseheads come away with this one with an all-world talent, someone who can really make a difference right off the bat, and I think he could be the difference maker and put the Packers finally over the hump. And like I mentioned, what a slap in the face to Aaron Rodgers. Finally, you give Jordan Love the receiver in the first round.
I don't know if I have a key winner, but I do have a few losers.
Okay.
One of them being the Chargers. I don't like running back there. It doesn't make sense to me, in my personal opinion. Also, I think it's a little much for Travis Hunter to trade up and lose a next year first round or
for the Jaguars because you're not really having anything going with you. You're not in contention. Like, this isn't a big enough move to put you over that edge because, I mean, their division is one of the worst in football. Maybe the NFC South might be taking that crown, but the South on both sides is pretty awful. So they could make a run, but I don't see Travis Hunter making enough of an impact to make them a playoff team.
Yeah.
Klaus, you wanna finish up your thoughts first?
Well, let's go to the board.
Come step into my office. Come
Yeah,
step
let's
into
go
my
one.
office. Someone who's actually been paying attention all night and knows what they're talking about. The winner tonight is Atlanta. You have to look at them. They got two guys they wanted, two edge guys. James Pierce, a great talent. A year ago, he was going to be the number 1 draft pick. Spent an extra year in college, had some off-the-field trouble, but he goes to them at 26. He's about as talented as they get. They also got Jalen Walker. He was slated to be taken 8th by Carolina. He slides all the way down to 15. They get Jalen Walker. They get James Pierce Jr. They get a pair of edge guys. An absolute great night in Atlanta. I question the Giants tonight, They got Abdul Carter, who they wanted at number 3, a great edge guy, but you already got 2 quarterbacks. You signed 2 quarterbacks this offseason, and then you go out and bring in Jackson Dart as well. It just seems like a little bit of uncertainty on the side of the Giants. And I also got to give some love to my Cleveland Browns. The trade was great tonight on their part. They only got Mason Graham, which isn't the best possible pick. You could have gotten Travis Hunter at 2. I get it. But you got to be happy with gaining that extra first-round pick next season, and you upgraded on your picks this season on top of that. So to only move down 3 slots and then add on an extra pick for basically free, just 3 picks down tonight, it's phenomenal. Go ahead.
So you're telling me you like which trades did you like of the first round? What was your top trade? Would you say?
I think the
Rank them in order, actually.
I think the Browns with Jacksonville was probably the top trade, and then Atlanta's trade was also right up there.
Okay, but what about the teams that traded in aggression, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, Atlanta Falcons, or the New York Giants? What would you go there? Or, honestly, I think they, in some way, they're all losers.
I actually don't. I wouldn't say Atlanta. I think Atlanta. I think Atlanta did a good job.
That one I actually kind of like that one of all of them because they didn't give up too much. Yeah. But I think it's too much for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's 3 notable names at the Giants with not a lot of to work with other than that. Atlanta, they did need an edge. I think that's a good pick for them. I just don't know. Trading up for James Pierce was the move when they could have potentially got somebody else later in the second round.
I think it makes sense because I think you want some star power. Atlanta is a team that needs star power at the moment because it feels like they're just a couple players away. Like Atlanta at this point, they're a good team. They have some quality guys. It feels like they're just a couple key pieces away, and I think trading up here makes sense. I agree. I think Jacksonville trading up was an absolute abomination. They gave up way too much to go to number 2. You're moving up 5 picks. I know that's your guy, Travis Hunter, but man, you can't give up that first-round pick and then upgrades to the Browns this year.
I think a lot of it is the Twitter. Like they said, the pick itself for Jacksonville is great, but the trade is a little bit questionable. Yeah. Carter, go ahead.
Cody, I do agree with you about Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is a great player. Abomination is an interesting word choice there, but what I will say is, to give up the first-round pick for next year, when arguably he could be in the top 10 next year too. So, was it worth it to trade up 3 picks? I don't know. But I do want to conclude the night with this. Brett McMurphy tweets out, weird stat. Shedeur Sanders is the first player in college football history to have his number retired and not be selected 5 days later in the NFL Draft's first round. There you go.
Let me get you some finishing thoughts, folks. Trenches, the name of the game tonight. So, Donovan Jackson, a super important one for Minnesota. It wasn't someone that we had necessarily over on the big boards, but Donovan Jackson going to make a huge difference in the trenches. And the only reason that happened is because Gray Zabel, he goes at 18. It was a huge night for linemen. And that's kind of what this draft revolved around. Throughout the first round, we saw a lot of offensive tackles, a lot of guards, a lot of defensive tackles. Trenches, huge story of the night. Quarterbacks, not really. Jackson Dart, an interesting one at 25, but we'll have to wait to see Shedeur Sanders get drafted.
I want to go my final thoughts here and my predictions for day 2. I just want to talk about quarterbacks real quick. I'm going to show the camera to Cody Wagner because tomorrow, Cody Wagner, your quarterback is Shedeur Sanders. I believe the Browns select him with the first overall pick in the second round. And I think the Steelers are going to wait and get their guy in Jalen Milroe, who they really fell in love with, both in his pre-draft workouts and in his interviews they had with him. So I think Steelers, Milroe, Shedeur Sanders to the Browns, and some other quarterbacks could go tomorrow as well. Those are my final thoughts. Pierce, anything else?
Also, running backs. Only 2 running backs and 2 quarterbacks were chosen. I mean, Cody's kind of saying it here. We got, here is the first one, Ashton Genty, and then you got the guy from UNC at the Chargers. I did say that was a loss, but it's kind of shocking that Henderson did not go for Iowa State. There was the tendency years ago, it's kind of gone out of the way since Saquon and Christian McCaffrey, 2 top 5 picks, that you don't draft a running back in the first round. I think we're kind of pushing that narrative once again, especially with the market and free agency, is you pay a guy for maybe 1 or 2 years, but nothing more. The running back market is kind of strange now.
Yeah, and I was almost even shocked. I think Hampton's even a little bit of a reach at 22. Yep. I think that running backs, there's just not a lot of value in them anymore. You're going to have a running back for 5 years, then you're going to have to go get a new guy. Cleveland's experiencing that right now with Nick Chubb. As good as he was, as amazing as he was, I love Nick Chubb. The whole city of Cleveland loves Nick Chubb. But he was only quality for 5 years with the Browns. Then unfortunate injuries, and now he's in free agency and having trouble getting picked up there. So I think that running backs, we're just starting to see a downgrade unless you really are that guy, and Ashton Genty is really that guy.
And you kind of look at it right there. One last thing on the running backs. You got 2 running backs who came from schools that weren't really Boise State was relevant, but not a top-tier school in terms of football besides
At
Boise
least
State.
historically, yes.
Yeah, with Power 4, Power 5, Boise State's not up there.
Yeah.
You look at a non-Power 5, Ashton Genty, he was the team in everything. Hampton, I guess he was the team, but UNC wasn't relevant, and they were a Power 4 team. So it's that's a big difference in the same almost situation, if you will.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Let's go back to the couch. We'll wrap up with some final thoughts.
Close it
Riley
up.
Klaus, you've been putting in great work all night. Let's hear some of your final thoughts.
I kind of echo what everyone said. I'm almost going to look back at the board quick here. I do think the trade up
you
for
go
Hunter.
Up in front of the board?
No, we're going to keep it at that. We're going to keep it at the couch. But we're going to keep it at the couch. But yeah, I think getting Travis Hunter at 2 makes sense. But the trade up is what is definitely brutal there. Otherwise, went chalk for a little bit. I like Teteroa McMillan to the Panthers personally. I enjoy that. I think the Saints
You don't think it was reaching for McMillan?
No, not at all. I think that the Saints staying put, taking Banks, that they thought was a good available player, also solid choice. Going down the board, I do think I echo what Cody said. Atlanta stole his draft away, getting 2 guys, especially if Pierce, whatever concerns were on him for Tennessee are behind him, then you can go ahead. They just absolutely stole 2-star edge rushers. Indianapolis had if they really did like Tyler Warren, fell right into their lap, exactly what they needed. Then looking at the second half of the board, I'm in agreement. It's Hampton maybe was a reach at that point, but they like to run the ball. Shamar Stewart to Cincinnati.
They like to run the ball, but that much.
Yeah,
I
know. It's questionable.
The
it's
Chargers
questionable.
have a lot of running backs like we talked about before.
Yeah.
The Hampton pick.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, exactly. They did. They go to. He just feels they went double edge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jalon Walker.
They
is
needed
kind
it
of,
bad. They had
We're
nobody.
talking Falcons, right? We're talking Falcons, right?
Yep.
That Jalon Walker can play linebacker
he can
as
be a
well.
hybrid.
He's a hybrid guy. Unbelievable talent. I can't believe he fell to 15.
Well, my bigger thing, I think Atlanta read the board really well and saw that Pierce was slipping, and they probably didn't plan on getting 2 guys, edge rushers, but they said, shoot, he's available. Let's go up and get him. And lastly, for me.
How about just your thoughts real quick? We're moving down the board. Jahad Campbell, he didn't get taken until late.
Really.
He was the first true linebacker, Riley.
Yeah, for sure. The linebacker spot, only one, and that's, we're probably going to wait till we see the guy from UCLA for a little bit. But I want to highlight Malachi Starks to the Ravens. I love that pick. They didn't even have to move up for him. I think he should have gone higher. He's a dog. He was a dog, and so I think, is going to continue to be a really good player in that secondary.
Circle back to the only safety taken was Starks, but I want to circle back to the Eagles pick because it's sort of a rich get richer thing. When the linebacker is not really a high priority draft pick, an elite linebacker like Campbell can fall right into a team like the Eagles' lap where they just keep getting better. Like,
Every
how are you
year.
going to stop the Philadelphia Eagles? It seems that these teams like the Chiefs, where Karl Loftus fell to them at the end of the first round, when there's players that teams just don't need and aren't high on the priority list, it seems that if the Super Bowl contenders just keep on getting these players that are really good, and I wouldn't be surprised if Campple is one of the best linebackers in football for the next couple of years.
It feels like every year those teams, as if they're doing a mock draft simulator, do what the fan does, and they see the top available guy, and it somehow falls to them every year.
Yeah, because they have that luxury. They can just take the top available guy because they don't really have team needs. Like Philadelphia, what's your team need? Who are you going to tell me is your team need?
But their team need, they just won the Super Bowl, and more on the Chiefs too. Raza thought that Josh Simons was the number one tackle in the entire class, and he just might be after he gets a little healthier, and the Chiefs have their franchise tackle once again.
Yeah, all things to watch. We want to say thank you for watching and listening to this 2025 NFL Draft Extravaganza. It was a 3-year hiatus for the Riley's Red Zone NFL Draft live stream, but we're back. Probably could be back in the future. Shout out all the guests that popped up, and we'll be back next year with even more NFL Draft action. We almost hit midnight, it looks like. So Eastern time. I know we might have some Central Time viewers back there that they've still got a little bit left to go on their Thursday night before it's maybe the best day of the week, Friday. That's for another time that we debate that. But for now, we say thank you for watching this edition, and enjoy the rest of your